Alright, so if you've used the internet at any point in the last few years, it means at one time or another, you've probably heard the name Hasan Piker. Hasan, who also goes by Hasanabi, is 34 years old, he's one of online politics' largest creators, and he's known for taking controversial far-left positions and being very tall.
You are tall. He's a tall guy. Bye!
Hasan is best summarized as being very passionately progressive, anti-capitalist, pro-Palestinian, and overall just having somewhat radical takes that go against the grain. And he can occasionally make comments that have a tendency to make a lot of people very upset.
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it. We fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit. We did.
Over the duration of his career online, while he does have some support around him, Hasan has gradually become public enemy #1 for a lot of creators and their fan bases. He draws some pretty intense criticism from not just the right, but also the left. And lately, he's even becoming more and more of a regular target for a bunch of apolitical idiot slop channels.
Hey, Hasan, you crying stupid bitch. Brother, you are the biggest piece of shit I have ever seen. Shut your fucking mouth.
The attacks on Hasan range from him encouraging violence, to him being an anti-Semite, to him simply being kind of stupid, which is probably kind of true.
I don't know which is which, dude. Doesn't know where Yemen is? I think Nope. 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 Got it.
Now, this video is not really about debunking every argument against him, but a lot of the attacking is coming from pretty dishonest places. Like the time people claimed that Hasan urged his viewers to kill US Senator Rick Scott. Here's what he said.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott.
This clip got Hasan suspended, and many to this day claim that he was issuing a death threat towards a US senator. The issue there is that Hasan is clearly talking to US Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who's making remarks about how much he wants to combat Medicare fraud.
The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party.
So Hasan is clearly saying, Mike Johnson, if you actually cared about Medicare fraud, you'd do the opposite of what you've done with Rick Scott because of how egregious of an offender he is. Rick Scott is pretty well known for conducting one of the largest healthcare fraud schemes in US history when he was chief executive at Columbia. So to say Hasan was urging his viewers to kill Rick Scott is an outright lie, and to say it was any kind of death threat would also be pretty fucking stupid. So that's just one example of what are very common dishonest attacks on Hasan. There are, of course, genuine criticisms to be made about him, and we'll go over a few of them later. But those tend to get lost in this sea of total hysteria. The widespread derangement that people have for this guy has over time devolved into attacks on anyone he associates with, calls for him to be deplatformed, and people have even become pretty chill with the US government violating Hasan's First Amendment rights. No, I'm not saying you can't dislike the guy, I don't give a shit. The dude preaches socialism and drives a Porsche. Like, I get it. I'm not a Hasan fan, I've literally never even watched a single stream of his, so personally I don't care. But the tendency for people to lose their minds and just make shit up whenever Hasan is involved left me wondering, how did we get here? Ethan Klein, also known as H3H3, is 40 years old. He has a massive following on YouTube, and he's a pretty significant figure in the history of content creation, going back to the early days of React videos.
You know, I read a book a day not to show off, it's again about the knowledge.
By the way, he's got a really interesting technique for reading books, and when he says he reads one book a day, well, let's just say we'll have to redefine the word read.
Have someone else read it for you.
That's awesome. Along with his own content, Ethan's also well known for winning a landmark copyright infringement suit in 2017 filed by Matt Haas, whose video Ethan reacted to. That case was one of the first examples of fair use for React content being successfully argued in court. In 2021, Ethan and Hasan started a podcast together called The Leftovers. It was a political and cultural talk show with a left-leaning slant, and the show was a huge success. Until October of 2023, when a Hamas-led terror attack targeted Israeli citizens. After the attack, Ethan and Hasan went live for an emotional episode discussing the events.
As a father, it's even hard to talk about. This dude was holding his infant. It was like a year old.
Ethan is an Israeli-American dual citizen and feels passionately about Israeli geopolitics. He's also married to Ela, who was born in Israel and served in the IDF. The Kleins actually even met each other in Israel. Hasan, on the other hand, is passionately in support of Palestine, and the resulting ideological differences between the two led to some on-air friction following the start of the conflict.
Oh, stop. Their timing matters.
No,
Let's not be obtuse about this. It's just this one point I'm trying to make. You can't cheer on Hamas, dude.
You know what I said on the day of the occupation.
I know you don't, but like we're being a little silly.
In late October of that year, Ethan announced that the Leftovers podcast would go on hiatus.
I do feel like I'm probably going to pause Leftovers for the time being. Because you know what I mean? It's just, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
And after 61 episodes, the Leftovers podcast never came back. This is when the divide started to form between Ethan and Hasan. Early on, for instance, Ethan would take issue with some things that Hasan's chat was saying about him, and he criticized him for not moderating it more effectively.
Do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
Moderate that at all?
I have not looked at my chat at all, but you
I
have
just
to
opened it, but don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about me?
There's 32,000 people in here right now.
I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant,
Ethan,
fuck?
I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when you're...
To save us time, let's not get too bogged down with specifics. In a nutshell, over the course of the next year, the divide between Ethan and Hasan grew larger and larger. Ethan and the H3 community believed that Hasan was promoting extremist, potentially dangerous viewpoints, while Hasan and his community believed that Ethan was becoming more Zionistic over time and subtly spreading pro-Israel propaganda. The two of them would exchange jabs for months, with Ethan commonly taking to Instagram to voice his grievances, like attacking Hasan's moderator and smaller creator Frogan for her radical views, and Hasan in turn would occasionally respond on stream.
There's a difference between anti-Semitism and people coming to the assumption that Ethan might be defending Israel a little bit and therefore might have some Zionist opinions because of the past 12 months centering himself as he looks to ban prominent pro-Palestinian voices off the platform with ridiculous smears that they are being anti-Semitic.
While all this is going on, around the end of 2024, Ethan also began discussing a perceived anti-Semitism problem on Twitch. According to Ethan, Hasan and his associates are prime examples of anti-Semitic content being unfairly allowed on the platform, and he called for Dan Clancy, Twitch's CEO, to step down. We'll talk about this part more later, but I did want to note that this is around the same time that Dan Saltman, CEO of Redact, began his campaign against Twitch's perceived anti-Semitism problem. By the start of 2025, tensions had gotten pretty high. To the extent that the H3 show covered politics, their conversation centered more so around Israel and anti-Semitism rather than the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
It feels like where it was during the war and the Holocaust. It's reminiscent of that time.
I've always said, like, I have no idea how the Holocaust could happen. It just makes no sense. And now I see it. I see how it happened.
And Ethan would also regularly take to Instagram to go to war with H3 Snark, a subreddit dedicated to A-logging and talking shit about primarily Ethan and Hila. And in January, Ethan released the Content Nuke, a 102-minute-long deconstruction of Hasan's content, including further allegations of Hasan and those around him being anti-Semitic and essentially promoting terrorism. After the Content Nuke, things started to go off the rails. In March, a pair of noteworthy things happened to Ethan. On one occasion, he had a pair of human skulls ordered online and sent to his house. And on another, a CPS call was made to his house after Ethan shared a story on the H3 podcast about his family contracting a parasite.
This morning, we got a visit from Child Protective Services. I told this story on the show a few weeks ago about how when we adopted Olive, she had Giardia. And then Sonny started having diarrhea, so we suspected he might have Giardia. Seeing as that he's an infant, he's crawling around, he's putting everything in his mouth, etc.
Then in June of last year, Ethan revealed that he had registered the Content Nuke with the US Library of Congress, and that he's filing copyright infringement lawsuits against Frogan, Denims, and Kaceytron, 3 Hasan-adjacent creators who, according to Ethan, reacted to the nuke in a non-transformative way. And that's kind of loosely where we're at. What started as a political disagreement has spiraled into 3 copyright lawsuits, a campaign to financially harm Twitch and by consequence its creators, and a long, bitter, and kind of pathetic feud where you will be forced to pick a side. But before you pick a side, while you may feel some sympathy for Ethan because of the very real harassment that he's faced, or maybe you just agree with his takes on Israel or anti-Semitism, we have to make sure we don't forget about the most important thing in the whole situation, which is that when it comes to Ethan's narrative, this is all complete bullshit. If you can look past some of the political disagreement and analyze the Ethan and Hasan conflict in its entirety, it's pretty clear that Ethan is an insecure, neurotic, vindictive liar. And his crusades against Twitch and Hasan and subreddits, these are all just dishonest missions to silence people who are saying things about him that he doesn't like. What's worse is that this clown show is being encouraged and facilitated by a host of hacks and other liars around Ethan that have attached themselves to him, sometimes just to further their own dishonest agendas against Hasan. Now, normally I wouldn't really care that much if a bunch of lying freaks all band together to help each other out with their controversies. That's kind of to be expected. But what elevates my distaste for all this stuff, and what should elevate yours, is that standards of behavior that have long been widely held on the internet are being totally abandoned, all in the name of Hasan Bad. Historically, things like lying, harassment, calls to the platform, or abusing copyright would get you absolutely torn to shreds. But when it comes to Ethan and all his yes men, everyone all of a sudden seems to be okay with those things. And it's just because of who's on the other side. Ethan Klein isn't the originator of the mass derangement about Hasan, but his situation has given some of the most annoying drama sloptubers the perfect vehicle to pretend to have political opinions, escalate their grudges, and in the process, smash all standards of behavior for political and commentary creators. So today we're going to recognize some of these creators for their contributions to this online culture shift. One where truth doesn't matter, there are no bad tactics, only bad targets, and anything goes as long as you win. These are the Weaselly Little Liar Awards. Starting with Ethan Klein.
This is a lie.
Yeah, it does not look.
This is a disgusting fucking lie. And here on the H3 show, we tell the truth. And soon we're going to be able to do that. So I'm really very grateful and excited for that. Because I am honest to a fault, Dan. I'll have you know.
Yeah, no, that I'm aware of.
I would never, I don't lie, but some people do lie. Name one thing I've ever lied about. You can't. I'm allergic to lying.
Bro, I'm truthful in every fucking conceivable way. I feel like I'm honest to a fault. I'm not a liar. I don't believe in lying. I would never lie to you. I've never lied. I am not a liar. I feel like I've never lied about anything in my whole career.
I wish you were more of a liar. It would probably save us a...
When I started researching for this video, I already knew that Ethan had been dishonest about some things throughout his feud with Hasan, but I was a little surprised to learn just how long of a history Ethan has of dishonesty. A very clear and repeated pattern of it, in fact. Now, you'll very rarely catch Ethan in a direct, overt lie. What happens far more commonly is that Ethan will kind of just say things. He makes statements about other people or ongoing situations as though they're a fact, when he has no evidence to be saying the thing that he's saying. For instance, back in 2021, there was this whole falling out between Ethan and his former podcast co-host, Trisha Paytas. During the breakup, Ethan made this tweet where he claimed that Trisha had accused him of sexually harassing her, which it kind of gives off this, like, I'm being falsely me too'd kind of vibe, right? But in the video Ethan's responding to, which is this one, Trisha doesn't really say anything like that. This video is pretty much just about Ethan bringing up topics like her sexual assault, medical history, and other things that supposedly triggered her. Trisha responded to Ethan on Twitter by saying she didn't even think he had watched her video, and given how far off he was, it's entirely possible that Ethan just read the title and went nuts. The only time Trisha even remotely approaches suggesting sexual harassment was when she complained that Ethan was sexualizing her beauty products.
None of it felt right. Being sexualized, my skincare being sexualized, you know, none of it felt right.
After Ethan watched the video, here's how he responded to that claim.
Did she say I sexually harassed her? No, she didn't say that, but she said I was making everything sexual. I was making her beauty products sexual. I feel like she really tried her app. She tried to ruin my life, my reputation, my business.
And this is what Trisha was referring to.
This is your self-love in a bottle.
Why was that sexual?
What?
Look at you, you're like, oh, like it was like a money shot.
Every
Watch how
morning
she
and
squirts
night.
this shit.
This is your self-love.
Oh, yeah. Also kind of phallic.
What?
You say, Trish, what's the secret? And then you show like it looks like a cock. What? Balls and cock.
What are you talking about?
Look, 2 balls and a cock. It's like a giant phallus.
Oh my God. It's the products in the thing.
Bro, it's literally a penis.
I'll come
Is
to
there
your face.
jizz in your makeup?
If I had a makeup wipe, I'd take
Is
my
there
makeup off.
semen in your makeup?
Huh? What?
Is there semen in your makeup?
No.
I don't even care that Ethan did this. I mean, yeah, that looks like dick and balls. But Ethan acted so disgusted at the idea that he would do something like that, and said that Trisha must have been trying to ruin his reputation. The irresponsibility of Ethan's reaction is likely what led to many H3 fans believing that Trisha accused him of actual sexual assault, and they might still believe that to this day. You might call what Ethan did here a false accusation.
He's lying.
But while Ethan did acknowledge that Trisha didn't accuse him of sexual harassment, would it really have been that crazy if she had?
Well, a ton of the comments said things like talking about my mom's breasts and asking if I was breastfed because they heard in a previous episode Ethan talking about my mom's breasts in detail.
Her mommy milkers.
Yes, right. To quote Ethan, I believe.
So I was hoping you could help me.
I can help you. I'd love to help you,
Okay.
actually. I've actually dreamed of helping you. What happened to your hand, buddy? Jerking off too hard? Is that a masturbation injury? She has tried to penetrate him with a strappy.
Stop. Don't need to bring it up all the time.
Well, not all the time. It's what, my third time since I
Third
learned
time
about
in
it?
3 days.
There's this guy, Brad the Bull, who's like railing his wife, but that's neither here nor there.
Hasan's the type of dude who watches himself in the mirror when he has sex. That's funny.
Okay, that was weird when you said that.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Well, I'm sure, but
it's like
made me uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't like it.
Just a lot of volume. Because when you're eating pussy, you need to make sure that.
Oh, you went to Italy for how long?
4 weeks.
You went to Italy. You guys stayed in touch. No strange Italian dick, I'm assuming.
No.
Have you seen your dad naked? Does Ian walk around naked? If you had privacy, would you walk around naked? Butt-ass naked?
By the way, Anissa reached out. She wants to meet at the Motel 6 tonight at 11.
Excuse me?
Because I'm going to fuck him for her? Because she's the cuck?
You know, the first time that you made the Anissa the cuck joke, it hit
what
really
happened?
good.
Well,
And
what
I feel like each subsequent one, we're getting further and further.
What was wrong with the one with that? I thought that
it just sounded weird, kind of creepy.
Okay, if you're gonna constantly joke around like that with people you know personally, including your own employees, you don't get to react like this when you think one of them might be accusing you of sexual harassment. Anyway, that was just one of what might have been many potential examples of Ethan misrepresenting things during the fallout with his former co-host. But their breakup was a total shit show, and it's possible Trisha isn't the most reliable person either, so maybe you're willing to give Ethan some grace with this one. Understandable. But what about the defamation lawsuit that was filed against Ethan by Ryan Kavanaugh? In 2021, Ethan was sued by Triller, which one of Kavanaugh's companies had a controlling interest in. The lawsuit was related to the H3 podcast, streaming clips from a boxing match between Jake Paul and Ben Askren, which was a pay-per-view event that Triller owned the exclusive rights to. Now, Ethan did admit to pirating the fight in DMs with Philip DeFranco, saying that he didn't want to financially support Jake Paul, who'd been credibly accused of sexual assault. But the lawsuit was specifically for copyright, especially given that Ethan had shown on screen an unlisted link to a full upload of the fight. Ethan objected strongly to this lawsuit, essentially suggesting that it was frivolous and he was being unfairly singled out. One thing he noted was that Triller had been dropping most of their other lawsuits against actually potentially illegal restreaming sites. But most of those sites they didn't have strong evidence against, whereas Ethan broadcast the fight and a link to it on a recorded livestream. Triller also made it known that they would be taking an aggressive approach to suing people who pirated or redistributed their product, and Ethan wasn't the only content creator they pursued to that end. But his frustrations and public statements about the case led to a series of additional lawsuits between him and Triller, which Ethan Klein chose to respond to by beginning to disparage Ryan Kavanaugh on the H3 podcast for months on end. Ethan would go live and vent his frustrations with Triller and Kavanaugh dozens of times over the course of the next several months, but the attacking quickly started to veer into pretty weird territory. Ethan became quite fixated on Ryan's ex-wife, for instance, and he'd routinely do bits on the show about her and her new husband, including detailed descriptions of their hypothetical sexual activity.
Look how big the bull is, though, man. Probably plows the shit out of her, dude. Brad fucking rails her hard. Imagine getting railed by that, dude. Your wife is getting railed by a giant fucking Israeli dude with jacked, huge Jewish cock, and your wife loves it. You stand in the closet and listen as your dick is in a cock cage.
And while we're here, I think it's worth noting that Ryan separated from his ex-wife in 2020, a year before the lawsuit was even filed, so she and her new husband had absolutely nothing to do with it. But Ethan and his community had no hesitation in involving her in their smear campaign against her former husband. And when I say involved, I mean directly. The incessant mentioning of Kavanaugh's ex-wife led H3 fans to start brigading her and her new husband's Instagram page, where they left tons of very weird and hypersexual comments.
I was probably getting 20 to 30,000 death threats. He started telling them to go after my ex-wife, who's my best friend and mother of my child. She was getting death threats. They were just, I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore.
And again, these two were not involved in the lawsuit in any way whatsoever. But not only that, Kavanaugh himself claims to have had almost nothing to do with it personally.
And it went after, I don't know, 5 or 6 sites. I kind of wasn't involved. I just, knew they were doing it. And then one day, someone called me and said, this guy's like just trashing on you on his podcast. I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. Why would he be doing that? And they're like, they say you're suing him. And I'm like, I've never heard of him. Why would I sue him? Needless to say, I kind of ignored it. And then over the next month, they're like, this guy's done like 30 podcasts on it. And then it was like 50.
Ethan and the H3 crew even went so far as making an entire website dedicated to comparing Kavanaugh to convicted rapist Harvey Weinstein.
Our website about Ryan Kavanaugh.
Does Ryan Kavanaugh look like Harvey Weinstein?
Oh, that's the one.
To date, Ryan Kavanaugh has been mentioned on the H3 podcast in at least 156 different episodes, many of which came after Ryan retaliated against them by filing a defamation suit against Ethan. That case specifically cited comments that Ethan repeatedly made about Ryan's business operating as a Ponzi scheme, which Ethan sourced from a 2019 article from Variety. The issue there is that Variety had amended this article within 24 hours after it was posted, including a full retraction from the original person who called Ryan's business a Ponzi scheme. Now, it seems like this case was ultimately settled outside of court, but Ethan was forced to issue an on-stream apology after the court rejected his motion to dismiss the case, finding that he had been aware of the retraction but repeatedly restated the false assertion anyway over the following months.
You're a liar, you lie.
I skipped some of the crazier details about this story, like how Ethan supposedly paid editors to constantly monitor Kavanaugh's Wikipedia page and insert more negative information about him.
They said, I won this lawsuit against the guy who propagated it and who's paying to have all these editors do this. The appeal will be held this summer and he'll have to take it all down. We went to a mediation and he agreed to even do it, which is why I know I already knew he controlled it, but he admitted it.
But either way, even if you think Trisha is a crazy person or Ryan Kavanaugh is an asshole, Ethan has still shown that he's willing to misrepresent claims, falsely attribute things to others, and even outright defame people that he doesn't like. This kind of stuff is a favorite pastime for Ethan. He likes to jump to conclusions and just say shit about people, often with no evidence. He implied or outright suggested that Dan Clancy and Taylor Lorenz were pedophiles for like no reason. He wrongly accused the Wall Street Journal of doctoring photos and then had to walk it back, while he himself has routinely had issues with sharing fake or doctored social media posts and passing them off as real, and he's shown a willingness to contort and misrepresent events in his life whenever it suits his purposes, which is what he's doing now in his war against Reddit, Twitch, and Hasan.
The harassment that me and Ela are receiving is just genuinely unfucking comparable, like nothing I've ever dealt with. And to the point where I don't know how it's allowed on Reddit. Like an organized harassment campaign spreading across multiple subreddits, targeting like two specific people. It's so fucked up. And once again, to remind everybody that Reddit has no problem with this community that exists solely to do the most insane, unhinged, unacceptable harassment campaigns you can possibly imagine. On the internet today, people think they can say anything they want about me.
And by the way, her posting this is continuing the defamation and this whole like snark narrative that they're trying to make like mainstream.
And by the way, they're part of the harassment campaign that I can't believe is so big. They're misrepresenting everything I said. They're mischaracterizing, like taking things out of context, like you guys are part of that harassment campaign, you scumbags.
Ever since the Leftovers podcast ended, Ethan has spent almost 2 years trying to convince the online world that he is the victim of a massive organized harassment campaign, which is being spearheaded by Hasan and his surrounding network of evil harassers, or something like that. This harassment narrative itself is being pushed pretty effectively by Ethan, and he's received quite a lot of support from across the internet. So while he's been aggressively retaliating against his enemies, like his use of the legal system, to many it's understandable, or even justified. But is Ethan's narrative accurate? To answer that, let's go back to the beginning of the Ethan and Hasan feud, back in late 2023. You'll remember from earlier that one of the first major sources of tension between the two was Ethan being upset at things that Hasan's chat was saying about him.
Do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
Moderate that at all?
I have not looked at my chat at all.
The thing with this argument is, first of all, I don't know what Ethan expected Hasan to do about a chat that looked like this. Like, look at this shit. But more importantly, Ethan seems to not understand that you are the only person who is responsible for the things that you say on the internet. It's nobody else's job to protect you if audiences and comment sections have a negative reaction to the things that you're saying. The backlash that Ethan's been getting online from communities like Hasan's, it doesn't just unfairly come from nowhere. It is a direct response to controversial ideas that he and Ela have expressed after the conflict in Gaza started.
The reason why people are saying that is because of the conflations that you made, Ethan. I can't stop people from viewing you a certain way if you're gonna make these comparisons that they've heard from actually racist people.
Now, to be fair to Ethan, he has repeatedly expressed support for Palestine and condemned the actions of Israel during the war.
What is happening in Gaza is disgusting, and it needs to stop immediately.
But the Kleins have also often shown a tendency to couple these general condemnations of Israel with things like flowery praise about the country and how free it is.
What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, how beautiful, how multicultural, how like free it feels for people, or
highly incendiary statements about people who were saying free Palestine too closely to October 7th.
When you come out and say free Palestine after they just lost everybody, that's not what you should be saying right now.
And I'm free Palestine too, right? It's just the timing. I know what it is. You're saying I support Hamas.
I mean, that's what you're saying. I'm just saying don't cheer for terrorists. I don't think that that's a crazy take. If you think it is, then let's go invite the Iraqi terrorists who are exacting revenge to come to your city block and kill every fucking one you love. If you think Hamas is dope, just remember, you deserve to be burned alive by terrorists and your whole family murdered in front of you.
Ethan's also been criticized for spreading misinformation about important historical events regarding Palestinian suffering, or for uncritically accepting negative stories about their combatants.
H3 promoted the beheaded babies myth extensively, for example, and has not retracted since.
While being overly skeptical or just rejecting negative stories about Israel.
I mean, listen, that's a huge claim. 15 Palestinian women were raped. I couldn't really find a lot of evidence to back it up.
I understand why Ethan's brain would operate this way, and it's not like there's anything immoral about having a bias. But obviously at a certain point, after Ethan makes enough comments like this, to a lot of people, he's gonna start to sound like he's defending Israel a little bit, like kind of reflexively.
They could have held a ceasefire at any point. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
How could have Hamas ended the war?
By releasing the hostages?
Hamas offered all the hostages in agreement for Israel not coming into Gaza. To defend Israel's actions.
That didn't happen either.
Yes, it did. This type of thing is why people think that Ethan and Hila are running defense for Israel. And there are dozens of examples of this. There's Hila essentially saluting IDF pilots on Instagram after Israel's strike on Iran. Or there's also her referring to former Israeli Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant as a really good guy, a man who is currently wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes, including directing attacks on civilians. Nobody made her say that. Nobody made Ethan defend it. But the clients seem to want to endlessly make comments on this very controversial subject and expect to never be attacked for the things that they're expressing. They think that because they say the words, "We support Palestine," that the people that criticize them must just hate Jewish people.
He's watching the same clip over and over, retweeting like psychopathic anti-Semites. There's no other explanation for these people being so weirdly obsessed with her.
To a lot of people, Ethan saying genocide is bad is probably not adequate. Genocide being bad is obvious, that's the default position. To them, this situation would be kind of like someone saying rape is bad, and then talking about how much they love Bill Cosby.
After people have some of my barbecue sauce, after a while when it kicks in, they get all huggy-buggy.
Jesus. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. The point is that Ethan and Hila are the ones choosing to put this stuff on the internet. Like during the height of what many people consider to be a genocide by Israel, Hila posts on Instagram last February, showing off her new blue Star of David tattoo. You know, like the one on the Israeli flag. Now yes, blue is a traditional color in Judaism, but a lot of that is because of its appearance on the flag of Israel. There are a lot of people that understandably are not gonna like an apparent show of support for a country that's been accused of using chemical weapons near civilians or opening fire on people waiting for aid. But here's how Ethan responds to negative comments on Hila's post about her tattoo.
Obsessed with you guys when you only had 15K subs. Glad that's behind me. Enjoy hell. This guy's for real. Joe Coop. Look this guy up. Enjoy hell. He said, enjoy hell.
Yeah, no, I mean, they think I'm actually the devil.
Here he is. If anyone, let's see if I know, can identify him at all. Which one's Joe? Let's see. I think it's this guy. Trust me, when I see an anti-Semite, I know I can spot him.
Wow. Spot him from a crowd.
That's him. So I don't know if you guys all know that, but your friend Joe here actually is a fucking giant racist piece of shit. And like he likes to tell Jewish people they're going to hell on Instagram, on his public profile. I don't know if any of you guys know him, but certainly anyone who would employ him, or probably even his parents, would be pretty disappointed to see that. Although who knows? Here's his mom. I'm not going to click that for her. I'm not, you know what? Fuck him. This is what you... Here's your mom. I wonder if she knows what you do on social media on your free time. You love your mama. Good thing she's not Jewish, hey, Joe? I love it.
And yeah, Ethan's producer cuts away from the Instagram feed there so that Ethan doesn't blast the guy's mom to his thousands of viewers. This clip comes across kind of deranged to me, but it gives you a little bit of a window into how Ethan's mind works. To him, people can't simply be having a response to controversial statements or things they themselves have put out there. It must be because of anti-Semitism or bigotry. And ultimately, I think the reason why Ethan reacts this way is because, in reality, he cannot stand being criticized.
There's been a lot of criticism of me of late. There's been a lot of people that have said lots and lots of videos. I have a natural aversion to criticism specifically, which is something that I've been learning about myself through therapy, which I've started recently.
Ethan cannot help himself from reading comment sections, Reddits, tweets about him. He obsesses over how he's being perceived, and he compulsively responds to almost anybody that's critical of him. And he has a long history of this temperament. As a quick example, there was this call on election night that Ethan had with Philip DeFranco, where Ethan, for like literally no reason, awkwardly tries to force into the conversation how people on the internet just hate him because he's Jewish.
Well, I don't know if you knew this about me, Phil, but I'm Jewish. Yeah, it's pretty controversial, but yeah, I could go into detail. Do you want to? I could go into all the details. It sounds like you want to get into it. It sounds like you want to get into it.
No, thank you.
And then immediately after getting off that call, Ethan goes out of his way to pull up Philly's chat and whine about things people are saying about him.
Okay, be good, be good. Yeah. All right. Nothing gets me excited like seeing Philip DeFranco's chat call me El Zionist Nazi, free Palestine, Ethan, you can migrate to Israel.
And finally, when he gets criticized by the crew for killing the vibe of the podcast, this is how he responds.
How the fuck did I kill the mood?
Bruh.
What the fuck did I do?
You killed the mood.
Yeah. Why? How?
But with your calling Phil and bringing up all kinds of negative
That
stuff.
was fucking awesome.
I thought it was a fun call.
Yeah, what the fuck? What's happening? What is this world we're living in? What's happening right now? Tell me how.
I told you.
Tell me how.
I don't have a way to get through to you then.
There's
It's just
no
depressed
shot. That
now.
call was awesome.
I didn't feel awesome coming off that call.
Why?
I'm just telling you.
Was that call awesome?
Because it turned into you just complaining about his chat. Everybody, like, they fucking hate you and they're spamming it or whatever.
He brought it
Ethan's
up.
obvious ruminating on criticism shows up in a lot of places. He left Twitter in favor of Instagram, probably because stories don't have comment sections. H3 also seems to often heavily filter or disable comments on episodes that they think might get some pushback. And I've also recently found that the H3 podcast commonly cuts out entire sections of their live streams, even sometimes way after the fact, seemingly in response to criticism, which I guess they do have a right to do. But I will say, as someone who's currently trying to criticize them, it's pretty fucking irritating. But all this is to say, Ethan isn't a fan of being criticized at all. And when he started facing a lot more negative scrutiny after October 7th, it seems like he wanted Hasan to exert sweeping control over his entire audience's perception of him. And despite how unrealistic that is, Hasan still tried.
Ethan is not your enemy. You should not yell at Ethan. Ethan is my friend. I think he's an empathetic person. I will always stand by Ethan's ability to empathize and want to learn and want to change his perspective. Changing your perspective on an issue that is like near and dear to your fucking heart is virtually impossible. I will forever have respect for him for doing that on his own. You need to, as a community, also stop fucking ripping into Ethan non-stop.
But it was never quite enough for Ethan.
He genuinely hates you, bro. I know he does. I wish him well regardless.
And eventually, Ethan declared war on all things Hasan, which brought us to where we are now. Now, what Ethan could do is he could stop reflexively defending Israel. He could stop commenting on the issue altogether. Maybe he could reflect on and internalize some of what people are telling him. Or he could change nothing and just accept that some people on the internet are going to have a problem with it. But of course, he hasn't done any of these things. Ethan has instead chosen to lie. He's built this myth of a mass harassment campaign against him, and he's using this lie to try to financially harm Twitch, change Reddit policy, and abuse the court system against the people that he holds responsible for his decline in popularity. The three main things that Ethan's been dishonest about are H3 Snark, the CPS call, and the copyright lawsuits. Let's start with Snark. After the leftovers ended, the growing rift between Ethan and Hasan's communities sparked increased activity on the H3 Snark subreddit. For those of you that don't know what Snark means, here's a quick overview. Snark communities are online groups dedicated to sharing negative or critical content about a figure that the group is centered around. That's it. They're basically just groups of people who dislike an influencer or a public figure, and they talk shit about them, laugh about them, criticize them. That's all it is. H3 has had their own Snark community since early in 2023, but as Ethan's content became more political and as the feud with Hasan began, it gradually started growing in popularity. Now, it should be noted that most of these places, especially on Reddit, have strict rules against crossing the line. They typically moderate against posts that encourage or facilitate harassment, such as doxing, and the ones that don't usually don't last very long on the platform. You can always find psycho people who engage in poor behavior in literally any online community, even fan ones. But this doesn't mean the community itself is an issue. For this reason, as a concept, Snark seems mostly harmless. But Ethan doesn't see it this way, and even since before the leftovers ended, Ethan has taken massive issue with his own Snark community, and he essentially considers them to be headquarters of the harassment campaign that he believes he's facing.
H3 Snark, which is a subreddit dedicated to not even like feedback, like just blatant fucking horrific harassment and like defamation.
So what exactly is Ethan referring to when he talks about this organized harassment and defamation campaign? Honestly, it's a little difficult to say. Ethan's been historically pretty non-specific in his complaints about Snark, but he has on occasion pointed out a few hard examples, so let's look at some of those. So here's a post from a little over a year ago, speculating that Teddy Fresh, the client's clothing brand, potentially plagiarized the design of a new release, because in addition to the visual similarities, the senior designer for Teddy Fresh previously liked the post from the designer they're alleged to have stolen from. Here's Ethan talking about this post on stream.
On the Snark subreddit, the top post right now is dedicated to identifying and harassing non-public Teddy Fresh employees. We have no recourse. Like, this is not okay what's happening. I don't know how Reddit allows this. I really don't. It's fucking sickening.
Okay, so Ethan claims this post is dedicated to identifying and harassing non-public Teddy Fresh employees. But the problem is, this person did have senior designer at Teddy Fresh in their public Instagram bio. Teddy Fresh also routinely posts about their designers, including their names, in their own Instagram posts. And Hila Klein has posted this person on her own YouTube channel, including naming them and introducing them as a designer at Teddy Fresh.
Hi vlog, I'm Sean, I'm resident senior designer of Teddy Fresh.
The H3 crew seemed to be under the impression that this post was a dox, by the way, because the document they compiled on it was titled Snark Docs. But based on what I can see, this poster wasn't trying to identify anybody. Motherfucker, you guys are the ones that identified them.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
And furthermore, Ethan is shocked that Reddit allows this post, calling it targeted harassment. But how exactly is an accusation of wrongdoing, by itself, harassment? There's no call to action, there's no threat, there's no invasion of privacy. It's literally just a few photos and evidence for their claim. Surely Ethan doesn't consider it to be harassment to accuse somebody of plagiarism, right? There's this video, apparently by a former H3 Snark moderator, supposedly exposing the harassment the community engages in. And some of the examples they list are like, just listen.
The Snarkers would even post drawings of crew members for the purpose of everyone else in the live chat to make fun of them. But the thing that stuck out to me from the times I was looking at the H3 Snark live chat is that they really hate Zach. Whenever Zach was on screen, the H3 Snark chat would go crazy and comment about how ugly Zach is.
Drawings? People calling Zach ugly? Oh my god, we need to do something about this. Oh, and by the way, Ethan fully endorses this video.
An ex-snarker made a video about the Snark subreddit that I thought was wonderful. This all took place on Reddit's platform. They have a live chat feature that during every show they would open up where they would engage in targeted, relentless harassment against all of us. I'm very grateful to this person. People don't understand the forces that I'm dealing with, of how fucking disgustingly evil these people are.
So look, if you scroll through the H3 Snark page, you'll see posts that are making fun of things Ethan has said, sometimes clipping something from a recent stream. Here's a post just sharing something Hasan said about Ethan. This subreddit is like 99% just posts like this. So I'm not saying there's never been a post here that could qualify as harassment, but if for Ethan things like laughing at drawings does qualify, it makes me seriously question his judgment of the severity of what's happening here. Moving on, another part of Ethan's claim is that this community is defaming him and his business, and Ethan really doesn't like defamation.
This is defamation, right? No, defamation. Defamation. I'm literally going to sue you for defamation.
Uh-oh. But this part is even harder to evaluate, because Ethan is even less specific about the defamation. He tends to just generally kind of whine about defamation and slander, and rarely, if ever, provides any specific examples of it.
These are like 3 huge fucking communities that are posting about me and Hila every fucking day. Fucking relentless slander, straight up lies, defamation.
One of the only times I could find him providing actual evidence was this infamous Ramadan post, which contained a lie that the H3 subreddit was removing posts celebrating Ramadan. Ethan was understandably pretty upset about this, but when you look into what actually happened here, it seems likely that this example of defamation just doesn't really mean much of anything. According to the moderators of the subreddit, the post was originally made by like a rogue mod on an alt account, and once they found out that it was false, they deleted the post, demodded the user, and updated their rules to have higher standards. So one user on a popular forum maliciously spread misinformation, was caught, got punished, and then the owners took steps to try to prevent it from happening again. So this just isn't indicative of any systemic or coordinated misconduct. This is just called the internet. Plus, it seems like this should be how you'd want a place like this to be moderated. They have rules against misinformation, and they do enforce them. Like if you go search through the subreddit, you can find hundreds of examples of the moderators telling the subreddit not to contact sponsors, to respect people's privacy, marking certain posts as being satirical, all things that point to them actually trying to prevent harassment and defamation. Like with any popular forum, some stuff might occasionally slip through the cracks, but this stuff would be outliers. It's quite obviously not the purpose of this community. So Ethan's claims that this place exists solely to conduct an organized harassment campaign against him are at best flimsy and at worst kinda bullshit. But there's one more thing Ethan has shown, and it's this screenshot he shared from Discord of supposedly a moderator of H3 Snark sharing the address of the H3 and Teddy Fresh studios. Now, if this is exactly how Ethan describes it, it could be an issue. But this looks like a private DM, not a public Discord server. There's no information about who this was sent to, whether this person is still a moderator, whether they even ever were a moderator, or whether any of the other mods knew about it. So I kinda just don't really know what I'm looking at here. Without more context, this just isn't evidence of organized, coordinated harassment. This could be nothing more than just one person doing something wrong, which again can happen in any large online community. So look, my perception of what's happened here is that Ethan conflates harassment with unwanted negative scrutiny, and he might even conflate slander with things he disagrees with. 99.9% of the users here are just talking, making jokes, criticizing him, voicing their opinions. Some of them may say things that are untrue or even cruel, but dude, that's what the internet is. H3 has millions of subscribers. At a certain point, you can't control what everyone says or thinks about you. So as far as I can tell, Ethan just isn't the victim of anything unique here. But obviously he disagrees, and his response to these insults, to criticism, and to this one lie that was ultimately removed was declaring all-out war on Reddit and H3 Snark.
And it's just fucking disgusting. Like Reddit, you are disgusting. Fucking shame on you. The CEO, the officers, everybody who's in this company is 100% liable for everything that's happening on all these Snark subreddits.
He started by going to Reddit and complaining about Snark numerous times, demanding that they take action against the subreddit.
And I've tried to notify Reddit, and they just don't fucking care. We reported it, and we were trying to contact someone at Reddit. I've gone through every avenue possible with Reddit. If this doesn't get taken care of, then I'm gonna have to start holding Reddit accountable.
Which led to quite a lot of whining from Ethan when they chose not to do anything.
The whole Snark phenomenon is so pathetic that Reddit allows this shit to continue. This is another reason why I just cannot fucking believe that Reddit doesn't react. It's so fucked up that Reddit allows this and doesn't do anything.
But Ethan did eventually hear back from Reddit, although he wasn't very pleased with what they had to say.
We got a hold of someone at Reddit, and we told them about all the Snark stuff. It was a comms person, and they got back to us, and they said, well, you guys are harassing people also. You're harassing people and they're harassing people, so I don't see the difference between your community and their community.
And while it would be really funny if Reddit actually said that to him, I highly doubt that that's what Ethan was told. I imagine he was told something more like, this community is totally fine. They're not doing anything different than your own is. But this is where things started getting a little weird. Ethan didn't just disagree with Reddit's decisions. He started claiming that Reddit was conspiring against him to protect Snark.
I believe that Reddit is colluding with the moderators of this Snark community and actively protecting it.
And to his credit, I'm sure that Ethan really was on the verge of cracking this thing wide open.
Twitch has been ideologically captured, and the people in that company are using their terms of service selectively as a form of activism. And I feel that I'm getting the same treatment now from Reddit. Did you know that these two companies in San Francisco their headquarters are blocks away from each other? It's just interesting. It's just interesting because it shows there's some culture happening in this tech space. I think that these people are all very similar minded. I think that's what this is telling me.
Right. But somehow, this airtight narrative didn't gain quite as much traction as Ethan would like, so he started being somewhat openly dishonest about it. For instance, when Adam McIntyre's Snark community got taken down by Reddit, allegedly due to behaviors similar to the H3 Snark page, Ethan took it as proof that Reddit is conspiring against him. But he prefers to just disregard the known fact that Adam's page didn't get removed due to any alleged behaviors, but rather because it was completely unmoderated, whereas H3 Snark has always had active moderators. Ethan is aware of this, by the way, he just chooses to believe something else.
It's hard for him to be honest. He lies a lot. He does.
In fact, there are often pretty decent explanations for why things on Reddit haven't gone Ethan's way. But rather than opening his eyes, everything only leads him to further believe that Reddit leadership must be snarkers themselves. That's right, it's a big Reddit conspiracy to harass Ethan Klein. That is literally what he believes.
I know that it's likely that one of the admins who's being paid by Reddit is participating and protecting it.
Ethan also started claiming that the coordination and organized harassment actually just happens in Discord servers, which is why you won't find it on the subreddit itself.
These fucking freaks that are in a Discord sharing on all these things. These people can sign up without any info of their account. Most of their activities happening on Discord.
And it's kind of weird that he'd go that route anyway, because somehow Reddit is complicit in something truly horrific here, but simultaneously none of it is actually happening on Reddit, it's all happening somewhere else. But despite not having very much evidence, Ethan remained incredibly determined to push this harassment narrative. So determined, in fact, that he made the very classy decision to appropriate a woman's suicide to further his agenda against Snark. Michaela Raines, also known as Save-A-Fox, took her own life back in June of last year, and Ethan, within 24 hours of it being announced, ran to Instagram to claim that Snark was responsible. But Michaela's husband didn't cite her Snark community as contributing to her suicide. He rather said that the criticism Michaela faced was often from people she knew or people from other animal sanctuaries. Michaela's Snark page was pretty inactive, with only 19 total posts in its lifetime. She also, according to her husband, had a long history of being in and out of therapy with depression and various other mental ailments. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible that Michaela's Snark page contributed to her distress, but this was obviously a deeply troubled person, and Ethan parading around her body for his own narrative purposes and chalking it all up to Snark, when he can't even know that to be true, is kind of a disgusting thing to do. But despite these lies and conspiracy theories and his appeals to Reddit, Ethan was unsuccessful in getting H3 Snark removed.
This is not normal. This is fucking insane, unhinged behavior that is being explicitly sanctioned by Reddit continually. It's nauseating. It's so fucked up.
So he decided to escalate his tactics. Ethan hired an attorney to begin issuing copyright strikes against clips of the H3 podcast that were getting posted on their Snark page. It's unknown exactly how many strikes were issued, but they went after quite a few, including some clips as short as 20 seconds long. Ethan has given various explanations for why he was trying to get these posts removed.
Me and my lawyer were extremely conservative about which posts qualified. The ones that I DMCA'd on that were egregious.
At different times, he's claimed he was only targeting members-only content or posts that openly stated they were trying to steal views. But neither of these turned out to be true. Clips that didn't fit either of those parameters were getting struck also. Eventually, some of these snarkers were added to Ethan's current lawsuits against Hasan's orbiters, which we'll come back to later. But in these filings, we received expanded explanations for some of the DMCA takedown requests. And all of a sudden, the justifications included things such as posts that didn't have enough comments on them. Not a great reason. These filings also claim that H3 was very purposeful with what they chose to strike, listing just 7 examples with detailed explanations for each takedown. And in response to the idea that he was trying to silence his critics, Ethan would repeat this claim on stream, asserting that he had only struck a handful of clips from the subreddit.
And your dumb bitch ass at the time was saying I was silencing people, which makes no fucking sense because there's like 1,000 posts up there and we DMCA'd like 5 of them.
But what they're referring to is just a DMCA. One of their posts of like the hundreds, if not thousands, got DMCA'd. And so the story is that I'm trying to silence free speech because one post of 1,000 got DMCA'd.
Like I said, there's hundreds of posts. We removed maybe 5 at most.
But months earlier, when complaining about Reddit's inaction against Snark, Ethan had previously claimed to have successfully filed dozens of copyright strikes against them.
We've performed dozens of copyright strikes on the Snark subreddit. We have removed dozens of posts.
So is Ethan possibly lying to downplay how many claims were being filed? If he is, it might be because what Ethan was actually trying to do was get the subreddit banned as a result of excessive DMCA notices, something that he had seen work with other Snark subreddits before.
She told me that she was aware that there's Snark pages that will talk about me and that talk about her, whatever. And she was like, I'm gonna give you this number of someone who can take down your Snarks. These people will go around and they will copyright strike things on subreddits to get them all these violations that then they get removed. I'm pretty sure as well that's how, you know, Trisha Paytas got the Trishyland Reddit taken down.
But obviously that plan didn't work, so he started making public threats of legal action against members of H3 Snark. And I wanted to briefly point out the very funny way that he talks when he's addressing Snark. He really thinks he's that guy.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will
sue you.
He's already been granted a subpoena to obtain the personal information of prominent H3 Snark members, which he claims is just for legitimate copyright purposes.
And he's threatening to dox them. It's not a dox, you dumb fuck. It's called a subpoena. Now, what happens to that information? I don't know. I literally just want to hold them accountable for copyright infringement. Court filings are all public. So if like their private information shows up there, I literally can't help it.
But if you're not trying to dox them, then why say things like this? I mean, he's just openly expressing here that his goal is, at least partially, to expose the identities of these snarkers.
Like anyone that participated in that sub should be humiliated, embarrassed, and exposed. If I was one of these people and had something to lose, who had, let's say, a good job, or was part of an elite university, something like that, they would certainly not want people to know what they've been up to. They all have quite a lot to lose, and I will be the one that makes them lose those things.
That is pretty explicit. I mean, just look at one of the letters from Ethan's attorney. Give us the identity of Snark moderators, or all of your personal info will be made public. And this letter was regarding a clip posted on H3 Snark that was 90 seconds long. It seems obvious that his primary motivation is not really protecting his property. But you know how we can be sure? Ethan previously, not even that long ago, had opened up the H3 IP to everybody, and he even gave his blessing to people profiting off of his channel.
I am opening our IP to the world. If you want to cut up clips from the podcast, from our members live, from anything with me in it, go for it, man. Monetize it. I will not claim. I will not remove. I will not do anything. I mean, to be fair, it's basically been my policy. I don't claim or remove anything really at all.
But now you're making it explicit.
Yeah.
He was openly encouraging people to monetize his property, even on YouTube.
We opened our IP, and there are starting to be channels who are uploading content.
I started noticing
And they're getting views, and I'm very happy.
But Redditors, who don't profit off of him at all, he has a massive problem with his content being shared there. And the only difference between these two situations, one supports H3, the other criticizes him. You can't blanket open up your IP and then claim infringement when you just don't like who's sharing it. Either it's protected or it's not. So when it comes to H3 Snark, Ethan seems to have abused DMCA as a guise to try to silence his critics. That's it. This whole Snark controversy is really interesting because when you zoom out, it kind of gives you a lot of perspective on Ethan's character, like how he stands staunchly against involving people's families in online drama.
The way that's super fucked and twisted about it is how they go after people's families.
Except when he does it, or how he hates defamation and considers it harassment.
One of them fabricated a post. That's defamation.
Except when he does it. Or how he thinks Snark is evil and should be wiped from the internet.
I'm against Snark subreddits. I stand opposed to all Snark subreddits.
Wow.
Except when he uses it. Yeah, this is Ethan's web browser back during his fallout with Trisha Paytas, and you'll notice Ethan is a frequent visitor of Trishyland, Trisha's Snark subreddit. Ethan and the H3 crew are known to have been supporters and regular visitors of various Trisha Snark pages, including multiple named after their former podcast, Frenemies. The H3 podcast was actually remarkably public about being appreciative of Snark back when the target was somebody that they didn't like.
Frenemies too. Oh, you have to request to join? Well, I gotta request access now.
Love said he secured Frenemies 12, so we're safe.
Okay.
We got, wait, Frenemies 12 is us?
Yeah, we got
it. Go! Go to Frenemies 12, people, since Frenemies 2 is closed.
Frenemies 2 was like home base. You know what I mean?
Why have they done this?
The irony is that Ethan and Hila don't actually have a problem with Snark. In fact, when his own fans engage in the same behaviors that he accuses Snark of, he'll just pretend that it isn't happening.
It's a numbers game, okay? Some people, obviously, from an audience are going to take it too far and be inappropriate and say horrible things. This is not my fan base. Them even trying to make it about our fan base is disingenuous, and it's a fucking lie.
This is slightly old data, but one of the most popular subreddits among people who also post an H3 subreddit is a makeup Snark page. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because the thing is, Ethan is a controversial figure with millions of followers. He's been involved in countless dramas and public feuds with others, and at that scale, criticism is inevitable. Some of it is going to be harsh. Some people might cross lines. But that doesn't mean there's a massive organized campaign against you. It just means you're notable and there's a lot of eyeballs on you. And I don't know how to protect someone like Ethan from every isolated incident of harassment on the internet, but I know that the answer is not silencing all of your critics. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Kilo, didn't these people send CPS and skulls to his house? I don't blame Ethan for taking matters into his own hands. Well, let's see. In November of 2024, Ethan began threatening Reddit with legal action if he couldn't get H3 Snark banned from the website. In December, it was discovered that he had been weaponizing DMCA against them. In January, he finalized his plan to ultimately sue them for copyright infringement. Then in February, he began making vague threats of doxing and exposing the identities of the Snark moderators. And the CPS and Skulls incidents didn't happen until March. On March 7th of 2025, the H3 podcast went live, where Ethan and Hila would discuss a Child Protective Services visit to their house that morning after an anonymous call that was placed a few days prior. The call was in response to a story Ethan told on this episode a few weeks earlier about his family having possibly contracted Giardia. After announcing what happened, Ethan followed up with a video on his main channel on March 10th, further discussing the CPS call, as well as angrily berating H3 Snark, Hasan, Bad and Panada, really anybody he could even remotely blame for the incident. He especially took issue with Denims, who he accused of encouraging her community to call CPS. The visit itself rightfully didn't translate to any long-term consequences for the Klein household, although Ethan maintains that this was a malicious and fraudulent attack on his family and that the call had no merit. He also claims that the caller impersonated somebody close to the Klein family to bolster the call's credibility.
Like when he first showed up, he's like, it's somebody that you know who made the report. And I'm like, no, okay. You could easily impersonate.
The CPS incident escalated Ethan's sense of victimhood in a pretty massive way, and he started lashing out at anyone he considered anywhere even close to responsible. One such person was Ian Joma, also known as iDubbbz. Ian is a former well-respected comedy creator turned not-so-well-respected failed event coordinator. He and Ethan used to occasionally collaborate on each other's channels and always appeared to maintain a positive relationship. But Ian and his wife Anissa over time also developed friendships with Hasan, Denims, and other similar creators. Because of these conflicting friendships, Ian largely avoided commenting on any of the Ethan and Hasan drama to this point, obviously preferring to stay out of it and just do his pretty boring podcast with his wife. But after the CPS visit, Ian and Anissa staying out of things was no longer an option for Ethan. He accused them of being cowards for not speaking up to defend him from the attacks that were coming from people they're associated with. The couple reiterated on their podcast on March 11th that they wanted to stay out of the conflict, adding that they don't condone or endorse any type of harassment that Ethan received.
We don't condone harassment of any kind.
Condone harassment of any kind.
Of any kind.
But Ethan's attacks on them continued, which led to iDubbbz releasing a pair of his famed content cop videos in April, with Ethan as the subject. These videos didn't get received very well, but I actually think there's a few good points in here, which we'll come back to in a second. For now, the important thing to remember is that the CPS call has become sort of the cornerstone of the victim narrative that Ethan is selling. Anyone who criticizes Ethan's behavior, who questions his motivations, who requests more evidence for his claims, all he or any H3 fans have to say to them is, they tried to take his kids away, and the conversation gets shut down. But the problem with the way that people have framed this whole CPS thing is that it's essentially given Ethan this free pass to just say or do whatever he wants in response, no matter how dishonest it is. Let's get a sense of how CPS got called on the Klein household. Here's the clip that got shared around.
Olive has Giardia, which is it's a bacterial infection in the intestines that makes you have diarrhea. Olive has this, yeah. She came to us with it.
Okay.
She had diarrhea, so she has Giardia, so we have her on an antibiotic, but we had to wait until Monday, which is today. We just got it today. Sonny's crawling around. He's putting everything in his mouth. He's at that age. He has Giardia.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
And now Ela has Giardia.
shut. For real?
And now I think this morning I had diarrhea.
Oh my god.
What can I do to not get it from
Yeah,
you?
I'm trying to...
Because I'm not trying to get
Can
it.
we crank the AC maybe?
It's extremely ridiculous to get. You have to ingest my poop.
Okay, so Ethan says in this clip that his dog has Giardia, that his infant son has Giardia, and that his wife has Giardia. He then immediately says that it's difficult to contract, and in order to get sick, you would have to ingest his shit. So, I mean, the idea that Ethan could have painted a picture for somebody here of a baby crawling around, putting dog shit in its mouth, it's really not like the craziest thing in the world. Like, it does kind of sound like that.
Olive has Giardia. She had diarrhea. Sonny's crawling around. He's putting everything in his mouth. It's extremely ridiculous to get. You have to ingest my poop. His whole room was just wafting and the foulest diarrhea smell.
Dude.
And meanwhile, he is covered in low viscosity diarrhea.
Dude.
No, you guys will not be getting Giardia. It's not like that.
So yeah, Ethan told this story about parasites and dogs and babies being covered in shit, and his whole house smelling like flowing, frothy diarrhea. And yeah, it's just disgusting. So if you heard that story and took it at face value, you could understandably have come away from it with a little bit of concern. So obviously somebody called CPS, expressing concern about the sanitary conditions of the Klein household. Now, before we go any further, the obvious question is, was the CPS call malicious harassment or genuine concern? And the answer to that question is, we don't know. I don't know, you don't know, and Ethan doesn't know. It could have been malicious, or it could have been someone being reckless or overzealous. But it also could have been someone who heard the story and genuinely believed the kids were in an unsanitary or unhealthy environment. And the thing is that ultimately, it doesn't actually matter whether the report was made in good or bad faith. Even if the Kleins are the victims of harassment here, they're still responsible for how they respond to it. And Ethan, despite having no idea who placed the call or what their intentions were, has accepted no responsibility for himself, lied about what happened, and dishonestly exploited the entire situation. One of the better points from Ian's content cop videos is that Ethan tends to abdicate any responsibility he has in protecting himself online, and he instead expects the world to protect him.
Now what Ethan does, instead of taking any responsibility for sharing too much on his live stream, is that he decides to attack specific creators like Denims and say she was the source of the CPS call. Part of my criticisms of Ethan initially was the openness. I think it's a problem that you are that open, Ethan.
And that's just true. Everyone kind of understands that the more about yourself that you put out there, the more you're exposing to the many insane people that exist on the internet. Ethan seems to understand this. He tries to limit sharing photos of his kids online, specifically for that reason.
I've literally given Ethan Klein credit for not showing photos of his kids. I think it is actually very cool of him to try his best to not have his kids in photos, in videos.
But when it comes to the CPS visit, Ethan has spent the months since it happened, lashing out at Reddit, other creators, anybody who he can get away with trying to hold responsible. And he has not for 1 second stopped and examined how he might have been responsible. Never has he said, man, I told that story in kind of a stupid way. No, maybe I shouldn't talk about my kids' medical conditions in front of thousands of people. Nothing. I mean, Ethan spent almost the entire year leading up to the CPS visit complaining about the internet and how many crazy haters he has. He even told the Giardia story in an episode where he was addressing those people. iDubbbz also pointed out that there were members of H3's own audience watching the story live who were making comments about the Klein household being covered in shit. And the point of that shouldn't be to say that one of them might have called CPS. The point is that even Ethan's own fans thought the story sounded a little crazy. So what do you think the people who are not your fans are going to hear? You know, the ones that the episode was literally about, that Ethan must have known would eventually see it. Personally, I just don't give Ethan a lifetime pass for saying whatever he wants all the time. At some point, you are somewhat responsible for protecting yourself on the internet. And when people say things like this,
I think it's a problem that you are that open, Ethan.
They're not saying that Ethan is solely to blame. They're just saying he's acting like a moron. But Ethan's been given the green light by everybody to not only avoid any responsibility for himself, but also just lie about what happened. His claim is basically this. He told the Giardia story on stream in February. A few weeks later, Bad and Banana published this video about it, where he maliciously lies and twists the story to make Ethan look bad. After that, Denims reacted to Bad and Banana's video on her stream, but she didn't push back at it enough and spread his lies to her community. Her chat responded negatively to these lies, and then almost all of them started suggesting that CPS needed to be called. Denims did not moderate or discourage this behavior, and then one of her viewers must have called CPS. That's more or less Ethan's story. He calls this the big CPS lie.
She participated in the CPS lie, Child Protective Service lie. I explained it on the podcast, but the truth of the matter is it's all a lie.
So let's examine this narrative, and let's start with who he blames most directly for the CPS visit.
Denims endorses this clearly, as you can see, that it seems like she's directly responsible for CPS coming to my house in the morning.
But what did Denims actually do? Well, she watched this video on stream, and yeah, she expressed concern about what she was hearing. But expressing concern about something you hear is not the same as a call to action. It's not even the same as endorsing that action. Denims doesn't even mention CPS at any point during her coverage, and she never suggests a call to action of any kind. She just says the story is concerning and that parasites can be dangerous for infants.
I mean, much like many other illnesses, it's very, very, very dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get.
Which is technically true, by the way. But the point is that you can question somebody's parenting and not necessarily be saying that you think they deserve to have their kids taken away. And that's an important distinction, because after Denims threatened to sue Ethan for defamation, he started shifting the goalposts quite a bit.
I acknowledged Denims had denounced herself or anyone in her community making contact with CPS. And I do not believe Denims made a direct call to action to her audience to contact CPS, obviously, right?
Okay, so now we've moved on from this.
Denims endorses this. She's directly responsible.
And the claim is now that she essentially primed her community to call CPS.
The point is not that you instructed your audience to contact CPS. The point is that you propagated the false statements that led to this incident, and you turned a blind eye to your chat, urging people to contact CPS. His kids crawl around and eat shit, and her whole entire chat is saying to call CPS.
In his video about the CPS call, Ethan shows a cutout of Denims' chat during her coverage of the Giardia story. The cutout shows numerous chatters expressing concerns about the client's kids, with some mentioning CPS. The way Ethan presents this is as though Denim's chat was universally responding this way.
Notice the chat is almost in complete universal agreement. Call CPS. Call child endangerment. CPS, social services. Bro needs to unironically call CPS. That's child endangerment, etc., etc. I'll let the chat play for you, but you can see just how crazed this community is. And once again, this is Denim's chat, and it's pretty much 100% of the comments saying call CPS on them.
But what Ethan is showing here is in fact not 100% of the chat. This is a curated selection of chat messages that Ethan got from this Reddit post. In her response, Denims did the math, and between the first and last of the 65 messages that Ethan showed in his video, Denims had almost 1,000 messages sent in her chat, meaning the messages Ethan showed as evidence of her entire community being whipped up into a frenzy were only 7% of the messages sent during her coverage. And I also wanted to point out that several of the comments in that cutout, they don't even have anything to do with CPS, and they're very similar to a lot of messages from Ethan's own chat during the Giardia story. So it would be pretty dishonest to include these as evidence of wrongdoing, meaning the actual total of CPS-related messages in Denim's chat is even lower than this. But Ethan doubles down on this outright false presentation the next day.
I'm not exaggerating when I say literally every comment is call CPS.
Yeah, no shit. It's edited. I don't know if Ethan knew this was an edited selection, or if he just saw something that helped him out and didn't bother to verify it. But he immediately presented it as fact and used it to bolster his side of the story. And he tried to stand on it when he got challenged.
Love made a good point. You said, is this every comment? I believe this is a live feed of the chat. This isn't edited.
What about the top right? I thought these were
No,
selected.
it's this, I think when you full screen it. No, this is an edit. It's a cutout of the full chat. It's just enlarged there.
Oh, really?
Over the screen, yeah.
You know what? We'll just make it all up. We'll make the whole thing up. We'll dock it a picture. We'll make it up.
So yeah, this was nowhere near her whole chat. But even if Ethan thinks that Denim still should have moderated better, which I can probably agree with, there's a pretty big difference between a failure to moderate and being causally responsible for any subsequent action. Denims does have an obligation to try to mitigate harm, but failing to fulfill that obligation doesn't mean that she caused the CPS call. Denims didn't cause the call, someone else did. So when it comes to responsibility, what's really left? Well, some people claim that Bad Empanada is notoriously bad faith and malicious, so Denim shouldn't have platformed him in the first place. But I mean, we're just getting so far away from any true culpability here. Like, what, Denims is responsible for the call because she watched a video from a guy who might be known to lie, and then a tiny portion of her chat responded to the lies, and Denims didn't delete every single one of them, and then days later the call gets placed, which could have been anybody, but we just assumed that it was Denim's fault because, I don't know. Like, is this really the standard of responsibility that we're gonna hold people to? At that point, Denims is so detached from the action of calling CPS itself, it doesn't really seem fair to blame her for it. But you know what? Let's accept Ethan's entire premise here. Let's say Denims is responsible for not moderating enough and for platforming these harmful lies without pushing back. What are the supposed lies? What does Ethan claim Bad Empanada said that was false?
Denims uncritically, that's you, played a clip of George Janitis, the human STD, a person whose Denim knows is clearly biased against me and a prolific spreader of misinformation. In the video, Denims watched George Janitis, the human STD, claims that there was dog shit all over my home, that I just leave it on the floor.
Okay, so first supposed lie, and we have to point out that again, this is something that Ethan's own audience intuited during the Giardia story. Ethan also has a documented history of talking about having dog poop in the house.
My dogs are not extraordinarily trained, right? They run around, they play a lot, and sometimes, especially the little dogs, go potty inside. So admittedly, my dogs are not the best trained, right? I admit that. You think my fruit is bringing...
I think you're half correct. It's half the fruit, and the other half is the dog shitting.
Love Shredder and Alfredo. I do, but I've stepped in their shit multiple times.
How many times do we get poop inside? What's going on here?
Almost every day that they're here.
It was a delivery guy. He stepped in shit.
But
Holy shit.
Oh my god.
I stepped in shit and tracked it all over.
It's like a super, how do you call it? Like strings, you know, from one of the dogs. I was just passing my foot over it and felt a bump. It's old, by the way. It's hard.
So I'm sorry, it's defamatory to suggest that your house was covered in dog poop? Okay, moving on.
That my house is just covered in dog shit. My kids crawl around in dog shit.
You kind of made it sound like that.
Olive has Giardia. She had diarrhea. Sonny's crawling around. He's putting everything in his mouth. He's at that age.
Okay, next.
He intimates that my kids either eat dog shit or get in contact with it with their hands.
No, actually, you intimated that.
It can go on surfaces and stuff. So Olive chews everywhere. So Sonny, it makes sense why he got it. You have to ingest my poop.
That is literally you saying that if Sonny had Giardia, he would have gotten it from contact with poop-contaminated surfaces.
That my children contracted a parasite called Giardia from the dog shit that is all over my house.
Okay, even if the dog poop wasn't literally all over his house, Ethan consistently likes to pretend that it's an evil snark narrative that his child did contract Giardia.
It actually turns out when we got all of the poop tests back, he never had Giardia even. And that's why they called CPS. Because my 10-month-old baby had diarrhea. Sonny's crawling around, he's putting everything in his mouth, he's at that age. He has Giardia.
He has Giardia.
So I'm just kind of struggling here. Where are the defamatory lies?
She believes his lies, his defamatory statements. You did not disavow. You did not disclose the credibility of Bad Empanada. You uncritically platformed and agreed with the statements that I was putting my kids in danger.
We're talking about CPS, which anyways, to begin with, 1, I don't condone. 2, I've never condoned it, and you will not be able to find a clip of me saying, yes, we should do this, because it doesn't exist.
Just for the record, I don't think Ethan deserves to have his kids taken away. I think calling CPS over something like this was pretty crazy, and I think he's probably a perfectly fine dad. But that being said, the malicious lies that his entire victim narrative revolves around are just things that he himself said. And this is what Ethan does. He puts things out there himself, and then if you use them against him, he just calls you a liar. He makes you uncomfortable with his jokes, and then when you complain about it, he says you're just trying to ruin his life. He spends months expressing incendiary political opinions, and then when you criticize him, he just says that you're probably a racist. He fumbles a story about his family's medical conditions, and then calls you a liar for repeating it back to him. Ultimately, one person is responsible for the CPS call. Not Hasan, not Denims, not Reddit. One random person that Ethan will likely never identify because CPS calls are anonymous. But notice how this incident's been used. Suddenly, everyone who criticizes Ethan is responsible for trying to take his kids. Same thing with the skulls. One unhinged person is now proof of a coordinated attack. And this very convenient framing is deliberate. Ethan's been going after Hasan, Snark, and anyone else in his crosshairs for months, but I don't like what they said about me doesn't play quite as well as they tried to hurt my family. So now every grudge that he already had gets filtered through these incidents. Remember that Ethan was already going after all these people. The CPS and Skulls incidents just gave him the justification he needed to escalate. On June 19th, Ethan announced in a video titled "I'm suing these 3 creators" that he had registered his content nuke video on Hasan with the US Copyright Office, a move that federally protects the work from infringers. He went on to name Denims, Frogan, and Kaceytron as the 3 targets for newly filed copyright infringement lawsuits. To me, this is sort of the culmination of Ethan's feud with the Hasan sphere. He says he was laying a trap for certain creators and claims he knew they'd react to his video with minimal commentary and essentially steal his content.
It's not that I wanted these people to steal my video. It's that I knew they would. I knew they would watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion.
I don't even know what that last part means, by the way. Like, what, they should have waited a few days to watch your video? Like, what was he even trying to say there? Regardless, his cases do seem pretty strong. Specifically, Kaceytron and Frogan's reactions to the content nuke appear pretty short and lacking in meaningful commentary, and the primary defense against copyright infringement, which is fair use, likely wouldn't work for them. But in classic Ethan Klein fashion, he's been extremely dishonest about his intentions and what these lawsuits are actually about. For starters, Ethan claims in his video that his entire mission is to fight against content theft and stand up to lazy React streamers.
Why should these content thieves, essentially, get more views than the author of the video, which in a lot of cases was happening? I mean, people don't like injustice, and we all see this and know it's not right.
But his criteria for who he decided to sue was a little more specific than just those who watched the content nuke in full.
There were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. These people not only violated all of the principles of fair use, they also did it maliciously. And that's the part that really got me. It's the stated malicious intent to steal.
And I suggest you all watch it through other people as well.
If you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe.
A lot of people have been wanting to watch this without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein.
So Ethan is targeting people who maliciously reacted by openly stating that they wanted to avoid supporting his channel. And to a lot of people, that makes sense. Go after the people who were trying to harm your channel. But the problem is that both legally and logically, the concept of a quote malicious reaction is kind of fucking incoherent. So legally, any focus on malice in a copyright lawsuit would be a misapplication of copyright law. In US copyright law, especially when arguing for fair use, intent, or malice, has pretty much nothing to do with whether infringement has actually occurred. The primary test for fair use focuses on 4 factors, mainly whether the work has been sufficiently transformed by adding new meaning or commentary. But intent, or malice, is not one of those 4 factors. Someone could be completely unaware that material they're using is even copyrighted, and they can still be found guilty of infringement. Malice might come into play later when determining damages, but legally, it's completely irrelevant to whether anyone's guilty of copyright infringement. And logically, Ethan's focus on malice doesn't really make sense either. Look at it this way. If somebody steals your property, whatever they say they're doing isn't really relevant. If someone steals a bike from your front yard and rides away saying, "It's okay, I'm not stealing it, I'm just riding it," they're still stealing your bike. They're receiving all the benefits of theft, and you're experiencing all the harm of it, regardless of what they said they were doing. With React content, it's the same thing. If you watch someone's entire video on stream, you've taken their content and given your audience a version they can watch instead of the original. Whether you say, "I'm stealing your viewers," or you say, "I love this creator," doesn't change what you're doing. The only thing that matters here is whether or not your coverage adds enough to the original video to make it a fundamentally different product, which would mean you're no longer stealing. And furthermore, everyone who reacts to an entire video on stream with minimal commentary knows that that's what's happening. They know their audience is watching through them instead of going to the original. That's not a secret, that's how the genre works. So if somebody knows they're stealing viewers and they choose to do it anyway, isn't that literally the definition of malice? So then what's the difference between what these 3 women did and anyone else who gave a low-effort reaction to the content nuke? Well, materially, there isn't one. All of them willfully chose to deprive Ethan's channel of potential viewers. The only difference is Denims, Frogan, and Kaceytron said those words out loud. I do want to briefly point out that I'm not even really sure that Denims or Kaceytron did in fact openly state an intent to steal views. I know Ethan's convinced everyone that that's what happened, but look at what they actually said. Denims responded to a chatter saying they wanted to watch the content nuke through someone else and simply confirms that she is in fact going to react to it, which isn't really malicious. At the end of the video, she makes the comment from earlier. If you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, etc. That's not really malicious intent either. The video is already over, and it's simply an acknowledgement that some people were there for that reason. Same thing with Kaceytron. A lot of people have been wanting to watch this without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein. That's not really a statement of intent, it's just kind of a fact. And that's all she said. So is this really them saying they're trying to steal Ethan's views? I'm not really convinced of that. They seem more like statements of awareness about the market for boycotting Ethan Klein's channel. But let's leave that aside, let's say these were explicit statements of malicious intent. There's another creator who Ethan is not suing who did the exact same thing. XQC proudly admitted that he is stealing Ethan's content during his reaction.
I actually admitted watching it. I admitted watching it. People think reacting on stream? No. Watching. I'm not reacting to this. I'm watching this. What about it?
If Ethan actually cared about lazy React content, XQC is a prime example of somebody he should be going after. He reacted to the content nuke in full with minimal commentary, he's got a massive audience, and he's openly admitted he doesn't care about intellectual property. To Ethan.
So in that regard, do you care at all about like IP or copyright? Does that matter to you?
No.
It doesn't matter.
Well, if flat out doesn't.
During that same debate, Ethan specifically called out XQC for using deceptive thumbnails, taking the original creator's thumbnail and slapping his face on it to confuse audiences and siphon views.
The fact that you're using the same title and the same thumbnail is so parasitic, it's so shady. You are only doing that to siphon off views and confuse people. There's no other reason for that.
But that's exactly what XQC did with the content nuke. By Ethan's own standards, XQC should be the first person he would go after. But when he watches him proudly admitting to stealing his property, he has only nice things to say.
I'm not reacting to this. I'm watching this. What about it?
And listen, I respect it, man. I acknowledge you.
We hear you.
I acknowledge you as the king of this shit.
So is Ethan just a pussy who won't go after someone that has the money to fight back? Yes. But more importantly, this shows that the lawsuits have nothing to do with malice or lazy React content or protecting intellectual property. This is just a targeted attack on specific people that Ethan doesn't like, which is not really what the court system is meant for. And of the people Ethan is suing, Denims is the clearest example of just how bad faith he's being here. I mean, Ethan spends his entire announcement video talking about the harm of lazy React streamers, like people who walk away from the video and leave it playing.
The problem seems to have only gotten worse. You have people like Hassan Piker paving the way of fair use with what's known as chair reacts, when Hasan gets up, disappears for an extended period of time, and leaves the video playing for his chair. Mr. Chair, they call it.
But Denham's reaction to the content nuke was nothing like that. The content nuke itself is less than 2 hours long, and Denham's reaction to it is almost 4 hours long. And according to Ethan's own standard, that should qualify as being transformative.
My reacting to Ian's content cop, which I finished in, my total reaction was probably what, like 5 hours or something in total? Maybe less, 4. And his was an hour and a half. I think that sounds pretty reasonable. That's like taking 2 times more than the original runtime, which seems like a good amount to contribute to have proper commentary, right?
So again, by his own measure of what fair use is, Denham sufficiently transformed his video, which should mean she didn't really steal anything. So why then is Ethan still suing her? Ethan had a problem. He wanted to sue Denham's, but as of right now, there really isn't that much legal precedent for full-length live React content like this, so it's pretty unclear whether Denham's reaction to the content nuke would legally be found to be an infringement on copyright, especially given the length and added commentary. And because Ethan couldn't know for sure, he decided to hedge.
Some of you guys out there sweating?
He didn't just register the content nuke with the US Copyright Office. He also registered the countdown stream that led up to it on the H3 podcast, which Denham's did watch live. And her reaction to this countdown stream is far less likely to fall under fair use. But the problem is this countdown stream doesn't seem like it's what Ethan was talking about when he expressed wanting to protect people's content. In his announcement video, he repeatedly mentions long-form content and uses Lamino, whose videos likely take weeks or months to make, as an example of unfairness.
What if I could make a long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist? They couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published.
So he's clearly making it sound like he's talking about video essays and things with high production quality, not some countdown stream. He specifically talks about Denham's here as though she reacted to the content nuke itself with no commentary.
I knew they would watch the entire video, add little to no commentary. After being gone for a few minutes, she returns and then sits silently for another couple of minutes eating.
But he doesn't mention the countdown stream a single time. It's almost like he doesn't want you to realize that he's completely spite-driven and full of shit.
You're lying! Maybe I am, so what?
And here's what makes that super obvious. Ethan didn't even register the countdown stream with the content nuke back in January. He did it in March, 2 months later. What happened in March that would make Ethan want to be sure he could go after Denham's?
That it seems like she's directly responsible for CPS coming to my house in the morning and interviewing my children.
These basically are not even really copyright lawsuits. It's quite obvious that Ethan just came up with a way to use the legal system against his personal enemies. And the ultimate goal of his plan was to threaten them with something that they couldn't fight back against. Take Kaceytron and Frogan, for instance. These two have pretty small audiences. They could not have meaningfully impacted Ethan's income at all. But Ethan is pursuing statutory damages, meaning his payout wouldn't be based on any actual lost revenue, but a fixed amount that the court decides upon, and could be up to $150,000. He's also asking for attorney's fees and prejudgment interest, just for good measure. This is Ethan applying the absolute maximum amount of financial pressure possible. He's not really trying to right a wrong. He's trying to make the cost of defense so high that they don't actually have a choice. Kaceytron, for instance, expressed concern about losing her home as a result of the lawsuit. And when she's facing that level of financial threat, she doesn't realistically have the option of trying to prove whether she's right or wrong. She's probably gonna just decide to not risk losing her house, which is likely why Kaceytron was the first of the 3 defendants to resolve her case. The 2 parties settled in December, and as part of that settlement, she was required to deliver an on-stream apology, a statement which consisted of roughly 26 seconds discussing the importance of copyright, followed by almost 3 minutes of things like this.
I also want to make clear that I did not receive any support, financial or otherwise, from Hasan Piker. Hasan never even reached out to me privately to offer words of support. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge other misconduct and bad behavior I have exhibited online. For example, weaponizing the death of Asmongold's mother was inexcusable. AB, along with his wife Lena, have done more than I have ever done for the Palestinian people. I apologize to Ethan and Hila personally. I have said extremely mean and cruel things about both of them. I also want to acknowledge the pervasive problem of anti-Semitism in leftist spaces. It should concern all of us. I condemn it and will not participate in it. To that end, I wish the client's success in enforcing TED Entertainment's copyright and protecting the legal rights of online content creators.
Ethan claims that these lawsuits weren't about the money. and he did this to protect the wider commentary community.
Even though theoretically I could sue a lot more creators and rake in millions of dollars, the purpose of this is not financial gain. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually, the opposite. I hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us all look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as we know it.
But when he was able to point a dollar bill-shaped gun at Kaceytron's head and force her to say whatever he wanted, even his intellectual property became an afterthought. He was almost exclusively interested in humiliating her, sucking up to Asmongold, dunking on Hasan, and otherwise just trying to win his little interpersonal online battles. Oh, and then boldly fucking lying afterwards that he had sympathy for Kaceytron and that the apology was genuine.
I think ultimately her apology was heartfelt and sincere.
You would have to be a total idiot to actually believe that.
It's incredibly stressful, both emotionally and financially, to go through a lawsuit.
It is,
Everybody
and I
knows
appreciate
that.
the situation she's been in.
You're the one putting strain on her situation. Ethan even made Kaceytron declare her willingness to help him pursue the H3 Snark moderators, who he claims colluded with the defendants to promote their streams.
For the record, I have agreed to cooperate with the Kleins in their litigation against the H3 Snark mods for promoting my live stream to the extent that I am able.
But his evidence for this is just this Reddit post listing publicly announced streams that were going to be reacting to the content nuke.
She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions couldn't be clearer.
But there's been no evidence presented of any two-way communication between the defendants and H3 Snark. So Ethan's even using these coerced statements to promote narratives about his enemies that he likely doesn't even have evidence for, which means that these totally spite-driven copyright lawsuits are being weaponized to compel the speech of the people that Ethan is feuding with, and all of it is in service of simply managing his online reputation. And even if you hate Hasan and Denims and all these people, what Ethan is doing here should repulse you, because it's extremely clear that his announcement video, the forced apology, his acceptance of the apology, this entire situation was a lie. And he lied because Ethan knows what he's doing is fucked up. He knows it's wrong to abuse the court to litigate personal grievances, so he has to pretend to be doing it for some greater purpose.
I mean, people don't like injustice, and we all see this and know it's not right. I hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that could destroy the commentary community as we know it.
Ethan, don't settle. Bleed her bank account bone dry. That's not my intention. My intention is just to obviously stand up for what's right.
But that's obviously not what's happening. None of what Ethan is doing will help the React community. These cases won't establish any helpful legal precedent, and he's not even setting a social precedent against blatantly stealing content, because he's letting the most long-time egregious offenders off the hook. The precedent that Ethan is setting is that wealthy creators can use the threat of litigation to suppress the speech of people they dislike. And despite Ethan claiming he wants to avoid a chilling effect,
I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear.
This will establish a totally different kind of one. Spite-driven lawsuits like this threaten the entire foundation of online commentary. Healthy internet ecosystems thrive on creators engaging with each other's work. Commentary, criticism, live reactions, whether positive or negative, these things expose audiences to new creators, generate more content, and keep the space dynamic and interesting. Creators respond to each other, build off each other's ideas, and issue criticisms. But weaponizing the legal system over personal beef undermines all of that. And Ethan knows it. That's the reason he's doing it. Maybe if there were a legitimate standard that Ethan was trying to correct, then I could get behind him. But that isn't what's happening. He didn't go after everyone who actually stole his property. He didn't go after people who meaningfully affected his income. He didn't even go after the people who actually set the current standards for the thing he claims to be concerned about. He went after 3 small-scale creators that he hates. And he's using his vastly superior wealth to force them to say whatever he wants. Attacking his enemies, making political statements they likely don't believe, and humiliating themselves publicly, all while lying to your face about what he's actually doing. And the thing is, it doesn't matter whether Kaceytron is a good person or whether she said shitty things about people. It doesn't matter what Denims or Frogan have done in the past. What matters is whether you think someone with money should be able to abuse the court to silence their enemy's speech and expression. Because that is the standard Ethan is setting. Not a standard about transformation, not one about protecting intellectual property. It's just the standard of don't piss off Ethan Klein. And if you're not disgusted by that notion, you should be. Ethan would be.
In this country, we value free speech. And what a reaction video ultimately is free speech. I think if you're a reactor on Twitch, if you make a good faith effort to comment, and if you make a good faith effort to promote the author, to link to them, to try to drive traffic to the original video, I think you're probably pretty much doing the right thing, and that's fine. Fair use doesn't give a shit if you watch the video first or not. I didn't watch this video first. I knew they would watch the entire video, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. I have to show that I've watched it before and thought, well, I have something good to add. I didn't watch your video beforehand, bro. A long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist. They couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published. It's speech, bro. I don't need anyone's permission to say anything. You can't just say whatever you want. You can't just say, I'm in favor of genocide. You gotta watch what you say. I'm not standing by this shit anymore. And I'm gonna call out people like Brendan, too, because this is just bad for everyone. And it's especially egregious considering the hypocrisy of the whole free speech thing that these guys apparently love so well. Free speech! You go to free speech. Shut up, dumbass. You're shutting down criticism and you're pretending like it's a copyright issue. It's not. It's fair use. It's protected speech. This isn't a free speech issue. This is people are fucking getting way too comfortable slandering and saying whatever they want about people online under the guise of free speech. There's lots of videos shitting on me on the internet. You know, I wish I could just delete them off the internet. You know, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be just convenient? But you know what? You can't do it. That's free speech. You know, and free speech is tested when it's targeted at you. You can't just say whatever the fuck you want. It's time to start holding people accountable for the shit they're saying. I fight every day to protect free speech. I put my money on the line, I go to court, and I'll do it as many times as I need to. You guys have been doing this for years. It's the jig is up. You're gonna have to tell it to a judge, literally. By the way, this guy likes threatening to sue people. All over fair use and my right to free speech. And if I wanted to sue you, I probably could fucking ruin your whole life. It'll be great to sue them. I'd love to sue her. I'd love to sue him. I'm gonna sue you. It's not a threat. I'm going to sue you. We get to pursue legal fees for this garbage, anti-free speech lawsuit. And to all the detractors who are saying that I'm a hypocrite for suing for copyright infringement, I just have this to say. I don't care. It's easy to defend free speech when it's got nothing to do with you, right? When it makes you look good. But when free speech makes you look bad, then let's see how much you defend it.
But the moment online criticism became too difficult for him to handle, all of those principles went out the window. And not only has he completely abandoned those principles, he's become the thing that he spent so much of his career complaining about. As an example, look at the initial complaints for the lawsuits. These were over 80 pages long and contained things like a comparison between Hasan and Haj Amin al-Husseini, a notable Nazi collaborator during World War II. And yeah, this is clearly partially intended to waste opposing counsel's time and rack up the defendant's legal fees. But Ethan's been on the receiving end of litigation like this before.
He's doing a spite lawsuit trying to ruin our lives. And God forbid I actually fight back against a fucking total fraudulent copyright lawsuit. Well, fuck you, bro.
Or how he spent the last 2 years complaining about online harassment. But in the versions of these complaints that Ethan linked under his announcement video, he censored his lawyer's contact information, obviously to try to prevent harassment. But he did nothing to protect the identities of the 3 defendants, which were previously not widely known. I mean, sure, court filings are public, but then why censor anything at all? Ethan knew what he was trying to protect his lawyer from, but he declined to try to offer that same protection to the defendants and published it to millions of people. I don't know if most people would think of this as doxing, but I don't know what else to call it. And if that is what this was, we shouldn't be surprised. Ethan has clearly shown, time and time again, that he has no standards of any kind. I mean, like back during the Matt Haas lawsuit, I can't speak for everybody, but I supported Ethan. Yes, partially because of fair use, but also because it was obvious that Matt Haas simply didn't like that someone was making fun of him. It was clearly a case of someone abusing copyright law to go after their enemies. But now that's Ethan, and he's like this with everything. He condemns things when they work against him, but he's perfectly fine with them when they work for him. Like, he considers it harassment when people contact his sponsors over his own controversial statements, but it's totally fine to contact sponsors when he decides it's okay.
It must be nice to be racist, openly racist, bigoted, and Twitch does nothing. Capcom, Samsung, and Chevron should absolutely know about what kind of content Twitch is putting in front of their logo.
Or how he thinks snark is the worst possible thing on the internet, but he didn't have a problem with it when it was someone else. His own community is basically Hasan's snark at this point, and they're just mimicking his own behavior.
And he's the type of guy that keeps his girlfriend a secret. I'll just spill the beans. I don't care at all about him. I asked, I said, why do you keep your relationship with Valkyrie a secret? And it was his decision.
He likes everybody dreaming of being with him.
That's obviously why.
He hates people bringing up personal, sensitive stuff, like talking about his dead dog, but he'll readily reveal intimate, private details about people whenever he wants. Seriously, how do you think Ethan would react in 2026 if someone made an entire website dedicated to comparing him to, I don't know, how about convicted mass murderer and child rapist John Wayne Gacy? Which I did do, by the way. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, the point is, this whole thing between Ethan and Hasan, it was never about Israel or Palestine. It was never really about harassment. This was always about a 40-year-old former online hero who torments himself over what people online are saying about him, and who completely loses his mind over not having control over it. He's been losing subscribers and obsessively coming up with massive conspiracy theories to explain why, instead of facing the obvious, which is that he pretends to be honest and stand up for things. But he's a giant crybully whose only principle is self-preservation, and he'll sell you any lie that he can to try to uphold it, which makes Ethan
a fucking Weaselly little liar, dude. A fucking Weaselly little liar, dude.
For his efforts, Ethan Klein's the winner of our first Weaselly Little Liar Award, the Sort of a Piece of Shit Award. Mazel tov. So you'd probably think that vexatious lawsuits, lying, doxing, and harassing smaller figures into silence would be met with widespread condemnation online. But actually, Ethan is surrounded by a gang of similarly dishonest creators who've been clapping like seals at somebody who has the time and the money to go after Hasan and his orbit. These people have a variety of motivations. Some of them are clout hungry, some of them feel personally slighted by Hasan, and some of them are perhaps just mentally disabled. But all of them deserve to be recognized for helping usher in this new online meta where there are no standards of behavior whatsoever, as long as the person on the other side is named Hasan Piker. Time for the awards ceremony. Let's take a look at Cameron F305.
Hey there, folks. I'm your local content cop. I make sure everyone's content is up to par.
Cameron F305 is the owner of an up-and-coming commentary YouTube channel. He's 21 years old, he has around 80,000 subscribers, and he's the smallest online figure in this video, but he's also one of my favorites. Cameron is somewhat well known for various interpersonal online dramas, most of which stem from his time working for free on an offshoot of the highly dysfunctional video game project Yandere Simulator as a music producer. After departing that project, Cameron would go on to produce his own music, inspiring the hearts and minds of probably at least one person, somewhere.
I need you to run. I'll run right back to me. I'll run right back to me.
That song is incredible. But Cameron would gain much more notoriety in May of last year after releasing a pair of hit pieces on iDubbbz. Now to me, iDubbbz hate content has been done to death. He's just an easy and safe target, and everything to be said about him has already been said. So this type of video is just kind of soulless and lazy. But Cameron will happily take that low-hanging fruit. He capitalized on the recent Content Cop videos on Ethan by parodying the series and turning it around on iDubbbz. Except it's not really a parody because he's not satirizing it or making it funny, he's just copying it and doing it worse.
iDubbbz, you're a piece of chat. Please log off the Ethernet.
Oh, come on, Cameroon. You're just mad that iDubbbz doesn't say the naughty slurs anymore. He's very mature now. I think you need to grow up.
Yeah, both of these videos are pretty fucking terrible. They're like exactly what you would expect from someone making an easy, lazy hit piece on a guy who's already widely hated.
You can make mistakes and grow from them. That's fine. But don't make that your entire fucking personality. And even if you don't resonate with it anymore, don't shit on people who enjoyed your old content. You come off as disingenuous and extremely fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's just fucking whining about the same shit everyone else has already said about iDubbbz. But somehow there are still a lot of people out there who will endlessly consume brainless content like this, so these videos actually did pretty well. Cameron earned over 1 million views on the first one, and several 100,000 more on the follow-up. The success of these two videos helped Cameron work his way onto H3's radar, and he received a shout-out from the big man himself.
This dude put in so much more effort than Ian. Holy fuck. Anyway, check it out. It's really good. Good watch there.
It isn't. From here, Cameron would start to very shamefully act like an Ethan Klein cheerleader and desperately try to get his attention and approval.
Fucking Ethan is going demon mode right now, and I love it. I love petty Ethan, dude. I love petty Ethan. This is great. Ethan, if you're watching this, can you shoot me an Instagram DM? I mean, I guess I can ask him after, but
Will Smith is one of the most famous cucks.
Yeah! Yes! Ethan! Get after him!
let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
I don't know what the that was.
But he also got noticed by Noah Samson, a large pro-Palestinian creator, who made this comment while talking to iDubbbz about the hit pieces.
I don't know if you saw the guy who made the content cop about you, right after the H3 content cop was outed as a
that came
pedophile.
across my feed.
Was outed as a child rapist.
Cameron very strongly objected to Noah's comments, claiming that it's a baseless accusation, and he started desperately trying to further latch on to Ethan Klein by threatening to join in on Ethan's existing defamation lawsuit against Noah. But the problem for Cameron here is that it isn't really outright defamatory for Noah to have referred to him as a child rapist. We're not going to dive too deeply into the story today, but the general gist of it is that Cameron is accused of meeting up with a 16-year-old girl when he was 19 and having a series of strange and inappropriate interactions with her. On one occasion, she claims Cameron demanded that she kiss him before he would let her out of his car, and on another, he allegedly picked her up to try to forcibly perform oral sex on her.
He got handsy, told him to stop multiple times, told him I wasn't interested in oral, gave him a bunch of reasons why I didn't want to. He didn't listen. He tried to forcibly put me on him, so I kicked him, and he was like, whoa, there's no need for that. That was a whole thing.
Now, it would obviously be impossible to definitively prove one way or another if Cameron is guilty of what he's accused of. But I will say, the story of his accuser has remained consistent and is supported by evidence she's provided, such as location data. But I think the strongest evidence there is against Cameron is that when responding to allegations against him, he has repeatedly chosen to lie, numerous times. If you want to get a more detailed look at the allegations against Cameron, as well as his overall pattern of dishonesty in responding to them, check out this video by Morale that's linked in the description. This video doesn't cover absolutely everything, but it does give a pretty solid overview of Cameron's pattern of lying. Some examples of the behaviors that Morale outlines include faking Discord logs, changing his stories over time, and on one occasion he seems to have even manipulated a police report to damage the credibility of another one of his accusers.
While I'll keep the individual's name censored, you can see he is labeled as a black male born in 1987. I'm not sure if this is Cameron's roommate or another tenant of the apartment complex or someone completely unrelated, but it's not about Krexa, and Cameron knows this. To summarize, Cameron lied about what the report says, he lied about how he got it, and he lied about who redacted it. And he did this all to make someone accusing him of abuse look mentally unstable.
There's a very awesome interview with Aiden Underground where Cameron is being asked to produce an original, unedited audio recording of a call between him and his accuser, and he spends like 30 minutes coming up with the most insane reasons to not have to show it.
Because you took like 20 minutes to find that. Can you just go to your file explorer, hit home, so it shows recent? Can you just do that?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm not showing you all the fucking, there's shit I'm working on that I don't want leaked. There you go.
Can you scroll down by one file?
No.
Just one file. Okay, one more.
No, now you're just being retarded.
There's no way the super secret information conveniently is the
I'm not leaking I'm not leaking my next video.
The first 4 files you show me are all related to what we've just been shown. So I want you to go to the 5th file, and it's very convenient that the 5th file is going to be some top secret information that you can't show in your most recent.
I just would rather not.
This is just very suspicious, man. It is very suspicious.
How in the fucking God's name is me not wanting to show you the fucking premiere file for my next video suspicious?
You don't have to. You just rename it and then you could screenshot. It takes 2 seconds. Watch, I'll do it now. Time it.
But it's a waste of time.
Yeah, again, we'll never be able to fully prove if Cameron is guilty or not, but a good barometer for these things, I think, is if someone is accused of something, and in response, they lie 47 different times, it doesn't exactly make me think they didn't do it. So Cameron, sorry buddy, but you've been accused of sexually assaulting a minor, and to date, the allegation seems more credible than not. So when someone like Noah Samson says you're a child rapist, I don't think many lawyers are gonna take that defamation case, which is probably why it seems like Ethan doesn't really fuck with you.
You know, as time goes on, I'm getting more cynical about it, and I'm just it's probably not gonna happen. He's probably not gonna add me onto it. It just might not fit the case that Ethan and Muda have. You know what I mean? The Noah news, exactly, Kilo. And that's where It's extremely hard to prove that stuff.
And Cameron's dishonesty extends to his coverage of Hasan as well. In his content cop on Ludwig, for example, Cameron includes a clip of Hasan talking about attending a Diddy party, which, as we all know, is intended to paint a picture of sexual misconduct, potentially involving minors.
Did you guys know Hasan attended a Diddy party?
I walked into this like back like sphere Epcot looking thing in the back of like the house that P. Diddy was renting for his and was throwing after parties at Coachella, and they were playing like these crazy things for people who are high. One of the images that they were playing was like this little girl, this like supposedly attractive, very young girl.
Nice friends you got there, Ludwig.
Yeah, so he cuts the clip off there and then throws up this disclaimer to say now there's no proof Hasan did anything weird with kids. But Cameron conveniently leaves out the very next line of the clip, where Hasan expresses discomfort with attending the party.
This like supposedly attractive, very young girl like opening up a Christmas gift. And I think I told you about this where I was like, this is some real weird Alex Jones style pedo thing here. This is exactly how I felt walking into that house where I was like, this is weird. This is really weird. Everyone here looks really, really weird.
And when confronted about this blatantly dishonest clipping, this is Cameron's defense.
Why did you cut context from the Hasan going to a Diddy party? He said he left when he saw that. I wasn't accused, like, that doesn't, I'm sorry. What context did I cut out? You don't show the full clip? Of course I don't show the full clip. You think I have time for that? It was like a 2-minute clip. My goal for my videos is to always put them to like 30 minutes. You think I'm trying to like have the full thing? You could go find the full context yourself.
I see. So it's okay to lie in your videos, because when you really think about it, it should be the viewer's responsibility to go figure out what the truth is on their own.
Amazing.
I mentioned earlier that Cameron was one of my favorite subjects in this video, despite him being a bit irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. And it's because he's a great case study for how just soullessly hating on Hasan and his friends can bring you overnight success, even if you're just a deeply weird little freak like he is. These days, Cameron spends his time constantly asking his audience what he should make next instead of coming up with any original ideas, and then just making more shitty content cops, despite having previously stated that he wasn't going to keep doing that. He's lied about serious accusations to protect himself, lied about Hasan to gain favor, and built his entire presence on being an opportunistic rat. And for that, Cameron F305 remains a Weaselly little liar. The Possible Child Rapist Award goes to Cameron. Congratulations, buddy.
Hasan is a political streamer, the most popular by far, and look, I'm not someone who claims to be very knowledgeable about politics, but even to me, it seems like he has some pretty crazy takes.
WillyMac is a large commentary YouTuber with over 200,000 subscribers. He has an established presence in the drama sphere for making somewhat useful and accessible breakdown videos on new internet stories and controversies. Willy's most recurring topic for the last few years is Hasan Piker. In fact, since October 7th, a third of his videos feature Hasan in the title or the thumbnail, and he routinely gets mentioned in other videos that don't have anything to do with Hasan. This guy's obsessed, unhinged even. Now, I'll be fair, Willy's videos on Hasan, they're not that terrible. I mean, they're not good, but occasionally he can make some halfway decent points. But his main criticism of Hasan essentially boils down to inaccuracy and misinformation, which unfortunately doesn't really hit quite the same when you realize just how unreliable of a source Willy himself has become. Demonstrating Willy's ineptitude across all these Hasan videos would probably take us hours, but thankfully for us, Willy and Hasan debated this very topic in November of 2023. Now, for some reason, a lot of people consider Willy to have dominated this debate, but I watched the whole thing again recently, and honestly, he comes across like there's something wrong with him. Willy spends the first, 10 minutes of this debate whining that Hasan didn't watch his video on him, as if that somehow makes Hasan unprepared for the conversation that is about himself.
You want to debate about a video you didn't even watch?
Give me the fucking takes, and we'll talk about it.
You're going into a topic you don't know anything about.
It's like, yeah, why don't you just make the criticism? I shouldn't have to research or prepare for a criticism that is about me. Motherfucker, I'm me.
Brother, just give me what you want to say. Give me what you want to say. The video's about me, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Talk to me about what the fucking points of the video are, and let's discuss it. The fuck do you mean?
My main criticism.
Why would I have to research a video about myself?
Willy uses this bizarre moment to say that Hasan is unprepared for the conversation, which he claims proves one of his points.
So let's hear.
I know, but
what
that
your
kind of like
gripes
that kind of
are.
links up to like my big criticism with you is that you don't actually put in the bare minimum effort to research anything before you jump to conclusions.
But even if this unpreparedness point was somehow not totally stupid and was actually fair, it gets immediately undermined by the fact that Willy isn't prepared either, because he has to pause the conversation right after this to go back and watch his own video to remind himself of the argument that he presumably is here to challenge Hasan with.
What is the lie that I told about Ukraine?
It's not a lie. It's just you made more claims. You made more basis.
Like what?
Claims.
What is the claim?
I gotta
Just
go
come
pull
on.
it up in the video because you didn't.
You didn't prepare for your
watch
own
anything.
fucking.
You just completely like you blew
Dude,
this whole
it's your
thing up, so I
video.
can't
It's your
figure
video
it out.
about me. These should be so simple for you to be like, this is where you lied.
All right, you got to give me a minute. This
Are
is
you trying to
research.
link
You
me your
haven't
video?
done
I'm
this
not gonna watch your
before.
video. Just say it with your mouth, with your words. Go ahead.
I have to watch my video to see what my receipt is because this is a year old. Right? I didn't know I didn't know where.
You don't even know your own
was
video.
going.
You don't know the contents of your own fucking video.
The confusing thing is, like, even if Hasan had watched Willy's video, Willy still had to go back and fetch his old arguments. Like, he wasn't prepared for the conversation either way. But that debate was kind of a microcosm of the big problem with Willy's attacks on Hasan. Almost all of what he says about him can easily be attributed to himself. Remember that his main criticism is that Hasan often gets things wrong.
My goal is to parse through information and misinformation.
You are the misinformation. You get everything wrong. What? You're allowed to lie, slander people, and make up your own misinformation? Your brand is division and misinformation for the sake of propaganda.
Willy, conversely, routinely prides himself on his research and accuracy.
I was the only one that reached out to everyone involved in this story. Me respecting what creators want on and off the record allows me to talk to all sides of the situation, builds trust with the creator, and also allows me to get follow-up statements for when the drama develops. The most time-consuming part for me making a video is researching the topic, because finding trustworthy news sources is hard. Everyone's reporting with some sort of agenda today.
It's really interesting to hear Willy seemingly present himself as being above having an agenda. It's entirely possible that Willy's research for his Hasan videos in large part consists of just reading subreddits that notoriously have a massive agenda against Hasan.
He claimed that streaming was more soul-sucking and draining on his social battery than a normal job. I sympathize that every line of work is going to have its days where it's hard, but comparing streaming in any way to a real job is so out of touch. Another thing I find funny is Hasan will make it a point to mock Destiny for doing research.
He did all that reading to scour talking points and still got owned.
If you're angry about police brutality, you can watch him laugh at a cop getting shot.
Are you okay? No, you shot me! Oh, God! Are you
This is a fairly common pattern. A lot of Willy's criticisms of Hasan can be found in Destiny's subreddit previously. Now, sure, a lot of these takes are kind of run-of-the-mill, and Willy could have come up with them on his own, but the pattern even holds with topics that, I'm sorry, there's just no way.
He compares the annexation of Tibet to the American Civil War.
And the example I used here was actually so f***ing good. Not to, hype myself up.
Yeah, something tells me this guy doesn't organically know a whole lot about the fucking annexation of Tibet. I actually had kind of a hard time finding arguments in Willy's videos that I couldn't also find in Destiny's subreddit. And there's no real moral issue with Willy doing his research that way, but if you're getting a lot of your information about Hasan from a community of people that start pissing and shitting themselves if he eats breakfast incorrectly, you do not have an agenda-free product. And this has become evident not just in Willy's content, but also his behavior. Over time, Willy has proven to be massively biased towards Destiny and his community. In fact, as it turns out, he seems to be consistently compromised in his ability to report accurately on the Ethan, Hasan, and Destiny conflict. This problem became apparent early last year when Willy published a video covering Destiny's non-consensual sex tape sharing scandal. In the video, Willy republishes unverified claims that he gets from Destiny, the person he's meant to be criticizing.
He goes on to say that people named Lav and Kelly Jean have been distributing his nudes, revenge porn in the literal truest sense. How many crazy women are part of this guy's life? At what point can I victim blame him?
Willy's deference to Destiny showed up throughout this video. Almost half of the runtime was a critique of other people, like the ones who broke the story. And at the end, he couldn't help but bring up Vosh and yes, Hasan as part of a weird, look how bad all these other people are type of segment.
So is Destiny's career over because of this? Well, if Tim Pool can frame himself as a patriot while secretly taking Russian money, Vosh can say Lolly makes you a pedo while having a folder full of Lolly, Hasan can frame himself as more credible than the media while reporting every story wrong, then why wouldn't Destiny recover from this? Let's be honest, the real punishment is Hasan will bring bring this up every chance he gets.
He also continues to glaze Destiny at the end of the video.
Destiny and I were not friends. However, I have a lot of respect for him. He's the only major creator in the political space that I have covered that actually looks stuff up, reads first-hand information, and directly engages with his critics.
And remember, all this glazing and whataboutism is taking place in a video that's supposed to be a confrontation about Destiny's crimes. But despite Willy's constant bragging about his superior journalism,
I was the only one that reached out to everyone involved in this story.
He included almost no information from the one person who actually accused Destiny of anything criminal. Another one of Willy's common attacks on Hasan is that he deflects from criticism.
Hasan loves to push the narrative to his audience that all criticism made towards him is invalid.
But listen to how Willy responds when he's confronted about his mistakes in his coverage of Destiny.
I think you didn't include the parts where Cherry is saying that he is harassing her publicly. And
all right, link me her tweet right now. That's the big thing with all the information.
I don't know if there's like an archival tweet for this, but there were tweets about it, right?
Wait, you can't look at more than one tweet.
Where is it?
Like,
you can't do
the bare
now?
minimum. Look at more than one tweet, Willy.
Yeah, I think I just didn't want to go down this fucking rabbit hole. I'm just sticking to the main story here.
You know, if I go think that's a part of the main story?
Yeah, there's a time where I need to cut off the video. I can't research shit forever.
So why would you regurgitate his false narratives?
I literally just read his statement. I didn't say if they were true or not. I don't know if they're true or not.
You could have messaged me, then multiple people even could have clarified.
Is the video about Kelly Jean? No, it's not about fucking Kelly Jean.
You just asked for misinformation example. I gave you one, you bitch.
Well, you're like nitpicking me, and I just have to draw a line at some point where it's like this criticism I don't think is valid.
So Willy's perfectly fine to puff out his chest about his integrity and accuracy and research. But the second he's challenged about his process failing him, he immediately retreats to things like, all I did was read off the misinformation, or, well, I can't do research forever. Things that I'm sure he would definitely let Hasan get away with.
So it wasn't a thoughtful commentary, it's him having an emotional outburst instead of engaging with why Dan is wrong, and then avoiding accountability when he gets criticized. He does this with everybody when the conversation gets slightly complex.
But Willy's total lopsidedness when it comes to talking about Destiny came to a head when he had his personal information doxed by Bad Empanada. Destiny quote-tweeted someone talking about the dox to publicly condemn Bad Empanada, which prompted some people to point out Destiny's glaring hypocrisy, as he is a proud open doxer himself. When JStock retweeted one of these criticisms, it completely broke WillyMac's brain. He immediately started attacking JStock for spreading his dox, conveniently glossing over the fact that Destiny was the one who originally retweeted it and to like 60 times more eyeballs. But when people pointed out how nonsensical this was, Willy doubled down, claiming that he wasn't mad at Destiny because Destiny was defending him. But JStock and Dickers, these guys weren't not defending Willy. In a way, they were actually kind of criticizing doxing in general. After some more back and forth, eventually Willy just responded with, "Alright everyone, post my docs cause Destiny has you all mind raped." Huh. Willy persisted with this absolutely incoherent take by releasing a video on the topic a couple weeks later.
At this point, my dox is already spread, the toothpaste is out of the bottle. What bothered me most in this moment was the narrative that I deserve it.
Nobody said that.
They're like, why aren't you mad at Destiny? He quote-tweeted your dox too.
Why aren't you mad at Destiny himself?
Destiny is defending my already viral dox that's already in the hands of all the people who hate me. We're acting like context and scale don't matter.
I don't even know how to analyze this. Destiny tweeting about Willy's dox is the largest in scale it would ever go, and the context of other people talking about it had nothing to do with doxing Willy. If it was already viral and everyone knew about it, then what the fuck is he complaining about? I mean it when I say this video was one of the most egregiously horrible pieces of content I've ever seen. It makes no sense, it's filled with misunderstandings of basic social concepts, and it contains completely unsubstantiated claims. In the video, he completely falsely attempts to implicate Queeman as somehow being responsible for the origin of his dox.
The truth is, Bad Empanada did not originate my dox. He maliciously spread it everywhere, but my dox originated on a niche forum by this guy's unhinged viewers.
And yes, this completely made-up narrative that Willy uncritically accepts came from, you guessed it, Destiny.
Guarantee Destiny told WillyMac that a Queeman fan doxed him, and he believed it uncritically. I might have said that. Let's see what I said exactly. So I sent him a message on July 21st. I said, no clue how active you are in these communities, how much you follow this stuff. You have all of Kiwi Farms amplifying / attacking you as well and stuff like this. The Queeman / shistical crowd all work together with them inside Discords and stuff. Be careful, matey.
Willy actually has no reason at all to believe his dox originated with Queeman or JStock's communities. His dox has been known since years before either of them even started streaming. Maybe you should talk to your buddy Tommy C about that one, Willy.
Yeah, why not? I thought it'd be weird. I lost your camera.
Willy's actually shown a propensity for pushing false stories about his enemies. He recently suggested on Twitter that Hasan was some kind of degenerate furry because years ago, he had commented on someone's DeviantArt profile who had favorited some furry-related images. The only problem is those images weren't favorited on that account until 10 years after Hasan's comments. Even the account that Willy was replying to deleted their original tweet, but Willy will just leave his up, and he'll ignore all the people telling him that he's wrong. But he will reply to and agree with people implying that his son rapes his dog. Once you see enough things like this, it gets pretty hard to keep giving WillyMac the benefit of the doubt. I used to just think he was a little dishonestly biased against Hasan and in favor of Destiny and Ethan. But his constant moronic behavior eventually made me realize that the problem isn't just a bias. We're talking about a fundamental lack of critical thought. Case in point, remember the comparison between Hasan and a literal Nazi in Ethan's filings for the copyright lawsuits? Denim sort of jokingly posed with this page to promote her OnlyFans. Obviously her way of kind of making fun of the ridiculousness of the complaints, while also trying to raise money for her defense. Willy, though, just has no idea what's going on, and instead tries to make it some anti-Semitic thing about Denim's posing with Hitler. And then when people try to explain to him what's happening, he, again, doubles down. Just completely missing the point. No idea what's going on around him. This isn't your run-of-the-mill, someone has an agenda or a bias that affects their content. The only explanation for this level of incompetence is that this guy isn't just dishonest, he's got like some type of disability. WillyMax built a lot of his credibility on criticizing people like Hasan for misinformation, poor journalism, and irresponsibility. Meanwhile, he'll reflexively spread false narratives about other creators, kind of serious ones like revenge porn and doxing, without verifying them. But when it's people he likes that are accused of serious things, he'll functionally run cover for them. But he has to do things that way, because that's been his brand for a long time now. He is the blue-collar commentary YouTuber that catches normal people up on how awesome Ethan and Destiny are and how terrible Hasan is. And he's too gullible to question what people tell him, too stupid to understand when he's being lied to, and too compromised to think for himself. Willy's friend Nicholas DeOrio put it best.
Willy's not like internet people and he's not terminally online. He's just like some fucking guy who makes commentary videos.
You see, Willy's just your everyday working man. He's just the most simple, dull, unexceptional guy you could think of. He's like the most normal guy ever, which is kind of the problem. WillyMacShow gets the literal most normal guy ever award.
The worst thing that I've ever done is call someone fat, call someone a whore, and then said, kill yourself to a chatter. And I am one of the most punished people on the internet. And you have people on the internet calling for the death of people online and falsely calling people rapists.
John Robert Robertson, also known as Tectone, is a popular 32-year-old gaming streamer with well over 1 million subscribers. He became popular through streaming the gacha game category, which is another way of saying that he teaches young people how to become addicted to gambling.
Please, just one more. One more orange. I'll do one more. Okay, I'll do one more. Oh, booyah! Yes!
After building a following, Tectone gradually transitioned into other genres, like Souls-like games. But present day, a lot of his content focus seems to be on effectively farming parasocial attachment from his audience.
I love my chat. I love my community. I love ya. Yo, chat, real quick, in y'all's opinion,
Tectone recently stepped away from streaming, and for a while now he's been almost exclusively posting rant videos and trauma dumps. For Tectone, these videos are the place where he gets to write the narrative about himself. He wants to position himself, in the eyes of his audience, as the good guy of the internet, who stands up to all the evil people and liars online.
And that's why so many people are preying on my downfall, because so many motherfuckers are gonna try to reemerge from their grave when they think that I'll leave, but I'm never gonna fucking leave. And that's why people push this bullshit so much. Because I've ruined the careers of so many fucking horrible people. So now they're going at me because I had to fucking end motherfuckers who were fucking bad eggs.
He also very much wants to be seen as wise and relatable, and he'll try to offer wisdom and life advice that probably goes really hard if you're like 14.
A relationship is work. A marriage is work. Now, eventually, there might come a time where you say, it ain't worth the work. If the soil is barren, you will not be able to grow a crop.
Really, he'll just post anything that he thinks makes him look good or sympathetic. In fact, he's recently invented a new meta for getting attention, which is doing or saying something really dumb that he knows will get him banned from Twitch, and then posting a performative video where he gets to complain about how maligned and beleaguered he is.
Now, I've been ban free for another month. This is my monthly ban.
He got banned 6 times last year alone, each time following it up with one of these videos. To get even more attention, he also started a slight political shift in his content recently, where he's been slowly easing into a very weird conservative grift. He'll go on rants complaining about liberals, cancel culture, wokeness, and basically anything that would appeal to very low IQ, politically uninformed people.
COVID era was very much ruled by woke libtards. It is driven by this cancel culture mob, these fucking leftist liberals.
I've lost a lot of friends for merely saying, it is okay to be white.
If white people are so bad, why the fuck do all y'all want to live in white neighborhoods?
Notice the I'm spitting right now hands. But Tectone's overall dull and performative personality has carried over to his attempts at doing political content, where he makes very strange connections between political topics and himself. Like after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, when he sort of lumped himself in with people who are being targeted.
From the Irna Zarutsky footage to the Charlie Kirk footage, I'm deeply unsettled. However, I'm very grateful that I am still alive. What are we doing where we are sympathizing with fucking murderers? Guys, I have been banned for nearly 2 months total over the past 4 months for calling people names, yet there are people out there calling for the deaths of other people, political figures, and attempting to radicalize and weaponize their audience to hurt people and kill them.
It's pretty obvious he's talking about Hasan Piker there, who lives pretty rent-free in Tectone's head. By the way, is this Tectone guy okay? Anytime Hasan experiences even the slightest controversy, you will find Tectone somewhere nearby complaining about how Hasan gets special treatment. In May, he threatened to leave Twitch permanently if Hasan wasn't appropriately punished. Tectone also invoked his father's military service to let us all know how passionate he is about this subject. Hasan covered this tweet on stream, saying this:
"My father, my brothers, and our soldiers did not bleed, sacrifice, and die for this bullshit to be allowed and promoted on Twitch." Now, there's much wrong with this. Turns out, this is who he was talking about, Tectone. Apparently, this is his dad.
The biggest photo you see is of Colonel Michael Robertson. He was convicted of 14 accounts of sexual assault. He only served 90 days in jail and paid a $30,000 fine.
As it turns out, Tectone's father, who's known in some circles as Iron Mike, is one of the most prolific sex offenders in US military history. He was the central example in a congressional campaign called Stop Military Rape back in 2011. Hasan drawing attention to this led to a public meltdown by Tectone, where he claimed that he had no idea about his father's history, and he took the opportunity to try to paint Hasan as the bad guy.
It's kind of hard to think of your family as a monster, I suppose. Due to this all being resurfaced by Hasan, I suppose I will no longer be interacting with my father in any way, shape, or form on my stream or my content.
Yeah, somehow it's Hasan's fault that you can't interact with your sex offender father on stream anymore. Apparently, it's all good to use your family members to try to argue for deplatforming someone, but if they point out that that family member is a piece of shit, then they're the asshole. This situation is a good example of how Weaselly Tectone can be. When his father was diagnosed with cancer a couple years ago, he referred to him as his best friend and lifelong role model, and said that he was always there for him. But ever since the incident with Hasan, all of a sudden Tectone speaks much more reservedly about his relationship with his dad.
I barely knew my father at all. I referred to my older brother as my dad until I was in 3rd grade because he would come around so little that I barely even knew who he was. I almost never spent any time with my father, ever. I never really liked my father.
Okay, John. But Tectone wasn't only upset about the comments about his father. Hasan had also said this.
Like, this man has, I guess, epigenetic memories of rape. He had to do it, you know? He just couldn't. He couldn't stop himself. It's just like, it's a familial obligation over here.
Tectone dishonestly likes to frame this to his viewers as Hasan calling him a rapist simply for being related to his father.
And to imply that I'm a rapist based on what my father has done? It's just a little bit crazy, isn't it?
That would be crazy. But Hasan was obviously referring to multiple allegations of abuse from 2 of Tectone's former partners, including at least 1 accusation of sexual assault from his ex-girlfriend Pingchu. Tectone didn't take kindly to Hasan's comments, completely distraught at the suggestion that he could ever be a rapist.
And to imply that I'm a rapist? After I myself have been raped twice?
The incident with Hasan, as well as an existing feud with some of his orbiters, led to Tectone attempting to latch on to Ethan Klein's war against them, and he started alluding to potential defamation lawsuits against Denims and Kaceytron for referring to him as a rapist.
Hey, Kaceytron, I will be getting in contact with Ethan Klein's lawyer on Friday. Man, we have a lot to talk about.
But if your gut reaction to Tectone's allegations is to think they're just allegations, so Hasan and his orbit should be more responsible with their language. Unfortunately, we have another situation where the preferred strategy for responding to the allegations is repeatedly and continuously lying. Tectone's dishonesty is very sprawling and elaborate. He's misrepresented timelines, pitted his exes against each other, and he's constantly alluding to hidden information that will completely exonerate him, that he can't reveal yet, but it never really comes.
And once I release what I'm going to release, and everybody sees it, and once I exonerate myself, because I'm telling you, when I get exonerated, I'm going nuclear. I'm just being straight up. I am counting the days, and if you don't apologize now, I do expect one when I prove my innocence in the months to come.
If you want to get a full overview of the allegations against Tectone, there's a pair of really good videos by Shamu that are linked in the description that cover everything in detail. Shamu also lays out Tectone's pattern of lying and manipulation. As a quick example, at one point, Tectone and his then-girlfriend Pinkchu became aware of abuse allegations against him that his ex-wife Freem was about to go public with. They learned about this through a mutual friend of Pink and Freem, who'd been told about a Google Doc that Freem was compiling outlining her accusations. Tectone tries to publicly get ahead of these allegations before anyone learns about them by raiding into a Pinkchu livestream, where she runs through a clearly rehearsed attempt to discredit and smear Freem as a stalker and a harasser and all kinds of other crazy shit. Pink also hints at something that Freem was planning on doing that would destroy her and Tectone's lives, but she doesn't specifically say what.
She was going to do something much worse, so bad it would have ruined all of our lives. I'm not going to say what it was that she was doing, but it was so horrific it would have ruined all of our lives.
But when Shamu was researching his video, he asked Tectone directly what Freem was planning on coming out with, and this is what he says.
I asked him what the allegations were that Pink mentioned were going to ruin all of their lives, not letting him know I already had the court documents proving what they were, and he lied to me. He said, quote, "No allegations were going to be made against me. This is between her and another woman." Provably a lie.
In the future, Pink would eventually go on to say that she was essentially manipulated into making defamatory statements against Tectone's ex-wife. This stuff is generally how Tectone operates when it comes to his allegations. He engages in tons of well poisoning, smear campaigns, and even outright blatant lies when he thinks he can get away with it. I do recommend checking out Shamu's videos in full. He was one of the first creators to put out a good video on this story, and his thesis seems to have been correct. In January, a Texas court granted Pinkchu's protective order against Tectone, finding that there was reasonable grounds to believe that he had committed sexual assault, harassment, and stalking. It turns out that this court case seems to have been the reason behind Tectone's temporary break from streaming. He was so incapable of keeping himself from smearing Pink on his livestream that he might have been legally advised to just step away entirely. This is supported by the fact that after an almost 6-month-long absence, Tectone returned to streaming on February 1st, less than 2 weeks after the protective order was granted. In this stream, which was clearly supposed to be his response to the situation, Tectone continued to lie about different aspects of the case, reminded everyone that he wasn't convicted of a crime, cried about Charlie Kirk, and yes, of course, he brought up Hasan. One funny detail that came to light from the court case was Tectone essentially suggesting that his new conservative-oriented content, as well as his fixation on Hasan, weren't motivated by politics, but by trying to stay relevant and getting attention. Shocker. Mizkif originally broke the story about the court ruling, and some people started distancing themselves as a result. But I don't really want to talk about the court case that much more. Not just because the details of what Tectone allegedly did to Pink are pretty demented, but also because we didn't need the court's ruling to make this determination. Similar to our Cameron F305 situation from earlier, while there may never be proof that Tectone sexually abused anybody, the sheer quantity of lies he deploys in defense of himself, to me, stands as pretty compelling evidence in and of itself. And this information was all already out there. There were multiple creators doing the work of laying out how much of a manipulative liar Tectone is. You'd have to be kind of a willful idiot to have defended this guy, even prior to the lawsuit. Kind of like Cameron, actually. Even after the court ruling, his instinct was to defend Tectone, which was probably because Tectone is a big fan.
What a fucking amazing video. Yo guys, go here, go subscribe to Cameron. Great content creator, bro's growing fast as fuck. Absolute W video.
What's the saying? Predators of a feather hunt together? The way Tectone cultivates parasocial relationships, his attempts at narrative control, his willingness to lie, all of this stuff points towards a guy who is beyond desperate to maintain his audience, probably because his channel is the one place where he gets to try to speak the way he wants to be seen into existence.
When everything's all said and done, oh, it's gonna be all over the internet, man. Like, when everybody knows that I did nothing wrong and I've been getting backstabbed for years by all these dumb fucks, the reality is, I've never done anything wrong. Here's the reality. Do you want me to tell you how to know that I'm innocent of everything that I've ever been accused of, chat. You want to know why? Because I'm a good dude, and that's pretty much all there is.
Tectone likes to talk a bunch of shit about people, but then he'll get into conversations with them and act small and passive. He'll say he's gonna exonerate himself, but he never actually responds to anything. He's a gambling addict, his politics content is an obvious grift, he's been caught botting his views, and he uses his platform to publicly smear women who accuse him of abuse.
How do I deal with him? I love him.
Don't touch me.
I'm patient.
No, you're fucking not. You're like the most impatient, moody fucker I've ever met.
I'm patient when it comes to you.
Freem, I carry our marriage, and you know that. Freem, you know that.
I think we have a pretty 50-50 marriage.
You're high. You're high. You're kidding.
You can't trust anything this guy says. He's like not even a real person. And all I'm really saying here is Tectone is the exact type of guy where if he's one of your biggest haters, in a way, it's a little bit of a compliment. Seriously, what are the redeemable qualities here? He's unfunny, unintelligent, inauthentic, fake, and probably abusive. And he's bald and ugly. Tectone gets the "let's be real, he probably did it" award.
I think that our children, okay, as a collective, our children are being exposed to shit that they should not be exposed to. And yes, that includes the weird sex shit that's pushed in schools, and it is also the unimaginable amount of random degenerate, furry, gore, porn, vor shit that you see in Roblox. And in my opinion, kids should not be exposed to shit like this.
This fucking thing is Nux Taku. Nux is a 30-year-old variety streamer with over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. He's most well known for his anime-related content, his time hosting some terrible podcast with Mudahar, and making weird shit like this.
I'm the jet type, berry poggers, mad type, Monka is mad lad type, epic clapping rat type, Twitch is hentai.
Nux's early career mostly consisted of satirical videos about popular anime series like Naruto and One Punch Man, before eventually incorporating video essays, analysis, and reviews of a wide range of anime franchises. In 2021, he debuted his animated virtual avatar, officially becoming what's known as a VTuber.
I promised you guys that I would do this a while ago, and the time has finally come. I have a VTuber avatar now, and it's time to take over the internet!
And from here on out, I'm gonna try to limit the number of clips that I use from Nux because, as you can tell, his voice is extremely fucking annoying. In 2020, Nux launched a second channel called Nuxanor, which originally focused on gaming and drama content. For a long time on this channel, Nux generally avoided covering politics.
This is why I don't do politics, okay? I don't want to talk about politics because it's the most toxic fandom of all time. As you know, politics, not really my wheelhouse. Not really stuff I cover, not really stuff I care about, and I am just some anime-looking idiot on the internet that you shouldn't actually be listening to for any political opinions.
But over time, his videos became more and more about real-world drama and current events, and eventually, he started covering politics directly. You can probably guess what Nux's political takes are like. They're just soulless, vapid, cancel culture bad, woke is bad, repetitive bullshit.
All the leftists pushing their fucking bullshit. We are so done with the entire cancel culture bullshit. And the TikTok liberals with the nose ring piercings, holy, they are not taking it well. Because wokeness is a cancer as well. Woke is dead is not enough. We don't just need the culture shifting away from woke. We need to destroy it. They want your children raped, and they want your children castrated. This is the party of evil.
It seems like what happened with Nux is also what happened with Tectone. Their foray into political content was inspired by Asmongold, and I imagine these two just like the idea of feeling like they have something meaningful to say about something other than cartoons. But the problem with this is that Asmongold is barely more sentient than either of these guys.
Oh!
And obviously, when someone who doesn't cover politics watches an idiot for a year or two, and then suddenly starts taking hard political stances, you're going to wind up with some pretty terrible analysis. Real quick example. In 2022, the US Department of Justice started an investigation into Donald Trump's plot to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Jack Smith was appointed to the case by the US Attorney General, but in November of 2024, Donald Trump had just won the presidential election, and as a result, Jack Smith dropped the criminal case against him because of the DOJ's policy that they cannot indict a sitting US president. Nux watches Asmongold's reaction to this story, and the level of engagement you get from either of them is incredible.
We've got some breaking news. Special counsel Jack Smith is seeking to dismiss the Trump election interference case in Washington, D.C.
Oh my god.
The way I see it, if he actually did do something wrong, they should punish him. No one should be more powerful than the law. But on the other hand,
Jesus.
If this is fake, and they're dropping the charges because they don't have anything because he won anyway, then you fucking pieces of despicable shit stains that literally wielded the legal system against this man for 4 years, you are vile. The way I see it, it's one of those two options, and either way, it's not pretty.
Those are not the only two options, in fact. Obviously, the third option, again, is that the case got dropped because of DOJ policy. But neither one of them says anything about this. Look at Asmongold just smiling like an idiot. But it gets worse.
This was expected. We've been
actual lizard people
reporting for a few weeks now that this would happen since the DOJ cannot prosecute a sitting president. Today, this news brings.
Wait, the anchor just told you guys what the third option was. She literally just said why. No, nothing? No comment? We just have no comment on that.
Oh my God.
Oh my God is right. And this stupidity just continues.
After almost 2 years of this Jack Smith saga, things seem to be ending for him.
Insane. Again, insane. Completely, absolutely bonkers. 2 years of using the legal system like a weapon against this man to just give up right now. Either you thought that he did wrongdoing, in which case you should continue prosecuting him, or you literally are evil scumbags.
Or
the DOJ cannot prosecute a sitting president.
You fucking idiot. This is what happens when you compound unintelligence. Asmongold is too dumb to understand what's going on, and Nux is learning everything from Asmongold, so there's just so little brain power involved in the end product. It's like a game of politics telephone, but you're playing with these special needs kids. I'm not cherry picking, by the way. A ton of Nux's coverage is like this. He just often has no idea what's going on. But aside from his general incompetence with covering politics, Nux has also inherited a fixation on Hasan from his buddies Asmongold and Tectone. He's one of the loudest slop tubers, constantly calling for Hasan to be banned from Twitch. But his favorite attacks on Hasan are also some of the most dishonest ones. Like, he's a big fan of the Rick Scott talking point, for instance. To this day, Nux will repeat the verifiable lie that Hasan told his audience to kill Rick Scott.
That is a lie, a bald-faced lie.
Or there's this other one, where Hasan supposedly threatened a viewer's life with what appeared to be a gun. Now, Nux is being very intentional with his wording here, because he's referring to this clip, where Hasan does brandish a gun. A BB gun. So already you kind of have to be like, how much do I really care about this? But then if you watch the actual clip, you'll clearly see that Hasan is responding to a viewer who had joined his chat and started calling for him to be beat up and hanged. And not like legally tried for his crimes and hanged, he's just saying, we are going to do this. So then Hasan says,
let's hang Hasan and Mamdani for treason, he says. The fuck are you gonna do, you skinny bitch?
And yeah, then he pulls out the BB gun and kind of waves it around for a second. And the obvious question one should ask themselves after seeing this clip is, who gives a fuck? If someone makes a threat of violence towards someone else, who cares if that person threatens them back? I mean, sure, Hasan technically threatened this chatter, but only in the context of defending himself. So to leave this story at the headline of, Hasan threatened a viewer with what appeared to be a gun, is total bullshit. But even if it wasn't, and there was some kind of call to violence or threat worth caring about here, I don't really want to hear it from this guy.
And the people at CDC who oversaw that process are the people who will be leaving.
Leaving? Fucking kill those motherfuckers! Leaving? Yeah, in a body bag! String them up Nuremberg style! They fucked a generation! Oh my God!
Wow, this guy's like a total bloodthirsty maniac. Now, there are plenty more examples we could go over, but for today, I'm specifically interested in one of Nux's favorite insults about Hasan, which is to refer to him as Hasan Diddy Party Piker. You'll remember from our Cameron segment earlier that Hasan did attend a Diddy party, but apparently he got uncomfortable and didn't stay very long. Now, obviously, if someone brings up someone attending a Diddy party, they're suggesting that that person has engaged in some sort of sexual misconduct involving a child. That's the implication. Or in the case of Nux, the explicit accusation. And while we've already seen that that suggestion for Hasan seems to be flatly untrue, Nux Taku is quite the interesting person to be making such accusations. You see, in the past, Nux has gotten into quite a bit of controversy for some of the anime-related content that he's put out. Specifically, he more or less built some of his following off of basically towing the line between YouTube-friendly content and pornography. If you take a look through Nux's library, you will see lots and lots of absolutely degenerate, filthy thumbnails, often involving drawings of very young-looking women with captions like, "My clothes," and "bigger than I thought." Many of these thumbnails feature things like Pornhub colors and typography. Here's one with an ahegao face, a classic expression in hentai and anime porn. There's actually a really good video by Harmful Opinions that, among other things, lays out exactly where Nux sourced some of the artwork for his thumbnails.
Oh, how adorable. What a sweet child. I've also seen her in a thumbnail of a video on Nux Taku's Nuxanor channel. A rather unwise reverse image search on Google eventually leads you to a hentai site page where the image, which features an erect penis that had just been cut off for the thumbnail, is tagged with, among other labels, imminent rape. Loli.
Pretty weird stuff. But the point here is that thumbnails are the way that a creator chooses to market themselves. And there's a pretty insane level of pornographic influence in the way that Nux marketed his channel. He obviously established a not so insignificant portion of his audience by signaling that his content is pornography oriented, which it is. For example, Nux made dozens of videos about Rule 34 porn.
I hosted the craziest Rule 34 tournament. And if you're not familiar with the term Rule 34, it's a term and website talking about how if anything exists, there is porn of it.
And note that in this video, Nux is not only telling you the name of the website, but also what kind of porn you can find there and how much of it. And the only reason why that matters is because Nux explicitly categorizes these videos as being fine for children aged 13 and up. Keep this in mind because there's going to be a pattern. He also would routinely do these fan submission contests, and credit to YouTuber Nicandros for pointing this out. So Nux would announce these contests where he would review entries from fans and declare a winner. Among the list of acceptable submissions is explicitly NSFW content. So naturally, Nux hosts this contest with other creators for some reason, and you can probably guess what many of the submissions consisted of.
Your name's and what is that?
I mean, it's a
What is this?
Yay.
I love this censoring.
Later on, he chooses to play another moderately censored, very weird, extended porn segment. Just watching porn on YouTube, you know, real normal shit.
I'll show Oompy though. Oompy, you'll like
Yeah, I've never seen this.
I won't say anything.
I mean,
oh yeah,
fun.
this is Mousie's favorite part. There's Mousie's part.
Everybody's household, you can buy a milk girl cow.
Explain the plot, Mousie. What's happening here exactly?
You're living in a society where you could purchase a cowgirl to have fresh milk at your table every day. And it just so happens that the guy's like, hey, she looks pretty fuckable.
Reasonable.
And drink their milk. Oh yeah.
Whoa, Jesus Christ, Jesus. Okay, moving on from that. Now, once again, these videos, according to Nux, are supposedly appropriate for children. And this kind of content was all over Nux's channel. The guy was known for being a totally degenerate gooner, like to the point that he had a reputation for being kind of preoccupied with porn.
I put on some weird headset and now I'm...
Did I recognize that voice actress? Hold up, who voiced this character? And have they ever voice acted in something slightly more Rule 34 than this? I don't know where I've heard this, but it's hitting me in a certain way.
Now, in a lot of circumstances, this would be fine. But for one, Nux's right-wing traditionalist grift is just transparently nonsense. And two, the real issue becomes clear when you consider who exactly Nux's target audience is. Take, for instance, the fan submission contest that we just watched. Sandwiched between two porn submissions was an entry that came from what was obviously a child.
Oh, what? Bro.
I don't even know what that was.
That was some kid just sent you a video of them shitting and then shooting a dog with a Nerf gun.
Beautiful. Oh no, it's all that time.
I'm gonna be honest, man. When you did this, did you not think people would send you all this shit?
Yeah, but I didn't expect like a
People were gonna
full
send
one.
you.
Oh.
What the fuck?
So Nux is publicly announcing fan submission contests where he expressly requests NSFW entries. He doesn't age restrict any of it, and then when children participate, he doesn't remove them. He publishes them, right alongside pornography. And this one child was not an outlier. Nicandros, in his video on Mutahar, discovered that, as it turns out, old Nux Taku videos often received a significant number of comments from people claiming to be underage.
The most vile part about this video is that the comments section has many children in it, explicitly reporting their ages. 11, 10, 9, 7 years old. One of the minors comments that the only place they can see the uncensored animation, Pornhub, is blocked on their father's Wi-Fi.
Nux, in fact, made no effort to keep kids away from his adult-oriented content. His videos are 13+, his Discord server is 16+, his official subreddit is unrestricted, and you only need to be 13 to use Reddit. Kids were declaring their ages in his comments, they were participating in his contests, and all this is to say, Nux knew his audience was comprised of a significant number of viewers who were under the age of 18. But it's not just that he knew that kids were in his audience, he wanted them to be there. Look at the subjects of Nux's content. We're talking Pokemon, Minecraft, Mario, numerous popular cartoons and anime series, things like Disney, Fortnite, you know, stuff that appeals to kids. He drew them in, allowed them to watch his content, and welcomed them in his communities. He wanted this. But why? He was making money. And the thing he made the most money on was sexualized portrayals of these children's characters. The most popular video he ever produced on his channel featured an Animal Crossing character performing a sexualized pornographic dance. And this is the first major problem with Nux's old operation. This specific behavior is known as EPI, Early Porn Introduction. It's most commonly used to refer to a fetishistic normalization of pornography to kids. Not only do the franchises Nux covered attract children to the content, but when these figures are presented in a pornographic way, especially when they're frequently childlike youthful depictions, the child is now seeing their world being sexualized, which normalizes the idea to them that they exist in a sexual context. And now the next time the child is playing Animal Crossing, it's not really the same old innocent hobby. Somebody started perverting it for them. And the second major problem with Nux's old operation is even worse. As I mentioned earlier about the Rule 34 segments, a lot of Nux's videos made it somewhat easy for children to happen upon uncensored pornography themselves. Whether it was naming the websites directly, using thumbnails that lead straight to porn sites with a reverse image search, or simply showing the titles of explicit works that kids could easily search for, Nux's content made it trivially easy for children to find the real thing. But making pornography accessible wasn't just a part of his videos. In fact, the culture of Nux's community was one of common collaboration on locating the sources of the explicit content that Nux covered on his channel, like his official subreddit, where helping each other find the original uncensored materials was commonplace and seemingly never moderated. And again, you only have to be 13 to be in this community. And as discovered by Nicandros, the 16 and over Discord server also for a time had an easily accessible NSFW channel. And this sourcing and sharing pornography type of behavior in Nux's community wasn't just permitted or ignored. In some cases, it was even encouraged by Nux himself. So this guy was essentially targeting and accepting children as a demographic into his audience, while simultaneously desensitizing them to pornography through his content, and then overseeing and even facilitating the sourcing and sharing of the explicit materials he covered within his communities. Now, of course, kids can't always look up stuff on their own, and maybe you're thinking parents should have control over what their children have access to. But usually, those parents don't have to worry about YouTubers who cover youth pop culture introducing pornography into the equation. Those two pathways aren't supposed to intersect. But in case you aren't quite convinced of Nux's transgressions here, there's still one more thing. I'm gonna heavily summarize here, but if you want the full story, go watch this video by Nicandros that's linked in the description. And huge credit to Nicandros for doing the research that allowed a lot of the stuff we covered today to become known in the first place. Nicandros' video does a deep dive into Nux's community, where he explains some events that took place in the Nux Taku Patreon-only Discord server. The short version is that this server had no age restrictions, and shortly after it opened, a 14-year-old child joined, publicly stating their age. They would soon request an NSFW channel, which Nux granted. The user was also promptly engaged by adult members of the server, who wasted no time in grooming them. They would send them pornography, gore, violent imagery, even encourage them to drop out of school and self-harm. And this all happened right under Nux Taku's nose. Many of the interactions were in the public general channels. Nux had even interacted with the child in voice chat on multiple occasions. There were no rules to prevent this from happening. Nobody got moderated or banned from the server. Nux did nothing and put a child in harm's way. Given the full scope of his behavior, the only two options here are that Nux wanted this kind of thing to happen in his community, or that he simply didn't care as long as he was making money. I'm not sure which is worse, but in either case, it would not be wholly inaccurate to describe the totality of Nux's behavior online as him participating in and facilitating acts of grooming. But guys, don't forget about Hasan. Isn't Hasan Bad? Remember the guy that went to a Diddy party? Hasan Bad is actually Nux's go-to strategy for responding to controversy. In fact, when responding to Nicandros's highly damning video, Nux did not take any accountability. He didn't acknowledge any wrongdoing or recklessness. He did this.
Everyone did these videos, all right? PewDiePie, biggest YouTuber on the platform at the time, was making Boku no Pico reaction, an animation of adults raping little boys. And it became a huge meme, and a lot of massive YouTube channels ended up reacting to it and talking about it. It's a really disgusting thing. But unfortunately, it was really common. Now, I find it ironic that people like Hasan, all right? Hasan is gonna show up, and he's gonna call me a pedophile, and call Tectone a rapist, and call everyone everything. Now, Hasan calling me a pedophile for things he's done, all right? Like, this dude went on podcasts where they promote this kind of thing, all right? People on this podcast are pro-lolly directly. Pro-lolly. Openly pro-lolly. I, however, have really
And then this guy actually spent 5 minutes going through the Hasan Bad greatest hits. And then he buried this response to the Nicandros video deep in a Hasan segment on his second channel. Very shameful. Funnily enough, Hasan actually might partially be the reason why Nux's podcast with Mudahar fell apart. A little over a year ago, Hasan was reacting to a YouTube drama Reddit post talking about how Nux had shown his co-hosts some lolly pornography.
Resurface video of Oompaville, some ordinary gamers and Nux Taku watching lolly porn together on a Discord call.
Mudahar was very clearly bothered by the criticism he was getting for associating with Nux, and the extra exposure might have contributed to him posting a video distancing himself from Nux only a few days after Hasan's coverage. This is pretty surface level research, but before Mudahar canceled their podcast together, Hasan had been mentioned on Nux's second channel only 95 times in 4 years. But since then, he's been mentioned almost 500 times. So in just over a year, Nux has increased his coverage of Hasan by almost 400%. Ever since Hasan's coverage might have pressured Mudahar into ending their podcast. That might not mean anything, but I thought it was interesting. Nux has also since teased a lawsuit against Hasan for calling him a pedophile.
You call me a pedophile, that's slander, Mr. Hasan, in case we're calculating. I am looking into lawsuits, don't worry, it's gonna be fun.
But Hasan responded by saying this.
He wants to sue me for slander for calling him a pedophile, only to discover that a slander case would open him up to discovery. And I feel like his hard drives would be so criminal that he might actually go and face criminal repercussions in the aftermath of said situation, you know?
And ever since then, Nux has gotten pretty silent about any potential lawsuit. What was that thing Nux said earlier about wanting to protect kids?
Our children are being exposed to shit that they should not be exposed to. The unimaginable amount of random degenerate furry, gore, porn, vor shit. I'm telling you, you have no idea how much weird garbage is there. And in my opinion, kids should not be exposed to shit like this.
Nux Taku gets the Great with Kids award. He's all good with them.
Hasan Piker is a genuine douchebag, extremely unintelligent, probably as politically illiterate as me on most things, and I literally know nothing. I'm a complete fucking normie who doesn't care about politics.
Nicholas DeOrio is the owner of a pair of mid-sized commentary YouTube channels. His following is somewhere around 150,000 people, and he's known for covering new online dramas and his Ultimate Rape Review segment.
I'm the host of Ultimate Rape Review.
Nick has been involved in the commentary genre for almost a decade. He's been closely associated with figures like Tommy C, Turkey Tom, WillyMac, and other longtime contributors to online drama coverage. He's not the biggest name, but he is well established, and he's seen as somebody with credibility in these circles. And part of that is because historically, Nick has always positioned himself as being somebody with principles. He was always one of the most outspoken creators about things like targeting sponsors.
Attacking YouTube sponsors is generally like a negative thing to do. Attacking sponsors, doxing, like there's a handbook of things like you just can't do. I'm not a supporter of targeting anyone's revenue. I think it can damage the entire landscape.
Or abusing copyright.
There's also the issue regarding rapid copyright abuse on the platform that YouTube has done nothing about. Chris has been ban evading and breaking TOS through multiple false copyright strikes. YouTubers who abuse built-in support systems to silence creators who are critical of them are the worst of the worst.
And defending free speech.
Oh, what's that? The Jeff Holiday? Apparently Jeff takes a holiday from free speech. He locked replies and attempted to silence criticism. I have no fucking problem with anybody being a leftist, as long as you don't try to infringe upon my free speech.
So because of that outspokenness and his proximity to other large creators, Nick was always a somewhat prominent voice, helping enforce the core standards for his corner of the internet. However, recently, Nicholas has pivoted to covering almost exclusively Ethan Klein and his enemies, or to put it more specifically, sucking Ethan Klein's balls for 25 hours a week.
What I think Ethan should do is he should use the GoFundMe money from the lawsuits to buy all of these things. I think he should take all that money and then buy Anissa's house. If everybody can see that what Ethan is doing is so fucked up, then why are you guys getting so much hate? Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan Klein has confirmed that his motion to subpoena Reddit and Discord was granted. Ooh.
His relentless positive coverage eventually got him noticed by the Kleins themselves.
I love Nicholas DeOrio. I'll say it. I've been watching your content. I think you're very funny guy.
And I feel like your coverage has been really good on topics that I end up watching. Like you're good with research.
He's seen consistent growth in subscribers, likely from H3 viewers, ever since he shifted his focus. And as a result, Nick has been cemented as Ethan Klein's #1 lieutenant, his top guy. He is one of the largest pro-Ethan, anti-Hasan mouthpieces on YouTube. And while I'm never one to begrudge somebody making some money, today what we are interested in is what he's had to sacrifice to get it. Nick has become somewhat representative of what it means to be afflicted with the Hasan Bad virus. Unlike some of the other subjects of this video, Nick is in fact not some kind of rapist or pedophile, at least not that I'm aware of. But he is every bit as dishonest as the rest of these guys, and in a lot of ways, he's worse. You see, Nick has spent the last several years carefully fine-tuning a perfect system for lying. A system where he can be as dishonest as he needs to be, use it to his benefit, and avoid almost any consequences. It's a process that, if followed to a T, can lead to massive profit at the cost of your dignity, an exchange that Nick happens to be perfectly happy with. So let's walk through, step by step, exactly how Nicholas DeOrio deceives his audience, protects his income, and lies directly to your face.
I can't wait to disagree with Ethan Klein again, because I know that he's principled and he actually gives a fuck about what he's saying.
This is the Nicky D system. A story breaks. It's a story that on its face doesn't look very good for Ethan Klein. Ethan is accused of falsely copyright striking numerous clips on the H3 Snark subreddit. At best, Ethan is striking clips that he doesn't have great reason to, and at worst, he's trying to flood the subreddit with copyright notices to try to trigger an automatic ban. Nicholas DeOrio has been covering all things Ethan Klein and even Snark for months, so he definitely sees things like this when they pop up, and we do know that he is specifically aware of this story.
I mean, he has copyright struck a literal subreddit. I wouldn't put it past him at all. What the fuck, dude?
But Nick also knows that this story is a problem, because if he covers it honestly, it might involve criticizing Ethan. And if he criticizes Ethan, he could be risking his new association with H3. So Nick considers his options and decides that the best course of action is step 1. Neglect. Simply neglect to cover stories that are unfavorable to Ethan Klein. If you don't talk about it, you don't have to take a position on it. And if you don't take a position on it, nobody can hold you accountable for having the wrong one. Sure, people might expect you to have strong opinions about somebody abusing DMCA.
YouTubers who abuse built-in support systems, multiple false copyright strikes, the issue regarding rapid copyright abuse on the platform.
But that's their problem. Nobody controls your content. You don't have to cover anything.
And people are like, well, Nick, if you go by your principles, you defend these people. My principles don't say I ever have to cover anything on YouTube. They just say that's my principle. I can just go, yeah, dude, I think that this lawsuit is kind of dumb, and then cover something else that day if that's how I really feel. I don't have to defend you. I'm not going to.
See? You can keep talking about Hasan and Snark and H3. You just skip the parts that make Ethan look bad. And that is Nick's preferred way of navigating anything that paints Ethan in a negative light. It's clean. It's safe. Remember when Ethan used Michaela Rain's warm body as a prop for his anti-Snark campaign? Nick, to this day, has never fully covered that story, despite indicating in passing that he disagreed with what Ethan did.
Save a Fox killed herself from on a Snark sub. It is crazy, and yet
yeah, I completely disagree with this.
Reddit does nothing.
And that was it. He avoided ever saying anything about Ethan directly, which is also what he did with the DMCA story for months. But avoidance kind of has a shelf life. You can't just do it forever. Eventually, something will come up on stream that you can't just look away from. And when that happens, Nick proceeds to step 2. Ignorance. Nick is streaming. He's covering Ethan, or iDubbbz, and probably making some kind of a penis joke.
When he said discipline, for some reason I thought he was gonna be like my dick. It sounds like they're talking about like their fucking cock, which is iconically the size of iDubbbz's penis. This guy's trying to suck his own dick. Get on your knees and suck dick. Cradle their balls, cluck my own cock. Suck my cock. Penis. 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 Penis!
Jesus. Anyway, something pops up on screen, something Nick has been trying to avoid, but he's already been doing that for quite a while. He can't make it obvious that he's been hiding from a story, but thankfully he still doesn't really need to say anything bad about Ethan. Not yet. He can simply choose to remain ignorant about the topic. Easy. You haven't looked into it. You don't know enough yet. You're still waiting on more information. Let's go to July of last year. Nick is reacting to this video by Paige Christie about Ethan's war on H3 Snark. Note that this is 7 months after the DMCA story originally became public. Here, Nick summarizes his coverage of the situation to this point.
But the rumor was he was striking people who were doing market replacement type content where it's like intentionally pushing views away from original content. So that was all that I'd said, was if that's the case, that's probably like fine. And again, I was waiting for a formal video to break this down, or I was waiting for Ethan to announce a lawsuit. We mentioned this like fucking multiple times. I was waiting to see what would actually get taken down.
Okay, but the problem here is that this was a breakdown video. The breakdown video is on screen right now. The documentation from Ethan's own attorneys is publicly available in that video, along with some examples of what was getting struck. But does Nick take the few minutes he would need to learn about that information? No. In fact, he never even reacted to this video. He only pulled up this small snippet while covering a completely different topic, and Nick made sure the whole time to performatively remind his viewers how little he wanted to watch Paige's video.
I hope they all find employment soon. Paige Christie. You escaped being a segment a couple of months ago, Paige Christie. Did you make a Snark defense video that we never actually got around to watch? This one. I got 2 seconds. You can tell I got 2 seconds into it.
It's pretty unsurprising to me that Paige escaped becoming a segment on Nick's channel. You see, in situations like this, Nick isn't actually waiting on more information. He's waiting for the story to go away. Sometimes he'll be scrolling around on stream, and Nick might accidentally stumble upon some of that information that he's supposedly waiting on.
Okay. Do this or get sued, your only option to avoid litigation. You provide our office with all correspondence you had with the moderators of H3 Snark. Oh, so I guess this is like, I guess this is happening now. This is happening, the H3 Snark lawsuit.
Uh-oh, that letter looks kind of bad for Ethan, doesn't it? How will Nick respond?
Keep in mind that federal court filings are public. Anyone performing a simple Google search on you, let alone a background check, will discover this information. You have until March 25th, 2025 at 5 p.m. to agree to these terms. So I don't know when this was sent. Noah Samson made a community.
He just streams past it. No curiosity, no interest in learning more about it. We just move on. He's choosing to remain ignorant about the story. Going back to Michaela Raines, this was his playbook also.
I'm not going to cover this story because I feel like there's a ton of misinformation coming out about it. Supposedly this was related to a Snark. Apparently the husband's saying it has other... I don't know. A lot of people are making huge sweeping assessments based off this person's suicide.
A lot of people? Like who, Nick? And that's bad, right, Nick?
I'm not going to sit here and speculate on it. Yeah, I don't know. Realistically, I'm not going to delve super deep into an unrelated story to try to investigate on how she died. So that's my stance on that position. What else do we got here?
It's not an unrelated story. It's part of Ethan's entire justification for trying to eliminate Snark communities from the internet. This is something Nick has been agreeing with and pushing for months. But because Ethan is the one making the claims about Michaela's death, he all of a sudden doesn't have enough information. We just don't know. I'm not going to speculate. It's not even relevant. This stuff works pretty well on a lot of people. Between these first two steps, Nick can generally do extremely one-sided coverage and cater to a very specific audience without much worry about anybody caring or maybe even noticing. Except when they do. Eventually, people do start noticing. And when they do, Nick moves to step 3. Contingency. People are starting to notice. Something's off. They're watching Nick's coverage, and they're thinking, huh, this guy never criticizes Ethan. It's almost like he's sweeping, which is a suggestion that Nick doesn't take too kindly to.
The big sweep might be on.
So this guy stuck a dagger right into my neck the minute we stopped talking. I love this. I'm going to implicate that you're sweeping, and yeah, so I'm going to like rape you in the ass on this one.
You see, Nick works pretty hard at trying to present himself as the guy who always has the correct take. He can't really have people calling his credibility or honesty into question, not just because he needs to protect his brand, but also because he's extremely sensitive. So he does what any good liar does when they start feeling pressure. He starts making sure that he has a way out, a contingency plan. The trick is knowing when to do it. You don't just criticize Ethan at random. You wait for a moment where it's easy and safe to appear critical. Something minor, a slight disagreement or a half criticism, anything you can have on record to point to so you can say that you're impartial. To this point, Nick has neglected to cover the DMCA story, as well as the lawsuit against Stage 3 Snark, and he's also chosen to remain ignorant about the details.
I haven't covered two things with Ethan Klein. There's the two things I haven't really covered. One being the lawsuit against the Snark subreddits.
But he also knows that the story's not just gonna go away, so at some point along the way, he starts hedging.
Twitch streamers have been DMCAing streamable links and Reddit posts for like a decade. It was extremely common for them to be striking clips. And no, it's not cool. We didn't think it was cool when Dark Viper struck the clip of him getting mad at Among Us. When you're just doing 30-second clips, 40-second clips. And if that was what Ethan was striking down, if they weren't supposed to be market substitutes for segments like, don't give the stream the view, watch it here. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of shitty. That's kind of cringy.
For Nick, this type of statement is an escape hatch. It's a hypothetical criticism, where he doesn't actually commit to anything. If that's what Ethan was doing, it would be kind of cringy. Like he's not actually giving his opinion on the topic, but the statement is on the record now. If anyone accuses Nick of sweeping for Ethan, he now has this clip he can point to and say, see, I did disagree with Ethan all along. He did the same thing when Ethan went after sponsors, something Nick has loudly opposed for years.
I'm not a supporter of targeting anyone's revenue. I think it can damage the entire landscape.
But listen to Nick's attitude on this behavior now.
I'm not in favor of attacking sponsors. I haven't used my audience specifically to go push this further like that. I don't like that stuff. Realistically, there's not much of a way to hold Twitch to account. The weird double standard that Hasan gets for all of his friends, this is a corrupt platform. And I think it does need to be destroyed. That's my personal opinion. I don't agree with Dan Saltman's methods to target sponsors the way that he has. I agree a bit more with the way that Ethan did it because he was targeting TwitchCon, going over like the panel that they approved. But like, this site was always going to have an adpocalypse. This was happening either way.
It's this weird half-condemnation, where he presents like he still has his older, more principled position.
I'm not in favor of attacking sponsors.
But literally everything else he says goes against it.
This is a corrupt platform, and I think it does need to be destroyed. This was happening either way.
You're not against targeting sponsors, Nick. You're supporting it. You're just playing both sides so you can defend yourself no matter what. Nick actually does this all the time. He gives these mealy-mouthed, tepid, half-baked criticisms, where he's not really fucking saying anything meaningful, but then he'll go and point to them later as evidence that he's unbiased. Junk Drawer Gaming, a small commentary channel, helped identify this pattern in a recent video pointing out the massive holes in Nick's coverage, specifically the fact that he had never directly addressed Ethan exploiting Michaela's death.
But despite boldly disagreeing with Ethan on this over 6 months later, Nick still has never addressed Ethan weaponizing this woman's death to bolster his campaign to remove his detractor base from the internet.
And Nick's response, predictably, was to claim that he had in fact already criticized Ethan for this, but he can't possibly be referring to this.
I'm not going to cover this story because I feel like there's a ton of misinformation coming out about it.
Or this.
Yeah, I completely disagree with this.
So this supposed criticism must be this.
If we're going to make a critique towards Ethan, the one that sticks in the back of my mind, I think we covered it briefly.
No, you didn't.
There was a clip that came out. What was it? Someone killed themselves on Reddit or something?
Okay, already. Why does it seem like he's just pretending to not remember the details of the story?
And they were blaming like a Snark subreddit that did it?
No, not they. Ethan. Ethan was the main person pushing this talking point.
But then a couple hours later, once people did research, it realistically didn't have anything to do with, or it didn't play a large role in what happened to that person. Like the Snark community was extremely small. And then it kind of got pushed into like, this is the danger of Snark communities or whatever.
It got pushed. It got pushed. You mean Ethan pushed it? Ethan exploited a woman's death for his own personal benefit. But Nick will never say those words. He'll instead say things like this.
I think like maybe waiting to kind of see how things turn out before jumping on that would benefit everybody.
So Nick's key criticism of Ethan was actually just him giving general advice on how it will be good for everybody to do more patient research, and he avoids saying that Ethan did anything wrong. And now he's waving it around as proof that he's not a complete hack, and he's just hoping nobody goes back and checks. But by this point, the criticism is starting to mount. People aren't just asking about Ethan, they're asking about Nick. And that's a different kind of problem, because you can't exactly sweep criticism of yourself under the rug. You can either address it, or you can kill it. Nick is starting to feel some heat. People are asking questions, such as why the guy who built his career on things like standing up against copyright abuse is suddenly silent when Ethan Klein does it. And every criticism of Ethan that goes unanswered is a criticism of Nick for not answering it. And he's aware of that. So when Nick runs cover for Ethan, he's running cover for himself too. People are talking about him, and Nick's go-to way of dealing with it is to do absolutely anything he can to simply disrupt the conversation, change the subject and make it about something else, reframe the attacks and make them sound completely different. Anything he can do to just kill the criticism. His favorite tactic is, instead of actually responding to things, he'll just try to flip them around on the person making the point.
Why did none of these people speak up against... I don't even understand. None of these people spoke up against Bad Empanada when he struck my Twitter 3 times? Are you serious? That's so crazy, guy. It's almost like they're team sports.
The criticism is about Ethan, Nick. Nobody was asking if everyone else is being consistent. What do you think about what Ethan is doing? But Nick still uses this move, literally all the time.
And if that was what Ethan was striking down, if they weren't supposed to be market substitutes for segments like, don't give the stream the view, watch it here, yeah, I mean, that's kind of shitty, that's kind of cringy. But none of these people operate in, like, the same world, I guess. Bad Empanada striking a clip of a video that I own most of the content of, that's fine, because Nick DeOrio is bad. But Ethan Klein doing it is horrible because Ethan Klein is trying to censor people. By the way, I'm gonna need every single person who has the take on stream that going after sponsors is bad. I'm gonna need their takes audited. I wanna know what they said 5 years ago about Keemstar. I wanna know what they said about Pokimane. I need their take on all these situations to know if they're just sweeping. But the rumor was he was striking people who were doing market replacement type content. So that was all that I'd said, was if that's the case, that's probably like fine. No, he's not. I'd say that would be fair also, but that's not what he's doing. I have a question. So what is Paige Christie's current position on the Denims, Frogan, and Kaceytron lawsuits? Are we going to maintain this position? I'm just curious, because I feel like mine's fairly consistent. Are we going to maintain this position that that would be fair also? I'm just wondering.
Clearly, instead of actually engaging with what's being said and potentially saying anything bad about Ethan, Nick would rather just aimlessly hypocrisy hunt. Anything to avoid being honest. Another one of Nick's favorite maneuvers is to just completely change what's being said about him, like when people point out his totally biased coverage.
And most of these guys have been doing the Ethan Klein. Oh, Nick, you cover Ethan Klein too much. I'm sorry, I have 3 segments from the last stream. Would you like me to post a 7-hour video instead? I gotta cut it up into pieces. Dude, it's the Great War being fought on the battlefield of like, I don't care about Ethan Klein anymore and I'm lashing out. I said I was so caught off guard by you saying that I was loyal to Ethan to a fault because we had spoken about this topic and I didn't realize you thought that I was a principleless sellout. It completely caught me off guard. I interpreted at the time as you being upset that EHT was a content black hole where no other stories were getting attention, and you were holding me almost personally responsible.
So this is the, oh, you just think I'm talking about Ethan too much. No, it's not just that. If you were just talking about Ethan and it was, you know, fair, whatever. There's obviously a criticism that I've got of, seems like you're being very favorable towards Ethan a lot, to a fault, you know?
So when someone says your coverage of Ethan is dishonest, Nick pretends they're saying, that Nicholas DeOrio guy, he talks about Ethan Klein too much. He's responding to a criticism that literally nobody made, and simultaneously trying to make his detractors sound very, very stupid. And if anyone is simply 100 IQ enough to see through all of this, friends or colleagues who might want to challenge Nick on his behavior, Nick just cuts them off. Kills the conversation entirely.
Guys, key update. Nicholas DeOrio has now blocked me on Twitter. Nicholas DeOrio has now officially blocked me on Twitter.
He's not interested in maintaining any friendships. He's not interested in defending his viewpoints. He's not interested in being an honest creator. He's only interested in one thing: being a yes man. All of these little tactics and maneuvers that Nick pulls, those aren't the goal. The goal was always to find a way to become the #1 Ethan Klein ball washer.
Remember when this was like the worst thing ever? Remember when all these guys are like, Ethan Klein can't take criticism because they're posting shit saying you should watch this as an alternative to his actual content? Now we're just striking clips again. This is Bad Empanada all over again. These guys total hypocrites, dude. Total fucking hypocrites. This is insane.
Did you notice what happened there? 9 months have passed. Nick has never meaningfully covered the copyright strikes or the filings for the lawsuit against H3 Snark. But all of a sudden, in the middle of one of his classic pointless hypocrisy hunts, Nick blurts out his actual stance on the topic, and to no one's surprise, it's just Ethan's side of things.
They're posting shit saying, you should watch this as an alternative to his actual content. These guys total hypocrites, dude. This is insane.
It is insane. I thought you were waiting on more information, Nick. The truth is, there never is more information that Nick is waiting on. Nick isn't waiting for anything. He's just working.
Nicholas DeOrio, the Pope, is in chat. He says the Godzilla collab is sick.
Aw.
My Teddy Fresh order has shipped.
Oh my god, Saint Nicholas.
The most notable example of this is Nick's readiness to defend Ethan's lies about Denim's chat during the CPS story.
Love made a good point. You said, is this every comment? I believe this is a live feed of the chat. This isn't edited.
What about the top right? I thought these were
No, it's
selected.
this, I think when you full screen it. No, this is an edit. It's a cutout of the full
And then he plays the clip where Ethan explicitly tells you, okay, that they clipped the chat and it's like a fucking cutout of it.
chat. It's just enlarged there.
Oh, really?
Over the screen, yeah.
They're different, I think.
Yeah.
And like it's directly explained to you in the stream what exactly this is.
No, it's not. But it doesn't matter. Nick isn't watching this clip to evaluate whether it's true or form an honest opinion. He's watching the clip to find a way to push Ethan's bullshit, and his instinct is just to adopt whatever's being presented on screen without really analyzing or looking into it. I mean, the Snark lawsuits and copyright strikes, these things are key components of Ethan Klein's narrative over the last couple of years. Why do you think Nick was waiting so long to cover them?
So Ethan Klein, so if he goes on like an anti-Semite doxing spree, I mean, that's gotta look so bad for everyone that promotes the fuck out of him. Nick DeOrio, this is looking pretty bad, bro. What
How's
the fuck?
he gonna sweep this one up? How is Fatty gonna sweep for?
You gotta do something about this tonight, man.
I haven't covered two things with Ethan Klein, but I'll just give you kind of my rundown with them because I intend to cover them, but I'm trying to space this shit out because it was just so much back to back.
Right, yes, of course.
One being the lawsuit against the Snark subreddits. I do have a tweet about it. I feel like I'm gonna end up on the side of being opposed at this point from what I've seen so far. Principally opposed to what he's doing, but I think there are ways that he can win me. I need to see exactly what he's doing. I haven't watched his video about it. I intend to do it all at once. I think he says 2 weeks now until the lawsuit drops. So we will be taking a look at that.
Nick didn't say that because he was open to criticizing Ethan. He said it because his friend Augie reminded him that old commentary audiences were still watching, and Nick doesn't want those people to know that he was never actually the guy he pretends to be. Because if he ever actually looked at Ethan or Hasan honestly, by his own principles, the foundation of his entire channel, he would have to side against Ethan, but that's not an option. So instead, Nick just doesn't look. The thing about Nicholas DeOrio, though, is that none of these things are technically lies. They're very Weaselly, he's very slimy and intellectually dishonest, but he's not exactly lying. The lie is Nick doing all this stuff and then presenting himself as principled.
Do you have any actual principles at all? No, none of these people have any principles. It's not fun to be a principled streamer at this point.
His entire persona is the lie.
The hypocrisy hunting is going to be extremely difficult for me to navigate because publicly I said that if a reactor doesn't react to your content, you should strike them. I said I'm against YouTuber lawsuits for the most part, but I do find it increasingly difficult to care about a Twitch streamer getting sued. The things that we have been saying for the last 5 years, if they had just been listened to at all, and people made the slightest bit of effort, there'd be nothing here for Ethan to sue over.
This entire thing is an attempt to silence creators that he doesn't like and to silence people he doesn't like.
Yeah, that's the best part of this, is that he scared a bunch of Redditors into shitting themselves and shutting an entire subreddit down. Go type in on H3 Snark and go read what they wrote about DeOrio and tell me how much I should feel bad for them that these little fucking rat fucks had to sit and cry and get scared for the night where they thought the big mean Ethan Klein lawsuit was gonna be in the mail the next day.
Wow, this guy sucks. Nobody is asking you to feel bad for anybody. They're just asking if you think Ethan is doing something wrong. But this is exactly what Nick does. He actively runs away from having principles. And if he were just your average unprincipled grifter, I mean, that would be bad enough, but the thing that really makes Nick so contemptible is that he's also just a total fucking loser. I mean, not only is he so sensitive that it's literally a meme to be blocked by Nicholas DeOrio on Twitter.
He blocked me. I've never spoken to this man in my life.
Nick DeOrio.
Oh, he does that. He does that. Yeah,
I haven't, but I haven't talked to him.
And not only is he this gross, cackling, nasally weirdo,
Because that's probably what he was until his girlfriend touched his penis. Remember, weight can be lost, hair can be grown back, but your body is ravaged forever. Listen, Cuts, you gotta smile more. You know, just give them a little bit more of a smile. That would go a long way with the men watching.
But on top of all that stuff, he's also a total moron. Like, he admits he doesn't know anything about politics.
I'm not a political fucking streamer. I don't know anything about politics. I'm horrible at politics. I've been coasting.
So why the fuck would anyone ever listen to him talk about anti-Semitism?
So this is an event that was headlined by Bosch to platform Zog, and apparently they didn't tell Zog that, like, Progressive Victory sent out, like, America's newest lolicon. Do you not know what Zog is? I think that's literally the guy's name.
Nick is kind of like one of those background characters from old high school movies. He's like that unnamed idiot that follows around the main idiot and like forces out laughs at their jokes.
Oh, McFly, your shoes are tied. Don't be so gullible, McFly. I don't want to see you in here again.
Like, this is really all who Nick is. He's literally this guy. Yet somehow, this very stupid, wheezing, uncharismatic, dishonest blob of a guy made more money in donations last year than fucking Candace Owens. And he did that by, at some point, realizing that you can turn Ethan Good, Hasan Bad into a full-time job. But the Nicky D system still isn't complete. Not yet. Nick looks around. He sees WillyMac's channel stagnating. He sees Tectone get a protective order granted against him. He sees Nux Taku get exposed for enabling grooming. He's looking down at which side of the aisle he's standing on, and he's panicking. So he starts worrying that he's possibly hitched his very large wagon to the wrong horse face. Nick's words, by the way, not mine. And he starts laying the foundation for the final step in his system, the step that ties the whole thing together, and the one that will allow him to repeat the whole process again. Distance. He sees the writing on the wall, and in classic Nick fashion, he starts planning his exit.
I hate this. I hate Hasan Piker, and I hate these people more. I hate these people so much. They're like actually fucking insane. Dude, people will put me next to these people because I also criticize Hasan Piker. There is too much of this going on in the hating Hasan Piker community. It's fucking insane!
Nick can feel the ship sinking, and he's trying to make sure he has a clean way out before he goes down with it.
Yeah, this is why nobody can get held accountable, because Hasan Piker is bad.
Yeah, that is why no one gets held accountable, Nick. That's what my video is about. I'm glad we agree on at least one thing, but you don't get to be the one that points it out.
I'm starting to get blackpilled a little bit. I get why people hate EHD stuff. It has given so many people a voice who are just like subhuman wretches. I am awake and I can see these people. I hate them too.
Oh my god, who does this guy think he's fooling? These people, as if he's not one of them. You are like them, Nick. Not because you're a rapist or a pedophile or anything like that, but because you're a liar. And you have massively profited off of doing the exact same thing that they are.
This is the dumbest hill for Ethan to die on? Snark clip chimping bullshit? I'm sorry, who let in the Hasan Piker fan? He got hit on the Zionist policy, and I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, I find it hilarious. On the other hand, I find it hilarious. It's Zionist, but with Zionist, it has 3 parentheses around either side. Everyone just fucking hates Jews now, it's insane. Oh no, they blacklisted the guy who supports terrorists. That's horrible. It's almost like Twitch has finally done something on their platform to moderate this abhorrent behavior. Like the levels of psychological warfare that we've reached for quote-unquote not liking Hasan Piker. Yeah, dude, we gotta take his kids away. A bunch of people use veiled anti-Semitism to attack Jews, specifically people he's friends with, and in some cases I would argue him. I don't agree with going after sponsors, but I kind of am. Her sponsor is Hasan Piker. Okay, so by going after Hasan Piker, I'm specifically targeting her income. Hasan Piker supports terrorists. I don't really understand what is the deceptive edit here. It's like maybe you shouldn't make yourself an extremely easy target while you're attacking this person's family. This is not even the first congressman that Hasan has jokingly told his audience to kill.
And now when he starts feeling public perception shifting ever so slightly away from him, he does what he's always done, and he starts trying to quietly pitter-patter away. Okay, maybe not so quietly. This is what he did with Bo Blacks. He did it with Destiny to an extent. He'll coast off of popular sentiment for as long as he can, and only when things get too hot will he then turn his back and pretend like he was principled the whole time.
And when people say that you're sweeping or you're doing this, I've literally taken about 7 of my friends and former associates out back and put a bullet in the back of their head, so I really don't care. I've literally executed half this fucking space, so.
And one day Nick will do this to Ethan too. The public pressure will get to be too much, he'll find a new audience to leech from, and he'll drop H3 and pretend he had a good reason for it. And when that happens, Ethan will realize that he was actually right about Nick several years ago.
Yeah, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
You argue with people on the internet and you get charged up, and you gotta realize that you're probably talking to someone that looks like this. And what I mean by that is a pimply-faced kid who, he's a know-nothing. Like, if I met this kid in real life, I would literally you wouldn't think twice about it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But until then, Nick is gonna do what he always does. He'll take his earnings, and then he'll try to scurry away from the consequences of what he had to do to get them. Kind of like a rodent. A very, very large rodent.
Weaselly, what about the RUSs?
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
Nicholas DeOrio gets the Rodent of Unusual Size Award.
Ethan, do you not correspond with Destiny's podcast co-host Dan Saltman?
I've talked to Dan Saltman, but also I don't think that that's Destiny, is it?
Like, dude, I'm pretty sure I'm not making this up right now. All right, let's finish this segment. I'm keeping Dan Saltman waiting because Dan's coming on soon.
Which, by the way, I guess I should just go ahead and say it. Me and Dan Saltman are going to have a YouTube exclusive stream pretty soon.
I have actually been, getting calls and invited to, tons of streams of all sorts of streamers. I just did one with Tectone and Dan Saltman the other day.
This post was going mega viral on their subreddit. It says Dan Saltman's minions, Ethan's bestie. I love how they're so desperate to connect the dots on shit. It's so stupid. Are mass reporting Hasan to the FBI for the crime.
At the gooey, sticky center of this large-scale misinformation campaign against Hasan is a weird middle-aged dude by the name of Dan Saltman. I don't really want to give equal time to this guy, but to his credit, it's hard to ignore the impact he's had on people's attitudes towards Hasan. You see, Dan is the kind of guy who gets off on feeling more important than he actually is. He's always talking about how much money he has, or how many important people he talks to.
I have House of Representative members that I have meetings with.
And he really likes the idea of being remembered for something bigger than just being Destiny's best friend. To that end, he's decided to spend the last couple of years pouring resources into desperately trying to bring down Hasan. He kicked things off with his campaign against Dan Clancy and Twitch regarding anti-Semitism, which he opened up by massively overstating what was actually just a very stupid oversight on Twitch's part. The claim was essentially that Twitch had been banning Israeli users from making new accounts. But aside from the fact that Dan potentially lied in the way that he presented this initial complaint, Twitch's totally understandable explanation didn't stop him and Ethan Klein from helping launch a full-scale PR attack on Twitch and its sponsors, citing things like chat messages during Hasan's streams as evidence of Twitch harboring anti-Semitism. Another notable example they used was this panel during TwitchCon 2024, where a group of Arabic streamers ranked other creators according to their level of affinity for Arab culture or something. Now, it would be totally fair to criticize the people who hosted this panel for it being stupid and not funny, but Dan and Ethan Klein managed to convince a bunch of people that this tier list was actually racist against Jews.
I mean, it's kind of just Arab good, Jew bad. I mean, I'm having a hard time seeing this any other way.
While trying to excuse her racist, disgusting, fucking anti-Semitic behavior on stage of putting Jews on the bottom and Arabs on the top of their tier list.
And this narrative somehow got sold pretty well, despite the top tiers consisting of mainly non-Arabs and the bottom tiers consisting of mainly non-Jews. In fact, as far as I could tell, Ethan is the only Jewish person at the bottom of this list. This panel was made for the Arabs podcast, which is about Arab identity and culture, and features a Jewish host. Ethan and Dan tried making the argument that because Sabra is an Israeli brand, that this panel was ranking people from Arab to Jew and was therefore racist. But Sabra is also just the most basic mass-market hummus you can buy anywhere. Hummus is a core Arab dish. To Arabs who take pride in their culture, Love Sabra just represents cultural disconnection, not Israel or Jewishness. The panel wasn't even saying it's better to be Arab or anything. Was this idea for a panel maybe controversial? No, not really. I have a hard time getting on board with being genuinely upset about this, but the nonsensical outrage about it worked, particularly for liars.
Twitch.tv allowed them to do an Arab to Jew tier list. Twitch needs to take responsibility that they had a fucking racial tier list. The tier list goes from Arab to Jew, and they use hummus as a stand-in for Jew.
The noise that Ethan and Dan generated about this panel led to the ADL stepping in and pressuring Twitch to take action, and Frogan and a few others that participated got 30-day bans as a result, which was kind of ridiculous. But this is essentially what most of Dan and Ethan's war against Twitch consisted of. Misunderstandings, bad examples, or even outright lies, like using a completely fake, doctored screenshot of an anti-Semitic meme on Twitch's front page. Or if you go to Dan's website and you take a look at the example examples of anti-Semitic chat messages from Hasan's community. It's actually laughable. In fact, I challenge anyone watching this video to go comb through Dan's website and try to find me one genuinely racist comment. I legitimately couldn't do it. I'm sure you could probably find real examples of creators or chatters being anti-Semitic on Twitch, just like many other forms of hate. But if this were a real, actual systemic issue at Twitch, why would these guys need to lie about it? But with the help of the ADL, their campaign actually worked, and Twitch experienced a notable decline in overall ad revenue, which did adversely impact some streamers who don't even have anything to do with politics. And despite how fake this whole anti-Semitism thing was, Dan even went so far as making threatening comments towards the families of Dan Clancy and other Twitch employees.
They don't sleep good at night knowing that I'm downloading every Facebook comment that you've made, Dan. And I've basically downloaded every comment you made everywhere. All of your travel journeys, the stuff with your kids, literally everything. Downloading it all and use it all against them.
The quote from you was something like, you have to go after the people they care about.
So I have a list of all the employees in trust and safety, and half of them hide. No profiles, no nothing. I hope I don't have to go to this direction. Sometimes there are people and you can't get to them, no matter what level of insane targeting you do to them. No matter how autistic you are with the websites that you set up and everything else, they just don't care. Then you have to start going to the people that they care about. And then they start caring.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit unhinged to go against a $50 billion company as one person. Sending a nicely worded email to a support ticket is not going to usually have the effect you need.
Those vaguely threatening comments, the multiple websites, collating people's personal information, that stuff all led to his account being banned from Twitch for harassment, obviously, which he then tried to spin into Twitch wanting to silence him. Okay, man. But with him failing to cause Dan Clancy to lose his job, and losing multiple bets in the process, Dan Saltman dropped the act and turned his focus to what this was really all about, which was Hasan Piker. Dan is so maniacally obsessed with Hasan that he winds up becoming involved in almost every single front in the war against him. If you're a somewhat notable online figure who publicly voices criticism towards Hasan, even if you're an unintelligent slop tuber or somebody he's completely politically opposed to, you will hear from Dan Saltman wanting to be best friends. He's done shows or had plans for them with almost all of the creators in this video, which often may fall through because Dan's dishonesty is so blatant that even notorious liars like Nicholas DeOrio can't come up with ways to defend it.
That is what everyone does all the time, nonstop. It will never end, ever.
It's not a good
argument.
argument.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be a good argument. That's what everyone does.
But you're just throwing shit at the wall. What makes you better than him? What makes you better than Hasan Piker?
I'm glad you asked, because my side is honorable, and it was obviously taken out of context. Their side meant it, and they still haven't changed.
Oh, so it's just sides cock. This is the issue.
Completely, 100%.
That's the big issue, though. That's why unironically, that's why we can't do a show.
Dan is actually impressively the most prolific liar in this whole video, not just because of how often he lies, but also because he just openly admits that he lies.
This is the game. Like, you can't change it as much as you may want to change it. I might want this to be, we have an objective debate and we look at it and, everyone comes away and it's like, okay, well, that would be the world I want to go to, but that's not the world that we're in. We're in a world of all that matters is the end result of the general public having an optics on something. I said that Hasan Piker visited a brothel that was later raided for suspected sex trafficking. Actually, Hasan wasn't there. Yeah, that matters. Yeah, that matters. I am misleading. That matters.
Okay? Yes, you are misleading. Yes, Dan. Yes, Dan.
That is the game, 100%. Do you not think that that's what people do on Twitter all day, every day?
Yeah, but you're the guy on Twitter.
That's the game.
I'm not playing the game. I'm trying to get the truth. I'm sorry. I'm not here to play your game.
It's not my game. That is the game. I think that you might be having a very commentary brain to take care versus what the
commentary take is to not lie.
It's pretty bad when this guy is calling you out for being a hack. Dan is a huge fan of clipping Hasan dishonestly, or outright lying about things Hasan says, and then spreading these lies on Twitter to generate public backlash. You may have even come across certain Hasan clips circulating around that are commonly used to attack him, but they're actually deceptive edits, often originating from Dan Saltman. This clip shows up on my Twitter feed pretty often.
Democrats, if they were in charge right now, would be doing 100% the exact same thing, 1-to-1. Make no fucking mistake. Anyone who tries to tell you that Kamala Harris would be different is a fucking delusional moron. Do not listen to them.
People like Dan use this clip whenever the Trump administration does something disagreeable as a way of attacking Hasan's credibility. But the clip's been trimmed of any surrounding context, and it's also cropped and zoomed in so that you can't see Hasan is covering one specific current event and talking about one particular issue, which is Israel.
Anyone who tries to tell you that Kamala Harris would be different is a fucking delusional moron. Do not listen to them. Why? why Kamala Harris's own campaign aides have actually come out and talked about how they would be doing a better job defending Israel right now. Chuck Schumer has come out and launched his support. Chuck Schumer, a week ago, was complaining that Donald Trump was Taco Trump. He wasn't going to actually fucking strike Iran.
Yeah, we get it. So you can still think Hasan is wrong about that take, but there's just absolutely no way that if you've seen that original context, that you can in good faith reply to tweets like this with that 18-second cropped edit. This is just a blatant lie, and it seems like Dan is its originator. There are probably dozens more examples of him doing this, but I don't really need to show any more, because again, Dan just openly tells us that this is what he's doing.
See, this is what you guys don't get. You don't play the game. You don't play it strong enough. He has no issues clip chipping me, okay? He's fine doing it. Why the fuck would I not do it in return?
So yeah, Dan's kind of insane track record might cause some issues for some of his potential partnerships. But a little bit unsurprisingly, the one person who can tolerate maintaining a steady business relationship with Dan Saltman is Ethan Klein. Yeah, Dan's company Redact for a long time was the lone sole sponsor for the H3 podcast.
Code H3 for 15% off. Redact.dev, baby.
So it just
it's a dream partnership.
It just makes sense.
They're part of the team now, part of the gang, so.
And to be honest, I kind of get the feeling that their partnership is a little closer than either of them like to let on. They both sort of downplay the extent of their relationship, like we saw earlier.
Do you not correspond with Destiny's podcast co-host Dan Saltman?
I've talked to Dan Saltman, but
You know, as Ethan Klein said, I've talked to him every once in a while.
it says Dan Saltman's minions, Ethan's bestie. I love how they're so desperate to connect the dots on shit. It's so stupid.
Is it stupid, Ethan? I kept hearing them say stuff like that, and it always sounds so defensive to me, which made me curious. Consider this. H3H3 Productions is a 15-year-old YouTube channel, first created in 2011. And despite Ethan's lengthy history of copyright disputes and preaching about protecting IP, the content nuke is the first time he's ever registered one of his works with the US Library of Congress, which makes it seem like he had just recently learned that that was something you could do. And that left me wondering, where did he get the idea from?
But basically, yeah, so I got banned by Twitch for extreme harassment, permanent. I put in a request to cancel my partnership agreement, which is a right that is afforded to me in the contract that I have with Twitch. And then after that, I put in a request for them to delete all information about my account. Some of that stuff I have registered with the Library of Congress. If they don't, I will go and I will initiate a copyright lawsuit that has statutory damages applied to it. That's basically a thing. If you register specific works directly with the Library of Congress, you can get statutory damages. It's not like a typical DMCA thing where you have to prove damages and things along those lines. So I've gone and I've registered a few things that I know that are stored on Twitch's servers, and I'll move forward with that if they don't delete all of my data. So there's that. What else was I going to talk about?
To go riding in a one-horse sleigh.
All right.
Jingle bell,
Thank you,
jingle
everybody.
bell, jingle bell rock.
I have a special project
Jingle
over the
bell
break, so don't miss that. And wow, we'll be back in January. Also, I have been teasing a work on a video I've been working on, or a special project, let's say. I have spent every waking moment on this project. Hope you guys enjoy that when it comes out eventually. I think within 2 weeks for sure. Within 2 weeks. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys now. I, Ethan Klein, have registered Hasan Piker Content Nuke with the United States Library of Congress. Some of you guys out there sweating?
And then Dan posts this Discord message right after Ethan's video announcing the lawsuits was posted. And look, none of this is proof of anything. But why does this matter? Well, because if what I'm suggesting is true, and Dan and Ethan have been in somewhat close communication since November of 2024, it would actually create quite a few problems for Ethan. Number 1, it supports the idea that Ethan was originally trying to target Hasan with his copyright plan. This is something that Ethan denies, but if he had come up with the plan with the help of Hasan's #1 hater, who do you think it was originally intended for? And if people knew that was the original plan, it kind of makes Ethan look bad. Not only would it build a stronger perception that he's abusing copyright law because he switched his target after the original plan failed, but also, his original plan failed. Ethan had been begging Hasan to watch his video, but a month had passed, and he was still unable to get him to do so. So then look at what Ethan registered last February. I'll never forgive Hasan Piker for this. To me, it just seems obvious that Hasan was the intended target of the copyright plan. And obviously, Ethan wouldn't want everyone to know that that's what he was trying to do, because, you know, he lost. Number 2, Ethan vehemently denies that he worked alongside the ADL to get Frogan banned, and claims it was anti-Semitic for Hasan to suggest that he did.
I have never spoken to the ADL. That's a defamatory claim that has zero proof. And frankly, it sounds a little Jewish conspiratorial.
But guess who it sounds like did speak with the ADL?
Wait, what do you think caused the ADL and stuff to apply? Like, why do you think what's happening now is happening now?
I think, well, I can't say all of it. I think.
Hold on, what does that mean? Can't say all of what? And why can't you say it?
Like, I'm fine to be this cabal Discord Jew that meets up on Fridays with all the Jews across the world in the secret meetings. Like, I'll play that part. I have reached out to all of these organizations and give them information.
Seems possible to me that Ethan was a little bit closer to the ADL's involvement with Twitch than he would like to let on.
So if you're mad Frogan got banned, fucking I am laughing in your face. And I did that shit. I'll take credit for it. I fucking did that shit.
So you can kind of start to see how a close relationship between these two causes some optics issues for Ethan. And there are other possible explanations, like wanting to avoid anti-Semitic tropes.
Sounds a little Jewish conspiratorial.
Or not wanting to be associated with Destiny.
I've talked to Dan Saltman, but also I don't think that that's Destiny, is it?
But I think reason number 3, why Ethan would downplay his relationship with Dan Saltman, might just be that Dan is kind of a massive piece of shit. We've already covered his blatant dishonesty and his threats against Twitch employees and their families, but Dan is also a notorious and open doxer, something that Ethan should be principally opposed to.
Here's the mods doxing our office. Yes, this is actually a real screenshot. This is fucking insane.
Does Ethan just not know that his business partner does this too? He's pretty public about it.
There's one of Hasan's moderators, the guy named Comrade Lamb. He's been calling me a pedophile, and I did a subpoena and got his information, his full information. It was quick, surprisingly.
Wait, really? You can just do that?
Yep.
Stop! No!
That's lit.
No, you don't do that shit on my stream.
Here's him then tweeting a photo of that person as a minor, obviously censored here. And here's him trying to intimidate the spouse of somebody who was saying weird stuff about him online. So, that's crazy to do. And while there are more examples of Dan's behavior we could go over, I don't really want to draw attention to most of it. And we don't really need to anyway. Dan openly tells us who he is. And who he is the exact type of person that Ethan claims his enemies are.
It's just pathetic the way you lie about your perceived enemies. You don't care about the truth at all. For you, it's just about destroying your enemies.
If you don't play the game, you're like so fucked, right? Do I personally care about Kaya? I could give a fuck about Kaya, just like I could give a fuck about Lonerbox's dog or anyone else's dog. I ain't met the motherfucker. That said, it's fair to push this because it hurts Hasan, and Hasan is a bad person, and the goals are accomplished as a result of that.
You people are scum. You have dedicated your lives to harassing me, my loved ones, my crew. You are disgusting, vile, fucking pieces of shit.
Sometimes there are people and you can't get to them. Then you have to start going to the people that they care about. This costs me nothing. I can keep going. I can't be stopped. I can't be reasoned with. You do what I say or I'll keep going. And I'm fine to keep going. I do kind of enjoy it a little bit.
Relentless slander, straight up lies, defamation.
All that matters is the general public having an optics on something. No, I'm saying that's how the game is. That is the game.
You don't play the game. You don't play it strong enough.
Here's the mods doxing our office. This is fucking insane.
This so-called doxing that happens, at least it's not like Hasan waving a gun around. Jesus Christ.
Wait, did you dox someone in the past or what?
I'm just saying it's not like Hasan's doxing.
Ethan has spent 2 years going after liars, doxers, and harassers, which makes it a little awkward that one of them is apparently his vacation buddy. He's in a pod, these two, I'll tell you. I don't want to spend any more time on Dan because I think he gets off on this shit, so Dan Saltman doesn't get an award. So to me, it's quite obvious that these people have zero standards. None of this was ever about harassment or defamation or doxing, because the clients don't actually think those things are bad. They just don't like that it's happening to them. Ethan doesn't care. He thinks you're stupid. He thinks he can make up justifications and explanations for his behavior that people will buy. And they do. All of these guys have been pushing a completely dishonest agenda, each for their own reasons. For some of them, it's clout. For others, it might just be stupidity. And for some, they just want you to be looking at somebody other than them. But they've all willfully pushed these lies, and in the process, they've eroded any standards we used to have for political and commentary creators. Things like doxing, abusing copyright, and harassing smaller figures into silence shouldn't be permissible, but your favorite streamer has convinced you that they are, because remember,
You look around the scene, right? And you see people like Hasan Piker with his crocodile tears. This was his reaction to the shooting. I cannot believe this hypocrite who's been advocating for political violence for years, now pretending like he's shocked something like this would happen. No, dude, not you. You are disgusting. I am so tired of this man and his violent rhetoric, crying on stream. No, not you, man. Not you.
It's so obviously a call to violence. You're obviously wrong for saying it. There's no justification at all to say something like that.
I feel like I've seen a few different clips of Hasan saying like, we don't really know for sure if Kamala would have been different.
And once again, we have Hasan engaging in activities which may very well violate California law.
Sam Cedar, another one I'm ready to burn, because he also like protects Hasan at all costs.
God, I fucking hate Hasan so much. Hasan is a fucking stupid, tanky, jihadist, apologizing piece of shit. Fuck Hasan. What a fucking asshole.
Because Hasan is the most unlikable human being on earth unless you want to have sex with him.
Like when we go to his channel, I gotta stop talking about Hasan so much, to be honest with you. It just bothers me that like
Okay, so you think that Hasan is not fun to talk to about anime?
I think normalizing Hasan is dangerous.
Because there's genuinely so much to attack Hasan for. Every day there's like a new thing to bash Hasan over the head with, because he's just so fucking stupid and malicious.
I genuinely do believe that Hasan is one of the worst people on the internet.
Hasan Piker is the most dangerous person that if you're over the age of about 35, you've probably never heard of.
So Hasan is one of the most terrible human beings on earth.
At least your villain, Ethan Klein, showed real emotion. And when he discovered the news on his podcast, he was sobbing. And I believe his tears. I don't believe Hasan Piker's crocodile tears.
The people that simp for Hasan who are like, he's hot, whatever, it's so pathetic. Even if you think it's hot, it's so embarrassing. It's so cringe, guys. Please, I'm gonna fucking die.
I haven't seen you in pretty much never.
Yeah.
You want to be in my vlog?
Sure.
Starting it up.
Oh hell yeah! I just started vlogging recently as well. I feel you. It's hard. It's awkward.
Yeah. I came here to say thank you.
Wait, why? No, thank you
for supporting Teddy Fresh so much.
Thank you for the big baggy pants. I love them so much. Oh my god.
Well, have a good show.
Thank you. Bye everybody.
On YouTube, for the past few years, there's a big industry that's exploded in popularity, and it's based on a simple concept. Hasan bad, Hasan Piker is bad, and he's dumb, and bad and a terrorist, probably. We can call this the Hasanabi Dunk Video Industrial Complex. It's common for YouTubers during low view months to join in on the fun and make these types of videos, taking short clips from Hasan's thousands of hours of live streaming to misrepresent what he's saying, usually parroting the exact same talking points they're getting from the same YouTubers in the same community. They're watching each other's videos and making each other's videos. It's kind of like a perpetual cycle of dumb guy slop. It's interesting to see YouTubers that typically cover TikTok drama and gaming content randomly giving their opinions on genocide and geopolitics, but that's the result of such an ecosystem. It's not about the politics, it's about making money by attacking a guy they don't like.
That was Noah Samson, who I briefly mentioned earlier. Noah is a 28-year-old video essayist with over 500,000 subscribers. That video came out over a year ago, and Noah keyed in on quite a few relevant things. He explains that when Ethan's commentary on Israel and Palestine is almost exclusively antagonism towards people who, above all else, morally object to the genocide in Gaza, it sort of has the function of supporting genocide, because as Noah puts it,
the arguments they're attacking him for are anti-genocide arguments. So these creators, they're positioning themselves in opposition to him and his arguments, de facto positioning themselves on the pro-genocide side. Anti-genocide is pro-genocide.
Which isn't really that unreasonable. And when you think about it that way, it further illustrates that the widespread Zionist perception of Ethan is really just a product of his own behavior.
Let's bring an Iraqi terrorist group to your neighborhood and you just go out and be slaughtered, and your mom be slaughtered, and your kids be slaughtered, and you burned alive. And again, I'm saying that I support Palestine. I don't know how more I can express that,
But Noah also lays out the thing that we've been demonstrating for the last 3 hours, that there is a massive and corrosive financial incentive to make content that paints Hasan Piker in the worst possible light. And it's gotten worse since he made that video. Guys like More Pegasus, Sensitive Society, and WestJet have virtually perfected the craft. And it's not just creators, there's an entire network of entities across multiple platforms, all feeding off each other to spread misinformation and baseless character attacks about Hasan. Places like LSF on Reddit or Yeet on Twitter. These function as dedicated anti-Hasan news networks that feed back directly into the machine. A clip gets posted, a creator makes a video on it, the news networks post clips from those videos. It's this bizarre incestuous cycle of people just jerking each other off about how terrible Hasan Piker is. It's funny, for how much Ethan Klein cries about an organized harassment campaign, you would be shocked at how organized Hasan Bad is.
Fucking A, let's go. Ethan Klein, Destiny, Dan Saltman, who else is there out there that is pushing the fuck Hasan narrative? There has to be more of us.
Well, it's happening organically because people realize that Hasan is a crazy person. Yeah.
He is a bad guy. I am so happy that I could be part of this movement to destroy this fucking terrorist motherfucker.
So this goes beyond a genre. It's like an entire ecosystem. But the attacks on Hasan are also often exaggerated, misleading, or even outright false. And as we've already seen, there's quite the ragtag band of rapists, liars, and complete morons that are most responsible for pushing them. So all things considered, it can be a little difficult to parse what information about Hasan is actually real. So to wrap up this video, let's go through some of the most sensationalized and infamous claims about Hasan Piker and see which ones hold up. Let's start with one of the most widespread and craziest headlines about Hasan that still gets repeated to this day. Hasan visited a brothel in Germany that was raided for trafficking minors. Now this story comes in a few different forms depending on who's telling it. You've got Dan, who very strategically says that Hasan visited a brothel that was later raided for human trafficking. Nux Taku more aggressively states that the brothel was raided for the trafficking of at least one minor. And on the most extreme end of the spectrum, Destiny outright claims that Hasan literally raped a 15-year-old. So here's what actually happened. A long time ago, Hasan visited the legal Artemis brothel in Berlin, which is a pretty famous and reputable establishment. In 2016, this brothel was raided on suspicion of human trafficking, but the entire process, which involved 530 investigators, yielded no results. In fact, the authorities recommended no changes to the brothel's employment process or working conditions. And in present day, they're actually 100% compliant with Germany's Prostitution Protection Act. When the public prosecutor's office tried to salvage some remaining charges out of this case, the court rejected all of them. And it's noted here that it's rare for an indictment in Berlin to be considered so weak that it doesn't even open a trial. As a result of all of this, the local government publicly apologized to the Artemis brothel and compensated them almost $300,000 for damages caused. Now there is one truthful element to this story. The raid was prompted by a witness whose abusive older boyfriend had been forcing her to work at the brothel, and she was reportedly underage. Her pimp was sentenced to 7 years for this. But this was just one criminal using an otherwise legal venue to exploit somebody. This wasn't the brothel itself trafficking kids. And the only reason you would ever care about someone supporting a business where something like this happened is if the business itself did something that led to it happening. And following an extremely thorough investigation, a court rejection, and a formal apology from the city, that pretty clearly seems to not be the case here. So if you're telling me your standard is that all 100,000 people who visit the brothel each year are child rapists because of this one isolated incident, I just think you're lying. It's been speculated that the primary reason for the raid was actually that the city was missing out on substantial tax revenue because of the pay structure of the workers. Now, we can't know if that's true or not, but it is entirely possible that this whole thing had almost nothing to do with that one incident at the brothel. And to top it all off, that lone isolated incident happened 6 years after Hasan visited Germany. So this entire child trafficking claim about Hasan is built on a story about one incident that happened 6 years after he was there, at a brothel that was never even charged with anything and was compensated for the investigation. And as a side note, I also want to mention that Artemis ended up donating said compensation to a children's hospital. So, happy endings. This whole story is really just a lazy way to desperately try to attach bad things to Hasan's name.
I said that Hasan Piker visited a brothel that was later raided for suspected sex trafficking. Actually, Hasan wasn't there. Yeah, that matters. Yeah, that matters. And misleading. That matters.
So while the underlying facts about this claim are somewhat true, the implications about Hasan that people make from them are deliberately misleading. Next claim. Hasan threatened to kill a US senator. You may remember from earlier that one of Nux Taku's tweets actually alleges that Hasan has threatened to kill 2 US senators. So no, this isn't about Rick Scott, this is about Tom Cotton, senator from Arkansas, who in 2024 posted a tweet encouraging people stuck behind pro-Palestinian protesters to take matters into your own hands. He then went on Fox News and suggested that in Arkansas, protesters would be thrown off of bridges.
If something like this happened in Arkansas on a bridge there, let's just say I think there'd be a lot of very wet criminals that have been tossed overboard, not by law enforcement, but by the people whose road they're blocking.
Hasan, in response, quote tweeted Cotton with a diagram of the homemade shotgun used in the assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So is this a threat? Technically, yes, in the same way that Hasan technically threatened that chatter that was calling for his hanging. But to be clear, an elected official was calling for violence against the American public, and I'm supposed to object to somebody using a meme to threaten him back? Look, maybe this is just me, but if our elected leaders start threatening us with violence, frankly, I'd kind of hope that someone would threaten them back. So you can say Hasan's response here was irresponsible or stupid if you want, but to say Hasan threatened to kill a US senator while ignoring that it was a response to a call to violence is, at best, seriously misleading. Next, Hasan said that Hila Klein was a valid military target. This one got picked up everywhere. Ethan and Hila started claiming that Hasan was calling for violence against her, and Asmongold was similarly flabbergasted.
If somebody attacks Hila Klein, they're gonna go to jail. Why is he telling people this? Why would he be what is wrong with you? He's making a direct call for violence. That's insane. Oh my God.
But here's what Hasan actually said.
Like any kind of violence that Israeli settlers or the Israeli military experiences in the West Bank is literally legal. It is legal resistance against an occupying military force. I cannot repeat this enough. Every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids. The violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal.
So clearly Hasan is discussing international law as it relates to resistance against military forces in illegally occupied territory. He says that violent actions against settlers who are conducting military operations in these territories is completely fine, and included your favorite podcaster's wife probably as a jab at Hila to be a little bit of a shithead. But for context, many people often dismiss Hila's role in the IDF as being just that of a secretary, despite her at one point volunteering to participate in a highly questionable night raid into Ramallah.
You told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
Yeah, they took me with them one night, even though they weren't supposed to. I just wanted to see what it's like.
So Hasan was quite obviously not saying that somebody should attack Hila Klein. He said that people engaged in military operations in illegally occupied territory are, under international law, valid targets, like Hila would have been while she was doing that. So whether Hasan is correct or not, the way the Kleins presented his statements here, and the way many people subsequently reported on them, is completely wrong. Alright, next. Hasan called babies valid targets. So this one stems from the final episode of The Leftovers on October 12th of 2023, where Hasan and Ethan are discussing comments made by another creator who argued that all Israelis are occupiers, not civilians. Here's the clip that got circulated around.
Palestinians have the legal ground to violently seize back their own homes from these settlers. This is a reality. And that is precisely the reason why they have to exist under endless occupation in the West Bank.
You know what? And that's why I say, if it was settlers, that would be a lot more understandable. Yeah. But let's not obfuscate, okay? I understand what you're saying. But this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand. And there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
This very truncated clip got picked up everywhere. Stitch and Adam, for instance, cut a video titled, "Hasan claims babies are the same as soldiers." As a result, to this day, many believe that Hasan was implying that babies are valid military targets. But the clip conveniently leaves out what happened just minutes earlier. Hasan and Ethan are discussing JT Chapman's statements about there not being any civilians in Israel proper, as he considers it occupied territory.
If Germany invaded the United States and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and you know everyone knows that's blatantly false, but they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. There are no civilians there.
Hasan and Ethan both go on to disagree with these statements.
I do not agree with that because I don't think that is a reasonable solution.
Do you think what he said is evil?
I think it is, one, unproductive, and two, it does not meet the realities on the ground, and it's not a viable solution.
And after a bit more discussion, Ethan asked Hasan directly about babies being combatants, which Hasan, in no unclear terms, rejects.
So calling, just to be clear, calling babies...
No, of course not.
Settlers.
Of course.
And they're not even living...
They're not.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
they're babies. You can't say this in 2023. I agree.
Thank you for agreeing.
So Hasan using the term baby settlers was just him clarifying what someone else was saying. And as for valid targets, this is another example of Hasan getting clipped dishonestly, when he explicitly said the opposite of what people are claiming he said. This one is also a lie. Moving on. Hasan would put capitalists in re-education camps. This one also comes from the leftovers, where Hasan and Ethan are having a hypothetical conversation about what implementing socialism would look like, specifically how you handle people that don't want it.
What do you do if they're like, nah, fuck that, we're doing capitalism?
Hasan's position is pretty straightforward. He doesn't think this would ever happen in an ideal society, obviously because it's ideal. So to him, it's kind of an inherently weird question.
If everything is given to you, if every single thing is given to you, if all of your problems are solved, then there is no need for conflict of that regard.
But he goes on to say that re-education could be a potential solution specifically for those that commit violent terrorism in the name of capitalism.
The solution to that would always be education.
Re-education?
Re-education, certainly, yeah.
Funnily enough, Ethan is the one that keeps introducing camps into this conversation, and Hasan has to keep saying no to it.
I know that that's like a
Let's
trigger
put them in
word.
camps.
No, not like that.
Well, China does that.
Are you talking about like resident schools? Are you talking about the
China has
Xinjiang? Yeah,
re-education
100%. They do. They do it. They did it in Xinjiang, which I
isn't
think
good,
was
right?
No, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it was good. This is something I have openly criticized as well.
So what would be good about a socialist re-education camp for capitalists?
I don't think it'd be camps. I mean, it depends on it depends on crimes, right? Are people committing crimes at the behest of this?
So Hasan explicitly rejects camps, rejects the Chinese model, and is literally just describing criminal rehabilitation. For some reason, people just restate Hasan's words and frequently cite him as wanting to put any and all capitalists in re-education camps. But that's literally not what he said. This one is also bullshit. The next claim is basically just something about Hasan encouraging violence. This one's a bit nebulous because it's not really any specific incident, it's more of a general vibe that people have that he just kind of broadly encourages violence.
Videos of Hasan's violent rhetoric.
He is the one encouraging violence on a regular basis.
It's so obviously a call to violence.
I am so tired of this man and his violent rhetoric.
And look, Hasan absolutely uses incendiary language. He said things like this.
You need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them and fucking dice them. What the fuck is this?
Which I'm sorry, but that's just funny. But it's also just metaphorical. He's talking about political debates. He's saying Democrats need to be more aggressive and cutthroat in debates. It's not an actual call to violence, it's just being expressive and provocative. What you won't find if you actually watch Hasan's content is any encouraging or advocating for direct violence.
I don't think violence against civilians is justified.
I would never advocate for violence against a political enemy.
Any kind of violence against civilians is completely unjustifiable.
The bad faith version of this stuff was on full display after Charlie Kirk's assassination, when certain people, like Tectone, used these obviously figurative expressions as evidence that Hasan openly calls for violence. And this happened again after the recent assassination attempt on President Trump, when people like Short-Fat Taku seemingly reflexively start blaming Hasan. But there is absolutely no evidence for this. In fact, that shooter seems to have been pretty openly oppositional to Hasan on social media. There's also no real evidence of Charlie Kirk's assassin being a Hasan fan either. So this idea that Hasan encourages any actual violence is very dumb, and the instances people point to as evidence for it are often entirely made up. So it'd be more honest if this critique was just that it's irresponsible for Hasan to speak the way that he sometimes does. But at that point, I just think you're kind of being a baby. Alright, next. Hasan shocked his dog. The story doesn't need much introduction. Hasan's dog, Kaya, appeared to yelp on stream when he reached for something on his desk, and the internet exploded with speculation that he used a shock collar on her. This prompted one of the most frenzied online news cycles ever about Hasan, where for weeks, #Collargate was all anybody talked about. Hasan denied using the collar. People analyzed every frame of the incident, and it still gets brought up to this day. Now, I will say, as far as whether Hasan shocked Kaya or not, based on all the available evidence, it's probably true. But here's the thing. Kaya is obviously a well-cared-for animal. She goes on multiple walks a day, she has regular playtime with other dogs, and everyone attests to how loved and spoiled she is.
I have the best dog. It's crazy. Like, if there was a dog Olympics, like, she literally clears it. She is the #1.
And shock collars, while not my preference, are a legal and still somewhat widely used training tool. This is basically the dog equivalent of spanking a child. You can disagree with it, and I do also, but the idea that this represents some pattern of abuse is pretty silly. And if Hasan does use a shock collar and then lied about it, I kinda get why, considering this situation led to some people filing reports to have Kaya taken away. Does anybody really think it would be better for Kaya to be entered into the foster system rather than staying in the LA mansion where she seems to live a largely spoiled and happy life? Look, if you want to criticize him for using a shock collar, that's totally fine. That is a legitimate concern. But this story quickly stopped being about Kaya and turned into yet another desperate scramble for a smoking gun to use against Hasan.
Do I personally care about Kaya? I could give a fuck about Kaya. That said, yeah, it's fair to push this because it hurts Hasan, and Hasan is a bad person.
Spending a month covering it, filing animal welfare reports, and demanding Twitch ban him over this. These just aren't really proportionate responses to what he actually did. So I don't know, man, this obviously isn't ideal, but to me, even as someone who doesn't eat meat and also likes dogs, it's just not that serious. Chill the fuck out. Next, Hasan supports terrorism. Even just engaging with this claim makes me feel like I'm losing on principle. And just to be clear, I don't really think that anything I'm about to say is particularly insightful. But what does supports terrorism even mean? Because if it means speaks positively of organizations that have been designated as terrorist groups by the US Department of State, then yeah, sure, he does do that. But when most people, especially apolitical commentators, say this about Hasan, that's not really what they're saying. They're using it as this severe moral condemnation, as though it's just self-evidently true that supporting any terrorist group is morally horrible. End of conversation. But if your definition of a terrorist is just whoever the government says is one, then surely you think anybody who supported the American Revolution or Nelson Mandela is a bad guy. That doesn't sound right. So if that's not your definition, and it's something more like someone who carries out political violence against civilians, then unfortunately groups like the IDF are also terrorists, and people who call their pilots heroes are supporting terror. I think there are basically two types of people who make this criticism. The first one, which is probably the vast majority, is somebody who just hasn't thought very hard about what terrorist actually means, or how the list of them is historically just determined by the interests of those in power as much as anything else. But the other much smaller percentage of people that make this criticism are probably just saying that he's supporting groups that they don't personally agree with supporting. But this sounds like way less of a moral condemnation, and more like you just disagree. Like, are you saying your big moral issue with Hasan is that he supports the rebel group in Yemen instead of the Western-backed government, who by the way have likely killed far more civilians than the Houthis have? Norway is an example of a country that does have a list of designated terrorist groups, a list that notably does not include the Houthis. So if Hasan moved to Norway, would he then be all good to go on saying positive things about them? And furthermore, somebody supporting the cause of a group like the Houthis doesn't mean that they support all of their tactics.
Any kind of violence against civilians is completely unjustifiable.
Speaking positively of a group is not the same as endorsing every action they've ever taken, and collapsing that distinction is how you wind up with a completely useless definition of support. Now, there is obviously some utility to the word terrorism in humanitarian and international law, but that's just not really what's typically being discussed when most people say this stuff about Hasan. Most of them are just saying, he supports terrorism, and terrorism is bad, which is not really an argument. I have a lot more to say about this topic, but I'll keep it short and say that you're kind of telling on yourself if your big criticism of Hasan is that he, quote, supports terrorism. Because while he does express views that a lot of people find uncomfortable, his position on this is actually closer to that of a significant portion of international legal scholars, human rights organizations, and frankly a lot of the world outside of the West. I mean, hell, George Lucas made billions of dollars off of terrorism. So to be honest, I can't even really evaluate the truth of this claim, because it's kind of a nonsensical, thought-terminating criticism, and I don't even really know what the fuck people are actually saying when they make it. And speaking of terrorism, Hasan interviewed a terrorist. Let's keep this brief. Hasan interviewed Rashid al-Haddad in early 2024. He's a Yemeni influencer and self-described media personality and photographer. Hasan was under the impression before the interview that Rashid was affiliated with the Houthis, probably because of the nickname that people gave him on social media, but he quickly corrected himself when he realized that he wasn't. There is no evidence that Rashid participated in seizing any ships or has any formal Houthi association. People use really dumb pieces of evidence to say, oh no, he is a Houthi, like this Instagram comment, where he just says he is a soldier, which could mean almost anything. Or the photos that he took on this captured vessel, which was open to the public for photos. But ultimately, it wouldn't really matter if he was a Houthi. Hasan should be allowed to interview terrorists on stream. There's just no evidence that this guy is one. Rashid is currently suing Ethan Klein for repeatedly calling him a terrorist. So based on the evidence that we have, this one's also kind of bullshit. And finally, Hasan is anti-Semitic. This claim could be its own video, and this one's long enough as it is, so I'll keep this brief too. The evidence that people cite for Hasan being anti-Semitic is either extremely amorphous and vague, or simply not good evidence at all. There's him calling a chatter pig dog,
You fucking bloodthirsty, violent pig dog. Suck my dick.
which people claimed was an anti-Semitic slur, even though it doesn't appear in common anti-Semitism glossaries, and Hasan primarily uses it to describe capitalists and imperialists.
You imperialist, capitalist pig dog, you fucking violent murderer of the third world.
There's him calling Orthodox Jewish settlers inbred, which was clearly just supposed to be an insult directed at people who subscribe to a racist ideology, not Jewish people as a group.
You know, the broad majority of the ultra-Orthodox are also unimaginably racist and very much pro-Israel. I can't wait for these inbred motherfuckers to have to serve and see what happens to the IDF.
And beyond that, most of the rest of it are just these nebulous, broader claims about his positions on Israel and how they point to an underlying bigotry. But almost every single example that people use for this often could be better explained by him simply being anti-Zionist. For instance, people often point to things like Hasan saying that rapes having happened on October 7th wouldn't change his perspective as evidence of anti-Semitism. But that's not anti-Semitic. It's actually a pretty consistent application of Hasan's anti-imperialist framework. And if there's a perceived double standard in how aggressively he talks about Israel versus other actors, it could very easily be explained by his own family background in the Middle East, or the region's history, rather than automatically assuming it's just secret racial animus towards Jews. He isn't uniquely fixated on Jewish institutions. He applies this same lens to American imperialism, Saudi Arabia, capitalism, and plenty of other power structures. I think in 2026, if you look for anti-Semitism hard enough, you'll kind of see what you want to see. But the idea that this progressive, leftist, anti-class, equality-minded type of audience are actually secretly racist towards this one group of people, it's a pretty big stretch when these people are consistently anti-racist on every other axis. Now, the more sophisticated version of this argument is that even if Hasan never says anything explicitly anti-Semitic, his rhetoric still functions to foster hostility towards Jewish people, even if that isn't his intent. This is basically the functional racism version of the argument. It's the same thing as saying voter ID laws are racist. It's not because the people writing them necessarily want to disenfranchise black people, but because they do disproportionately cause that to happen. But for one, that argument requires you to subscribe to a view of racism that isn't really speaking to the character or intent of the individual, which kind of makes it have less bite. And two, that's if you subscribe to that framework, which I personally don't. So in my opinion, calling Hasan anti-Semitic isn't even misleading, it's just not substantiated. There are obviously a lot more claims we could go through, but the pattern is pretty clear. The lies about Hasan Piker that come from this side of the internet are pervasive, they're widespread, and an embarrassing number of them fall apart under even mild scrutiny. This video was focused on the drama and commentary side of this dynamic, Ethan Klein, the people around him, and what they've done to the content creation ecosystem over the last couple of years. But truthfully, this is only half of the story. Hasan also gets a hysterical level of hate from the more genuinely politically oriented crowd too, and that stuff could probably be its own video. But at some point, the commentary slop guys started getting courted by the politics sphere to the Hasan Bad cause anyway. And then when you have creators like Hutch, who covered Collargate for a month straight, and whose channel often looks almost indistinguishable from Nux Taku's, it's just at a certain point, these two groups kind of start to morph together into this big, neurotic mess, and it just gets a little hard to keep taking them as seriously. Now, there are decent criticisms of Hasan. For example, in his interview with Rashid, he laughs along at the idea of Houthi pirates dancing and having fun with their captives, which could be Hasan basically sanitizing a Stockholm Syndrome type of situation. If you're gonna have this type of interview, you probably need to come in more prepared to handle those moments responsibly. He's also an extremely sloppy communicator, and at a certain point, if you're getting clipped dishonestly this much, you gotta be doing something wrong somewhere. And there are plenty of these. You know, he does tend to moderate his views in contentious conversations. He does have some questionable opinions on oppressive governments. One of my big ones is that he has on occasion spread misinformation that I think he should retract or correct. There are fair critiques to make. But we sort of left the realm of reasonable, honest perception of Hasan a long time ago, and we're now in the land of Hasan is literally like Hitler. And this Hasan Bad virus has gone mainstream. Every week it seems like there's a new article from a big publication trying to convince people how terrible Hasan is, often citing these out-of-context clips or quotes that came from our side of the internet. Dan Selman is even writing news articles now, pretending to give some thoughts on a Senate race in Michigan. But in reality, it's just about Hasan. It's always just about Hasan. This is like kind of insane. Whatever you can honestly say about Hasan Piker, he isn't fucking dangerous. He doesn't deserve to be deplatformed. He's just a goofy Turkish dude saying crazy political shit from his gaming room.
If I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
Yeah, I can't wear my skirt in
Tehran, I can't eat Kubi Day. Whoopee, don't you understand? I can't wear bikini to the beach. So obviously, they all need to die. We need to kill them.
So whether you're one of these Team Liberals people blaming Hasan for all their self-inflicted problems, or you're a slop commentary YouTuber who won't know what to do if you have to cover anything else, please, by all means, hate Hasan, but just be fucking honest about it. This whole Hasan derangement thing, especially recently, has gotten completely out of control. Because here's what's kind of telling. Hasan, despite the smear campaigns, despite people trying to take his dog, despite being called a terrorist and an anti-Semite and a rapist, he's never sued anybody. He's never tried to get anyone deplatformed or gone after entire websites. It turns out, Hasan, not bad. Hasan, pretty good actually. Ethan Klein, on the other hand, just recently filed a lawsuit against Noah Samson for the opinion that Ethan was, through his content choices, running defense for a genocide. That's Noah's belief. Ethan wants to control whether Noah is allowed to express it. And every creator who's been profiting off of Hasan Bad while also cheering on Ethan's anti-free speech behavior should ironically probably be thanking Hasan for not holding them to the same standard that they're celebrating. You know, for not being like Ethan. The thing about people like Ethan, who try to convince people that they're wrong for expressing their opinion, for criticizing them, or even just for hating them, they are the ones with the problem. They're the ones who can't help themselves from going out of their way to read every word that people write about them. They're insecure, irrational thinkers who desperately want to control how people perceive them, and it drives them crazy that they can't. So whether it's WillyMac, or iDubbbz, or me, or anybody else in this video, talk your shit about them. You shouldn't let somebody like Tectone convince you that you're the wrong one for believing that he's a sexual predator. Don't let DeOrio dissuade you from calling him out for being a giant pathetic loser. Talk your shit and let other people talk their shit to you. Even if you truly hate the guy, you should be a Hasan. Don't be an Ethan. Before we go, there's someone I want to introduce. It's a guy who's one of the great internet philosophers of our time, and he's somebody I think Ethan Klein would have a lot in common with. His name's John Card, and in his video on pirate software, he has something to say that I think applies to Ethan Klein perfectly.
There's some people out there in the world who think it's just inherently wrong or regressive or childish to hate people, or to rail against public figures online or whatever. And those people are wrong. Wrong, and just trying to run cover for all the other people in the world who deserve criticism. When do you find someone who deserves all the hate they're getting, and much, much more? Encourage that hate. Feed it. Remind yourself, and others, that it's perfectly okay, good even, to wish all the worst in the world on this guy and people like him. You shouldn't just merely dislike the man, or simply disagree with his opinions. You should hate him and everything he stands for and represents.